This is the D6 generation with your hosts, Craig Gallant.
Wrong! If you're getting any compensation, it's not charity!
Russ Wakeland. You put me on a boat with frickin' dragons attacking me and whatnot? Now we're talking. And Rafe, Hollywood Granger.
Now that's Jimmy Django right there.
With contributions from Total Fangirl.
Vampires do not sparkle.
And our loyal listeners.
One game is very like another till the D6G reviews it, brother.
Welcome to another edition of Rapid Fire, the roundtable discussion of all things gaming, coming at you with the speed of that fateful projectile ordained before time with your name on it. Ooh. Today's edition is brought to you by Van Gogh Vodka. Van Gogh Vodka, official drink of Adepticon, the best in the flavored vodka industry. Period. I'm Keighley McNettigan, your host today. As always, our panelists are Ross George Orwell Wakeland and Rafe William Godwin Granger. Let's begin. Issue number 1. Michel de Nostradam, later known as Nostradamus, was a French pharmacist and supposed fortune teller who published collections of prophecies that have since become famous worldwide. Most academic sources maintain that the associations made between world events and Nostradamus' quatrains are largely the result of misinterpretations or mistranslations, sometimes deliberate, or else are so tenuous as to render themselves useless as evidence of any genuine predictive power. That doesn't stop millions of college students every year from fearing for their lives because they live in an L-shaped dormitory, however. Question. During what conflict in 1889 was Nostradamus' body moved? Raphael Rafe.
The Spanish-American War.
Saint Remy Russ.
I don't know. I got nothing.
That would be the wrong, and obviously wrong because you got nothing. That would be the French Revolution. French Revolution. And the story that he was dug up during the French Revolution and the man digging up his grave was shot in the head, that is actually erroneous. Issue number 2. Mission Impossible is an American television show from the 60s and 70s about the missions of a team of secret American government agents known as the Impossible Missions Force. A hallmark of the series shows team leader Phelps receiving his instructions on a tape that then self-destructs, and the ever-recognizable theme music. That would be Geekly Nerdigan. Question. A 4th Mission Impossible movie is scheduled to be released in 2011, produced in part by J.J. Abrams' production company. What is the name of this cyber malfeasant company? Artie Warner Wakeland.
Transforming Productions.
Declan Gormley Granger.
Your mission, should you choose to accept it, LLC.
Wrong! Bad Robot. Yay!
Oh, yeah.
Issue number 3. In the real world, asymmetric warfare can describe a conflict in which the resources of two opponents differ in power and in the struggle, interact, and attempt to exploit each other's characteristic weaknesses. Such struggles often involve strategies and tactics of unconventional warfare, the weaker combatants attempting to use strategy to offset deficiencies in quantity or quality. This is in contrast to symmetric warfare, where two powers have similar military power and resources and rely on tactics that are similar overall, differing only in details and execution. Question. What would be a famous local example of asymmetric warfare in the last 300 years? Second Boer Russ.
Oh, Iraq War, maybe?
Second Russo-Persian Rafe.
The Spanish-American War.
Local. I would have accepted any of the American actions against the British in the Revolutionary War, except perhaps the Siege of Boston. Unfortunately, once again, with a question that actually had an answer, I have to say wrong. Issue number 4. Anxiety attacks are bouts of intense fear or apprehension that are of sudden onset and of relatively brief duration. They can be as short as 15 seconds or last as long as sometimes for hours. Many who experience an attack, mostly for the first time, fear they are having a heart attack or a nervous breakdown, much like I am right now. Experiencing a panic attack has been said to be one of the most intensely frightening, upsetting, and uncomfortable experiences of a person's life. Question. What is the most common occurrence in a gamer's life that could bring about an anxiety attack? Martin Roth Rafe.
Knocking over your friend's toolbox filled with his miniatures.
Michael Rudder Ross.
Oh, I was going to say the exact same thing, knocking over someone else's models.
Wrong!
What?
Most common occurrence. It's just before you roll that first die every game. Is this going to be one of those games? You can always tell with that first roll, and the bravest heart quakes at the thought of rolling it. Doesn't it? No.
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 And that's it for now. Thanks for listening, and good night.
This episode of the D6 Generation is brought to you by
Myriad Games, the friendly professional gaming store of the D6 generation.
And by Battle Foam, protecting your army so you don't have to.
and by Lone Wolf Development. Take your game to the next level.
And the War Store, bringing the war to your door since 1999, and that is for a decade or more.
Hello,
Hello.
How you doing, all?
and welcome to episode 72 of
That number I like.
the D6 Generation. I'm Russ Wakeland,
I'm Craig Gallant.
And I'm Rafe Hollywood Granger.
and on today's show, we're talking about what, Granger? What are we talking about today?
Oh, I'm prepared this time. We are going to talk about scenarios and how to generate them.
How to build them. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about what else, Craig?
Also known as missions. We are also going to my favorite. Everybody knows how much I love this segment. We are going to cast our eye into the future
Going to roll the bones.
and throw the bones and see exactly what we think 2011, hate that number, holds in store for us.
We're like the three Stygian witches.
Ooh, nice.
Ooh,
Russ.
nice
Hey,
one. Nice
whoever
one.
you are.
Nice.
Throw me the eye!
Yes, and throughout this episode, we will constantly refer to each other by the wrong name.
We've decided
no.
that. It's a
You will.
theme. No, I just did it.
It's a theme. It's
It's a
yeah,
theme.
It's a theme. Now, a couple ways you can help support the show. What we normally do is we like to have contests to give back to those who give to us.
Right. Yes, that would not be the way to support the show.
No, it would not. I had a bad segue there.
Yes,
If you want to
very
support the
smooth.
show, you can, of course, get a shout-out. How do the shout-outs work, Rafe?
Oh, the shout-outs are nice and simple. You go to ebay.thed6generation.com, and you bid on them, and you win it, and you say, I don't know, like one or two sentences, and you get mentioned in the show.
Nice. That's right. That's right. Check out ebay.thed6generation.com for the latest shout-outs, and they're always up there the weekend after the show goes live.
Yep.
Hey, is there any TempleCon bling for your ka-ching?
Like what? Like a new TempleCon thing?
Oh, like, you know, like any buttons or special shirts or anything?
No,
We don't have the 2011 button yet.
we don't. We got to work on that. We got to talk. to
I
our
just
boys.
wondered. Just wondered.
And also, if
But
you
you can always be sporting your ka-ching bling at TempleCon.
Right.
Gives you props.
Now, another way you can support the show, the brand new way. What's the brand new way, Craig? Brandy new.
The brand new way you can support the show is by wearing a homemade T-shirt that says the D6generation.com and then getting on camera in your local news.
Yeah. That
Ooh, I like
wasn't-
that.
That wasn't really where I was heading, though. But
But I
that's
think
okay.
you could. That would be awesome.
That
if
would
you
be-
did.
that-
Or
that would work.
like
That would
the
be.
morning shows, the national morning shows. That would
Yeah.
be very cool.
Stand behind the Good Morning America thing.
Yeah,
Wave
be that
around.
guy behind
Be
me.
that guy.
Exactly.
You got to get there at like
Exactly.
3 a.m.
Yeah.
Who's that guy with a creepy looking cherub on his shirt? What's he doing in the shot?
Well, no, not even a cherub. It's got to be a white T-shirt with the D6generation.com written on it, and that's it. We don't want to mix up our message.
All right, should we offer a prize to that guy? If someone pulls
Yeah.
this off, what do we send them?
Yes.
Seriously, I'm not even making this up.
What
you've
should
got
we
the
not?
prize
What should we
guest.
not send them?
Right. If you can get on a nationally syndicated, you can get on a national show wearing a shirt
National morning show.
that says the D6generation.com on it,
Yeah.
somehow we will send you
It's
your
gotta be
choice.
big. It's got to be prominent on the T-shirt.
Your choice from the prize tub.
Or, we could be getting in trouble. I mean, that guy was giving away like $1 million to do it, and they like assaulted some foreign
Yeah.
dignitary.
Yeah. No assaulting
mean-
people.
Why?
No
Why
assaulting.
would we be getting in trouble if he's just standing outside the?
Yeah.
the
That's
thing
what.
that-
Well, I think we should. I think we should mention that that's what we're talking about.
yeah. You got to do. You got to
don't
do
jump
legal.
onto the
Whatever you do
football
has
field.
to be legal.
Legal? Right.
Don't
Legal.
jump onto the football field in the middle
No.
of.
Don't tackle people.
Rafe,
Right.
you ever let me finish forever? You never.
No.
Is that going to be? That's what tonight's going to be all about.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, okay.
So as I
Thanks.
was saying,
Go get a drink.
all right, finish up. I got something to say.
I'm just sitting here. I don't even know what's happening to people.
I want to give out a prize. I meant to put this earlier in the show or later in the show.
How could it be
depending
any
on
earlier than this?
when it drops? I think the person who gets the first D6G cherub as a tattoo gets their prize. Gets a prize.
All right. So you're saying you're offering a prize for the tattoo.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And Craig is saying he's offering a prize for someone who gets on a national
Did I miss
morning
anything?
show.
Legally.
Legally, okay.
What's going on? I went and got a drink. Did I miss anything?
It's all good, man.
Today, the part of Rafe is being played by Craig.
We gave away your Death Watch book as a prize. Don't worry about it.
Oh, you can have it when you pry it from my cold, dead fingers.
All right. We should probably move along, gentlemen. No, what I was referring to is a new way to support the show, in addition to the donate button, which is very simple to use. You can also check out our new D6G The Lost Chapters.
Oh, yes. That's what you meant.
Right. How do those work, Craig?
I have no idea. I think they're really cool, but I have no idea.
So what we've done is we've decided to record extra content for you guys.
Yep.
It's going to be about 30 minutes to an hour, probably. Sometime. We're never going to know
Knowing us,
exactly.
there'll be an hour.
Right. Who knows?
Well, we can't promise that.
And we are going to.
It's a half hour.
Right. The goal's a half hour, but they'll probably
half hour,
be an hour. I know the first one already is an hour.
Yep.
And not going to take away anything from the main show. The main show is still totally free. These Lost Chapters are just 99 cents each, and it's a way you can support the show, and we give you a little extra content for helping us out. That's the thing. And
we're not going to talk about the stuff that we do in the Lost Chapters in the show and make you feel like you're left out because you didn't pay the 99 cents.
It's just something else you can enjoy.
Not what it's about.
If you like what we do and support that, we'll do more stuff. If you don't like it, ignore it, and that's it.
The second Lost Chapter is going to be Rafe and I Jello wrestling right after we finish recording
We said we weren't going to talk about what's on those shows.
But it's going to be audio of us Jello wrestling.
Right, just audio.
Yeah, not video.
Right. That was a preview.
That was it. Okay. So
yeah, I'm excited for those, man.
We have, and so those are the new contests we have this week. Get a tattoo or appear on a morning television show.
What tattoo? What?
That was the one you missed when you were getting a beverage.
What?
Either of those things.
You're going to bribe people to permanently deface their bodies?
Them.
No, he's not bribing. He's rewarding them for this kind of dedication. That's what he's doing.
The first person that gets a D6G cherub tattoo gets a prize.
Oh, okay.
Right. So what we're saying basically is the next official contest will probably be episode 73. That's what we're saying. but
this is sanctioned.
But Rafe will definitely send you something if either.
And it has to be legal. So don't be 16-year-old and getting a tattoo.
Right.
That's not how we roll.
Your country or state laws may vary, but do whatever's legal locally to you. All righty. So I think that's everything we can do before we get into. Are you guys ready?
Yes.
Ready.
Achievements in gaming. All right.
Can't wait to hear that.
Achievements in Gaming is brought to you by LostInGaming.net. Check out www.lostingaming.net, a Warhammer and War Machine blog by RT Gamer. Let me know what you think. So what games have you been playing this time since last episode, Craig?
Oh, well, I did running the whole the whole Dystopian Wars XCAM recon mission playtesting bonanza.
Yes.
I was watching lots of games. I was military advisoring lots of games, and I did get to play one game myself using the ambush scenario.
Oh, we just have to pause here and say that those well, I guess this is in modeling, but those islands you had set up were awesome.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, that's right. He didn't get to see those last week.
And we put pictures up on Facebook and on Twitter for those, so check that out at facebook.com.
They're very nice. They're the Amera Islands that were actually, I'm pretty sure, licensed from Spartan Games. They're sort of the official. I don't know what that relationship is like now, but when they first came out, they were being billed as the official Uncharted Seas Islands, and they look beautiful.
They do a little bit of work. They look very nice.
Yes, yeah. You do, and I'm not really thrilled about the harbor. The one of the islands has a beautiful. The plan of it is beautiful. It's a harbor that kind of inserts right into the island, so it can be a normal island without a harbor, but then you can put the harbor in there, and it's got harbor walls and docks and things like that. But it's such an inferior or thinner plastic compared to all the other islands that it curled up right now. So I'm going to either have to mount it on something or I'm going to have to build my own insert. But the islands themselves, I think, with a little bit of sanding, a little bit of painting, a little bit of wash, look really, really nice.
Yeah, achievement for those. They look awesome.
Why, thank you.
They were
So
adequate.
anyway, Ambush.
Yeah.
What's that?
Ambush is it's an asymmetrical mission.
Ooh, more about that later.
The attacker has 75% of the points of the defender. So the defender, in this instance, Brian, set up 400 points of ships and aerial assets in the middle of the board. And then I, as the attacker, had 300 points. And the goal is, because you get points in the XCAM just for winning. So the goal is, this is not one where you're going to try to go in there and destroy everything. You're going to try to go in there, earn just enough victory points so you're winning, and then buzz off the board again very quickly.
Right.
It's one of those. It does not reward the Pringles mentality. That whole, ooh, I killed one. I can't have just one. I want to go after another one.
Right.
Otherwise known as playing Civ 5 too, right, Russ?
Yeah, just one more turn.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's what happened to me. I went in there. I totally destroyed a bomber. It was a beautiful thing. I damaged a cruiser. The cruiser was down to 2 hull points, so I had half points on that. And I just stuck around too long and eventually lost every model in my army.
Wow.
In my fleet. It was brutal.
Yeah.
And the same exact thing happened to Jeremy in the exact same mission.
So you fell prey to the Pringles.
The mission should probably be changed from ambush to harassment raid or something like that. Because it really isn't all I kept saying through the whole thing was, wow, this is the poorest planned ambush in military history.
Yeah, there you have it.
Well, I have to say, Craig, when I saw the first game of Dystopian Wars between you and Matt, I liked it so much, as you know, that I immediately that night emailed Don, who you know is my player for Flames of War. Yep. And I thought, you don't really see Don walking in with too many other armies these days. So,
no, you do not.
But I thought he would really like it. Well, he just emailed me after watching the XCAM last Tuesday, and as I suspected, he really, really liked it. And I think he bought a fleet.
He did. He bought the British fleet.
Achievement for recruiting there, Granger. Nice job.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep.
Yep.
And so that was awesome. And then
what's this last bullet?
Scrabble.
Yeah.
The game Scrabble.
What the heck is that?
Yeah, what do you mean by Scrabble? Are you playing Scrabble again?
Karen and I, yesterday was a big snow day. We got 2 feet of snow up here.
Yeah, right.
Uh-huh.
And school was canceled, and her restaurant was opened with a short staff, so she didn't have to go.
Yep.
And so she wanted to play Scrabble, which she loves, and I absolutely detest. But
I hate Scrabble. Being
the husband that I am, I played Scrabble, and her whole family is religious about Scrabble. It's insane.
Yeah.
And I really don't like Scrabble. But anyway, I would have won, except that whole you get 50 points for using all your letters in one word thing.
Yeah.
Which from a game mechanic perspective bothers me, because I'm like, you're already getting all the points for all those letters, and half of that is pure luck just getting the letters. So it's kind of like rewarding you for that luck. So without that 50 points, I beat her. But with that 50 points, she scraped by. And
you might want to consider checking out the game Word on the Street.
Yeah, no, this is you're like not. You're looking at it as a gamer. You're not looking at it as a normal, quote unquote, normal person who grew up playing a specific game.
No, I'm just saying it's a word building game, but it's different. It might reinvigorate your desire to play these kind of games with her. So,
I like Russ's suggestions. Why are you shooting it down?
Yeah, why you got to be like that?
The point isn't that we're looking for good word building games.
Uh-huh.
The point is that she grew up playing Scrabble. Her whole family loves Scrabble.
Okay, but you don't like Scrabble.
Right.
So find a medium. Find a happy medium.
And your friend Russ was offering you suggestions. You just shoot it down.
Rafe, do I have to try to reach through this microphone, break the laws of physics, and grab you around the throat?
Just pointing it out, my friend.
Is that what I have to do
He's aggressive
next?
tonight, Granger. What's going on with him?
I don't know. Wait till you hear his predictions, too.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah.
I'm dark. I'm dark tonight, folks. Don't mess with me.
He's the dark, the dark Nostradamus.
I'm not a fan of Scrabble either.
Yeah. I used to like it a lot, but I've discovered
and we're
I suck
English
at it.
majors.
Right, yeah. I got to say.
Turns out you have to spell to play Scrabble, which is really frustrating for me.
Right, that would be bad for you. Turns out having a really big vocabulary, not that great for Scrabble.
Right.
So here I am trying to make really cool words, and Karen's winning with like wow and zip and
No, you gotta know all the obscure 3-letter words.
Exactly.
Right.
And the placement on the board, and you got to be like, you got to use every time I put an S down, doesn't matter what I'm doing with it, she cringes.
You have to know all the obscure.
Like, oh, Craig, I don't think this game's going to count now because you used an S in such a bad way.
What about Small World? Couldn't crack that out.
This was all her, man.
No, but I remember her being a huge fan of Small World.
Exactly. But sometimes the girl wants to play Scrabble.
Yeah, all right.
She wanted to play Scrabble.
He's being a good husband. That's good.
I hear what you're putting out.
I'm being a caboose. Being a caboose, man.
Nice.
And now I am a dark caboose. So do not mess.
That sounds like a Stephen King novel, The Dark Caboose.
Or
The
it
Black
sounds
Caboose.
like a TV show that would be way better than The Cape.
Possibly. But more on that later. So
All right, I want to hear about this Merchant and Marauders, because all I know was when I walked in the door, about 12 people at Myriad told me, "Oh, you got to get that. You got to get that's your game, Rafe." So what is it?
Well, okay. So I picked up achievement for picking up Merchants and Marauders, the new game from Z-Man Games.
Uh-huh.
And it's the theme of this game is the Caribbean, Age of Sail, and you're playing vessels, and you can either play as a sort of a merchant, trying to make money that way while avoiding pirates, or you can turn to a life of crime and high seas piracy, or
far on board,
or walk somewhere in the middle.
What makes it fun?
Well, it's a great looking. First of all, it's great components. The board is really, really nice.
Beautiful game.
Comes with tons of really cool little plastic ships. In fact,
that's cool.
The ship you own progresses, right? So it comes with all the bits for your color to go from like a little tiny sloop all the way to a galleon.
Okay, now that's cool.
Yeah, and then as you do things, what I think about it is an interesting hybrid between sort of a very meaty, strategy game, but also sort of a storytelling game like Tales of Arabian Nights, because there's all these cool events that can happen. Like we play with Michelle, a 4-player game with Michelle, and she was playing along, and there's these little missions you can try to do, and she was trying to be very good, but she just the money was too tempting to try the smuggling mission. So she smuggled goods into this port, but she failed her role to successfully deliver the smuggled goods without getting caught. And as soon as she was caught, a bounty went on her head. And as soon as the bounty from Spain went on her head, she couldn't dock at any Spanish ports, and any legal naval vessel would attempt to take her. So now she's got to turn to a life of crime basically to survive. But eventually she found a way to get pardoned, but she had to hide out for a while. It was really cool. So
is this really resource gathering or dice rolling or card playing or?
Well, it's really your. What's interesting is all the good. It's sort of a hybrid game between a merchant game where you're literally seeing all the islands of the Caribbean and all the different tiles are up showing you which goods are in demand, and so you
pick
go
up and deliver.
So you go to port and find the right cards and deliver them for maximum money and try to get glory that way as being a good merchant.
I like that. I love pick up and deliver games.
There's also the meat of there's all these little cubes on you have a card in front of you that shows the stats of your ship, and there's little dots for all the different points. Like there's a certain number of sail points on your ship, or mass points, certain number of hull points, certain number of cannon points and boarding party points. I'm in. And it's combat. It's really cool. And here's what's interesting about it. I played 2 games. I played once with Nicole, just Nicole and I, 2-player. She really liked it, and it's a very kind of a heavy game for someone like her, and she really liked it. Then I played with 4 players at Myriad, and again, everybody at the table really enjoyed it. So it's a really fun game. I like it a lot.
You just call your wife dumb?
No. When did I say that?
You said it was a really heavy game for someone like her.
Well, she doesn't like heavy games normally. That's all.
Okay.
Not everybody likes heavy games.
I'd buy her flowers after she
can totally handle any game I can throw at her. She doesn't like some of those games. She doesn't like games that take forever. What's nice about this game is they estimated about as 45 minutes a player. And this is what she also doesn't like. She doesn't like games that take you forever to learn, like have to read through 30 pages of rulebook. It's not a very complicated game. It feels like it's complicated. The rulebook looks complicated, and the quick reference card is huge, so it looks complicated, but it really isn't. There's very little you can do per turn, and except for going through the cargo cards, it's not a lot of analysis process. It's really interesting. I really like it. It's one of my I'd say it's one of my favorite Z-Man games at the moment. I want to play it some more to really get a good feel on it, but I'd love to get you guys to try it out so maybe we can do it on the show. It's a really neat game.
Oh, cool.
And it's my favorite theme, pirates. So I kind of was.
Yeah. Well, and you get to steal stuff and stuff like that.
Well, that's the thing. You can either choose, but Life of Piracy is not easy. It's very challenging.
Life of Piracy.
It's not. That's the biggest thing I've learned from the game so far. It's tough to be a pirate.
Yeah. You know what I heard? Remember your belief that pirates may be passe? I hear cowboys may be in though.
Who thinks pirates are? What are you talking about?
I don't know.
What do you put words about pirates are passe? When did I say pirates are? Pirates are awesome.
Somewhere.
They're much better than ninjas.
I think I heard that.
Anyway.
What's this amazing labyrinth?
Well, I should just say before we go there, I did play Dystopian Wars a few times.
Oh, you did too? I wondered.
Yeah, I played a 4-player game, a recon mission where you had to get to the middle and sort of do some recon on this little base thing. That was pretty cool. We had a good time with it. So it's a great game.
Did you play Tuesday? Because you weren't there Tuesday.
No, I was there Tuesday, and it's definitely picking up pace.
How'd the table layout look?
Awesome. They had
good.
There were Craig, 5 games of Dystopian Wars going on at one point.
Craig disappeared.
There were a lot of games going on.
Craig's gone.
He's gone.
I booed him off stage.
He'll be back at some point.
Yeah, he had to go get a drink or something. His throat was bothering him.
So here's a really cool thing. So on Sunday, I had a cool dad moment, right?
Uh-oh.
So my youngest daughter, Kit, said to Mom, when Rose was when I was a little younger and I was in kindergarten and I got a half day, you'd take me out and stuff by myself with you, and I don't get that anymore now I'm in first grade. So she laid this on thick to get some private mommy time. So Kit and my wife went out and did their little special mommy and Kit time. That left Rose and I together, and I said, Rose, what would you like to do today? And she stole my heart by saying, you know what I want to do, Dad? I want to go to Myriad Games and play games with you.
Wow.
I was like, when? I have the coolest daughter ever. So Rose and I zipped up to Myriad Games, and she really wanted to play Forbidden Island. We played it once before at Myriad for the Game Share program. So we went back in the back room. It was great. There was actually nobody there at the point on Sunday afternoon, so we just sat in the nice back room there. Huge wall of games, and it was like, let's try Forbidden Island. So we played Forbidden Island, had a great time with that. And then she said, let's play. We looked at the board. She wanted to try this amazing Labyrinth game. Now, this game has been around a while, and it's a game where you lay the board out, and it looks like a dungeon maze sort of thing, but it's very cartoony, right? And it comes with all these tiles that are the components for the maze. So you lay all the tiles out, and it forms this sort of maze thing. But there's always one extra tile. And in your turn, the first thing you do is push the tile in from one of the sides of the board, which slides the maze along and drops another tile off the other side and reconfigures the maze in some way. So what you're doing, and you're all playing wizards, so the idea is you're all wizards that have the ability to kind of reconfigure the maze, kind of like Hogwarts, making the stairs move around.
That's cool.
So you have these little cards that tell you what you're trying to get to. So in the maze, there's all these little objects, like a crown or a princess or a unicorn, and you're trying to get to these items, and you can move your wizard as far as you want as long as he's got a continuous path in the maze. But as the walls slide around, paths get blocked and you can't go a certain way. So you're trying to slide the pieces in. So it's a great game if you've got kids who like to work mazes, like a maze on
those little slide box things,
or even just a regular maze on paper, like a maze book or If your kids like maze, they will like this game. And it was funny because she even thought you actually spend a lot of time thinking, and she was saying, "But Dad, this is an interesting game. But you really have to think a lot because you're looking at it going, how do I make the path work for me but block the other player?" And it's a really interesting little game.
Well, I've learned my lesson. I'm definitely going to game share it. Before I think my family's going to like it.
Yeah, bring Lou down.
So is it a children's game?
It can be played with adults, but it's clearly targeting younger players.
Gotcha.
I think adults would like it, but it could get kind of brutal the way you slide it around. But and then Rose said she wanted to try this make and break game, which is this. There are variants on this, but it's basically a box full of blocks, so different colored wooden blocks. And you have a deck of cards, and there's a timer. The coolest piece of the game is this fancy timer, which I think is why she wanted to play it. So you crank the timer. You roll a die, and the die tells you what to set the timer to, either 1, 2, or 3, which the longer is better. And then the other player pushes the go button on the timer, and then the player being timed pulls a card over, and it shows a certain structure to build with the blocks. And sometimes the structure is gray, meaning you can use any color blocks you want. But sometimes the structure is colored blocks. You have to match the colored blocks as well as make the structure. And you have to do it as fast as you can in the time provided, and you get points for every card you complete. And she liked that one, too. So I was very happy to see. And it was great. It just really speaks to the power of games because, she could have said anything I had to play with her. She could have said, let's play on the Xbox. She could have said, it was my day with her, and she could do what she wants. And she wanted to go play these board games with me. And we had a great time. We were there for like 2 hours, and she didn't want to go. She was ready to stay for another 2. So it's a great way to get kids to sit down and concentrate. And she was very patient learning the rules. And I think if you get the kids into games, it's a great way to kind of break that whole ADD cycle and get them into wanting to spend more time just kind of sitting down and concentrating. So
sounds
good stuff.
Cool.
This is very cool.
So those were my games I played since last time.
All right. Well, I had a big flop because I played Black Pirate, which I bought for Christmas for the family.
I'm sorry that didn't work out for you. I'll give you a chance to try it.
Played it.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Craig.
I was just going to say that stinks because it's not a cheap game either.
No, it's not.
No, I know. And I really thought this would be perfect because it has a little bit of a screw your neighbor component by stealing the gold. So I figured that would keep Lou and Mom interested because they like to play Sorry together and stuff. And it'd be right up Emmy's alley. And so what basically happened was Emmy's 4, and she still was just a little too little to get the squeeze thing to actually move the ship. And she kept wanting to just pick the ship up and put it in the bay. So there was a lot of monitoring of that. And Lou was like too old, not for the fun of it, but he thinks he knows everything. You couldn't give him, this might just be Lou, but he thinks he knows everything. You couldn't give him any instruction, so he couldn't move his boat, so he was frustrated, but he wouldn't listen on how to make it work.
Oh, that's not Lou. That's an age.
Yeah, he's at that age. Yeah. And Marisa, the same thing. Marisa kept doing the same thing where, like, she'd grip the nozzle.
Or maybe it's genetic.
No, I was going to say that's a gender thing. Oh, did I say that?
Yeah, probably. And Marisa couldn't really work the squeegee that well either. So she was only like passe, but like you give her Ticket to Ride, she gets into that. So I'm trying to think if I can find a kid version of Ticket to Ride or something.
No, add the Monsters Ticket to Ride. Did you hear they're coming out with the Monster
I
component?
did hear that, but even as it is, like
Ticket to Ride.
Yes, there are now. There's monsters.
Wow, Russ, you missed your prediction by a year.
Yeah, I know. I was so frustrated because it just came out last week. I was like, really? Come on. I was off by 3 days, by a month.
Yeah. I did hear that, actually. It did sound pretty fun. So I might look into a different Ticket Ride. I mean, the problem is Emmy
What is going
can't really...
on with the world? There's a Martian board for Agricola. There are monsters on Ticket to Ride.
Yeah, actually, the mechanics sound interesting, but I got to say they jumped the shark with that. You know, at that point, once you're adding monsters to a game about building railroads, you pretty much jump the shark.
Next, there's going to be like a logic component to the next Flux game.
Right.
But apparently not, because I said Fantasy Flight Games is going to be in the top, and they're still on the top. The makers of Ticket to Ride, right?
Oh, no. I mean, people will buy it.
I think Russ is saying this one particular expansion for this one particular game.
They've run out of ideas.
Yeah.
I don't know how you can expand once you've added. No, they still got zombies, so they'll have to make the zombie expansion. And once the zombies are in, then they're done.
The zombie choo-choo train expansion.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. All right, now this is really interesting. So it's the snow day.
Right.
I want to play a game with Lou. And I'm thinking, Castle Ravenloft, boy, it's gathering a lot of dust, but it's D&D, and that's cool. And I wanted to bust it out and play it one more time and really see if it's the game for Lou and I to play father and son. Russ, what did he want to play?
Descent.
He wants to play Descent. And I go, well, Lou, here's the thing. You can't I can kind of rig Descent, but you really have to play all full characters. Yeah, I want to do that. That'd be fun. And he never, I always try to get him to set up any game we have because I just hate that part of it for some reason. Yeah. He got the board out from upstairs. He came down. He got all his characters out. He got all the chits out. He got all the cards out. He loves that game.
Nice. Well, there you go.
Cool. Very cool.
Hey, man, don't knock it.
Yep.
Encourage it. There you go.
I was, but, I don't know. I still can't play it quite like the real Overlord. Not that I want to kick his butt or anything.
No, you should smack him down. That'll get him into Ravenloft.
Well, maybe I should, because he was getting a little bit too gleeful. I mean, he picked all these magic, super powerful weapons, and he was killing everything with one blow.
Yeah, well, no, that's fun.
He was having a lot of fun. Like you said, Craig, I think it's that age,
Yeah. That's cool. You should encourage it. That's awesome.
But he wanted nothing to do with D&D, and I tried to, or Castle Ravenloft, and I said, well, why don't you want? He goes, he's like, the characters aren't as fun. You don't get to do as much with them.
That's true.
I agree. Yeah.
That's true.
Out of the mouths of babes.
And that's much more interesting than the bullet point made it look. Descent HD style solo looked a little scary.
What's solo mean?
The solo part meant Lou played by himself. I mean, played all the characters.
Oh, I see.
So he was solo. The heroes were solo.
And then when he said Snow Day, I was like, did Rafe really hang out at home, set up Descent, and play it on his own?
All right. So what about? So we kind of covered modeling. I've done none, unfortunately.
I've got none.
Hasn't been much time since last time.
And I've been working on terrain feverishly for Dystopian Wars, including a whole bunch of Sturginium rigs.
Right. A lot of pictures of those too. Check out.
I saw those. Those look cool.
Yeah, very nice.
I'm happy with the way.
Was that from that pack that Russ gave you?
No, I haven't given that to you yet. Those are different.
Those are from the Monopoly City game.
Right.
And how did you know to find those dials for the planes? Those look perfect.
I found those on the Spartan Games forum.
Okay.
They're Litgo dials, and they look great, except that they have a 6th place dial, and I got all excited, overly excited, in fact, pulled the trigger without thinking, and got 10 space dials instead of 6 space dials. Right. So they work fine, but it's kind of weird that I did that.
Yeah, people on Twitter were like, why did he get the 10 ones? Is there some kind of secret thing we don't know about?
Yeah, and I'm trying to make up something cool, but no, I was an idiot.
Hit the wrong button, basically.
But it's basically for about $1 a model, you can get the dials that I have, and I'm still not totally sold on it because I'm not convinced that they look really good because they don't look like they should be flying. They look like they look like tokens. They look like beautiful 3-dimensional tokens, and mine are flying over the board.
I don't know. I thought it looked pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, a bunch of people have said that it looked cool, so I'm okay with it. But I don't know. It still isn't 100%. Whatever, but. There you go. That's my modeling.
All right.
Okay.
So in other, let's see. I'll go first here in the other. So in the other category, my girls have gotten into this new game just come out on Xbox. It's called Xbox Arcade. It's called, I believe it's pronounced Ilo Milo.
Okay.
ILMILO. And it's this really cute puzzle game where basically there's two characters, Ilo and Milo. And the goal of the game is you can switch between the two characters, and the goal of the game is to try to meet in the middle. And the thing that's in the way is these really complicated three-dimensional geometric patterns that you can walk around, apparently defying gravity, trying to meet each other. And I just think it's really fascinating because it's this really interesting sort of maze challenge that the kids are loving, and I like the creative problem solving in it. So it's a really interesting little game. So you might want to check one out for your kids if you've got some.
Cool.
Now this is interesting. So I watched The Cape.
As did I.
I only watched part of it though. So
Is this a cartoon? What is this?
No, it's a new primetime live action series, and the premise is that there's this cop who it's in a the cops are all gone bad in this city, blah blah blah, and he and his son enjoy reading this comic book called The Cape about a superhero who wears a cape and does all kinds of crime fighting. Anyway, right in the beginning, even the promos tell you this: he's been accused of a crime, being bad. And he's really not, and you think he's dead. And his family thinks he's dead. And his wife and son think he's dead. And he takes on the role of this comic book character called The Cape in order to send this message to his son, basically, that he's still okay and give his son hope and try to make a difference as one man against the world. And I haven't seen this. So the premiere was 2 hours long. It was really the pilot stapled together with the first episode. And I've only seen the first 45 minutes, the pilot, right?
Okay.
And watching the pilot, generally speaking, everybody has said it's crap. And it's not awesome in any way. But the pilot wasn't bad. It wasn't. I was like, I could watch more of this, but I think the second hour really, I didn't really mind the fact that there were lots of carnies in the show. I could get past the carnies, but
carnies,
there's plenty of carnies. But
the carnies aren't the problem. I don't think.
But there's issues with. I mean, there's all kinds of issues. I mean, there's many issues. The issues are many.
The issues are manifold.
Are numerous. But I think there's a small grain of something that might be salvageable, but I'm not really sure what it is.
And that small grain of something salvageable is called Summer Glau.
Yes.
And even she isn't at her best in this
Having
show.
River in it is definitely helpful.
Yeah.
And the reason, and having her not be at her best kind of implies that the directing may be one of the bigger problems in the show than the acting.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I kind of have a small portion of me that has hope for it.
Really?
In a weird way, because I'm surprised. Because I had heard, and maybe it's because I had heard so many bad things about it. Watching it, I was kind of like, I was also sick. I was like, it was a snow day.
That could be it.
It was a snow day. I was sick. I was like totally wiped out. I'm laying there like, I gotta watch something to fall asleep to. Oh, this sucks. I'll just watch it. It'll pass me. And I actually got sucked into it for stupid reasons. So maybe it was
really right off the bat when that minivan explodes and he rides the door of the minivan out of the explosion. That didn't bother you.
It's a comic book. You gotta let that go. Come on.
No. The force of the blast is shredding everybody around him, but it doesn't do anything to his back, and it just pushes him on the door to the minivan.
That doesn't bother me. It's a comic book.
No,
that's not okay.
I didn't buy it. Not internally consistent, and that is the cardinal sin of all fiction.
Well, I would say it's better than Avatar, but what are you gonna do?
The lines are better.
Everything's better than Avatar.
No, there are no good lines. It's a comic book scenario.
Right.
There's a million opportunities for one-liners, and not a single decent one-liner was to be had.
Right.
I think the writing's weak and the directing's weak. I think the concept is okay. I still don't understand where the cape goes half the time. Sometimes he's got the cape.
Retracts. It's got the super spider stuff. It retracts back in.
Yeah, I don't buy it.
So I'll give you an achievement. I'll tell you what, I'll give you an achievement for suffering through it, though, because now I haven't gone through the second. So I should watch the second part, because that may be where, and Nicole kind of tells me that's where it really falls apart.
Right.
So maybe I haven't.
That's where Summer Glau's performance really falls apart.
Yeah, so maybe it's because I haven't watched enough of it yet to really realize the true uphill battle that is going to be making it successful, but whatever.
Yeah.
Now, also, I've been getting ready for this big Disney road trip I've talked about before. So it's coming,
I can't wait.
very
South
soon.
of the border.
And I've been trying to figure out how to entertain the children on this massive trip.
Maps showing them how far away they are from south of the border.
Right. Look, girls, only 20 hours left.
Counting the bulletin boards down to south of the border.
So
Right.
I've loaded up my my MP3 player with audiobooks, and I'm really excited about this series I discovered. And I've seen it in the bookstores forever. There's a series about Peter Pan called the Star Catcher series, and it tells the story of Peter Pan prior to him becoming a lost boy.
Yeah, this sounds familiar.
So I've never read the books, and they're definitely targeting juvenile readers. But I discovered the audio series is narrated.
Say young adult, not
adult.
juvenile.
Okay, isn't that what they call it though? Isn't that what's called
No,
juvenile?
I don't believe they call them juvenile.
Wasn't there the J in
Yeah, back
libraries?
when Steam ran trains, they might have.
Yeah, I think it's only recently become politically incorrect to have the word
Yep.
juvenile in a phrase. But anyway,
Right, but I don't think it's not politically correct. Its words have definitions. And
what does
anyway, go
what
ahead.
does juvenile mean? Kid.
Just go ahead.
All right.
Move on.
Sorry. Books read by
just trying
people
to be
under
dark.
the age of 18. How's that?
Just trying to be dark.
So anyway, I really got excited when I discovered it was narrated by Jim Dale, who's like my absolute favorite narrator of all time.
What else has he narrated?
The Harry Potter series. He's the guy that's got the Guinness Book of World Records for the most. He did over 145 different voices in the one
voices, right.
book. Yeah, and he also did Pushing Daisies. So if you watch that show, he was that narrator.
Oh,
in that as well.
right.
Okay.
He's a phenomenal narrator. So very excited.
I didn't know you were such a narrator buff. Look at you.
I do. I've listened to audiobooks for many years.
No, I
It's
know
a great way-
you're an audiblebook.com.
Yes,
phobe.
and it's a
file.
great Yes, words have meanings. Great way to so that, and then
Words are like bullets.
also words are like. So, and last but not least, I wanted to mention this. I never talk about Nicole's other projects on the show, but I need to mention this because if you're any kind of fan of MythBusters or Junkyard Wars or BattleBots, which I know many geeks are, Grant Imahara, who is one of the MythBusters on the MythBusters show, Nicole somehow through the Geek Girls Network managed to interview him on their podcast over on the Geek Girls Network. It's called the Geek Girls Network Podcast. And I was able to listen to parts of it. And it is hilarious. Grant is hilarious. For those who don't know, Grant used to work for ILM. He built most of the R2s involved with the Star Wars prequels and all that kind of stuff. So he has all kinds of crazy stories to tell about Jamie and Adam over at MythBusters and all the rest of the MythBusters crew. And he doesn't hold back. He tells all kinds of crazy, funny stories. He's hilarious. So
cool.
Definitely check out geekgirlsnetwork.com and check out that one
that sounds
podcast.
cool.
Really, really funny. So I just had to clue you guys in on that one.
Wow.
So that is
what a good husband.
Yeah, that's not my achievement. It's actually Nicole, so I'll give her one for that.
All right.
So I'm done.
Well,
with my
I'm going
achievements.
to skim over mine, so I'll just brush over some of it. I think I'll save the bulk of it for my Hollywood Minute. But I played Dance Central.
How you liking
Still
it?
working my ways through Dance Central, and I do a little workout to it because what I've learned is the dances cannot be linked together like Rock Band.
Right.
So I'm trying to get some fun aerobic in and trying to work that back into my life. So I do my little dance, and then when
Make
they
a little
do
love.
they do make a little love. Yep.
Down tonight.
And I get down tonight. That's
Down tonight.
exactly right.
Damn, that
and
wasn't dark at all.
there's a free dance period. Well, during that period, I go down and I do push-ups.
Oh.
And then I jump back up, and then I do more. And then during the free dance of the next one, I'll do sit-ups.
Does it make you feel cool when it goes to accelerated mode playback and shows you do a push-up?
No, I think that's
push-up in a mile?
dorky. I wish it wouldn't be accelerated.
Yeah, I think you're trying to be silly there.
Yeah, well, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, sounds cool.
I finished up my cooking list on Latro.
Oh, good.
Yay.
So have you cooked one of everything now?
No, not one of everything. I still have some recipes I haven't done yet, actually.
All right.
It's this whole thing. Russ, it's complicated. I got to get my Maladrin rep up to get the pea soup recipe. Remember the pea soup?
Yeah.
I haven't gotten my rep up yet.
I really want to. That makes me hungry for pea soup. That's a comfort food of mine. And being sick this week, I really could go for some pea soup.
Do you put little chunks of ham in it?
Oh, yeah.
Makes the rest of us glad we're not in the same building as you.
Gotta have the ham.
Especially with what was being talked about pre-show.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, we might include that in the bonus episode if you really want to know what that's about.
I finished up.
That's what we said we wouldn't do.
Sorry, my bad.
Now,
Good to hear.
I did get Will Shifty got me hooked into DCU Online, which stands for the DC Universe Online.
Right.
And I'm not going to go into all these bullets.
Well, no,
but
you can't leave us hanging. How is it? Is it cool?
I like it. It's very different, Russ. Here's the summation of it. It's an Xbox Marvel Hero game. I mean, they did Marvel, but this is DCU. So it's Xbox, your heroes, you're fighting things, you're picking up things, you're throwing it at things.
But it's not on the Xbox. It's a PC game.
Well, that's what's interesting. It's not on the Xbox.
Right.
It's a PC game and playable on the PlayStation.
Okay.
I think because Sony Entertainment Online makes it.
Right.
So it's exclusive for the PlayStation.
Right.
But it's an MMO, so you have quests, but they've done a lot of unique things. And I gotta say, man, if you're a superhero and you feel like you got an extra, Best Buy card burning a hole in your pocket to buy the game, I would buy it because it has some of the most interesting cutscenes I've ever seen. It's really intriguing. And where I do know comics, like I can remember reading Batman comics back in the day where Bane broke Batman's back. Like I have that comic, and they reference that in here. They actually talk about it. So I don't know. For a comic lover, I've been having a good time.
Now, Will described it. Shifty described it as sort of it feels like you're playing Crackdown 2.
Yes,
where you've got that live action. It's not like a typical MMO where all attacks are timed and you're waiting for your timers to reset. Whereas this one is you click the right button, you literally see a guy pick up a bus and hurl it across the street and smack into some other hero, and he flies into a wall.
Yeah, it's left button attack, right button range attack, and then your attacks start to link and do combo moves, kind of like Batman did in Arkham Asylum.
So it's much more action oriented than your typical MMO, which is all timers.
Much more action oriented, and they've learned a lot of things in the MMO space, which I'll get into in my Hollywood Minute space.
Oh.
But I like it. The graphics are cool.
Yeah,
and it's pretty neat, man. It's pretty cool. If you kind of like MMOs and you like superheroes, and you were like, I just don't want to do WoW. That whole thing's boring. Like this is different. They did something a little different here. And I don't know City of Heroes and Champions Online that well, so maybe the lovers of those MMOs will go, oh, hey, Rafe, they did that already. They could. I don't know. So.
Oh, interesting. Well, that's cool. I'm glad you enjoyed that.
Yep, I'm having fun.
Sounds cool.
Achievement.
That's all I got.
DC.
Oh, wait, no. I got one more thing.
All right.
I finished listening to Leviathan.
What'd you think?
Oh, yeah?
I really like it. I can't wait to get the second book.
Yeah, it's out. Get the second one. It's also awesome.
Okay. And Craig, you've listened to it, right?
Yep.
But not
Loved
the second one?
Not the second one yet, no. The library doesn't have it.
Craig.
Yes.
All right, so I'm reading the Flight of the Eisenstein.
Yes, you are.
Okay. And so it got Garo. Now, wasn't Garo the guy that was down with
I believe at one point he was, yeah. He's the Death Guard guy, right?
Yeah, he's the Death Guard that escapes the world and goes up to his ship, right?
Yes, yep.
Okay, well, wasn't where all that happened on Istan 3? Like, I feel like they've gone back in time a little bit.
It overlapped a little bit.
Overlap, that's what I'm looking for. Okay. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't crazy.
Yeah.
Very cool.
It's sometimes hard to figure out where the books go chronologically.
Okay.
Because they're not in chronological order by any stretch of the imagination.
Okay, cool.
The first few are and then there are sections that are, but many of them are totally independent.
Yeah, that's what seems to be going on.
Right. Alrighty.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, for my other, I've been working a lot on the XCAM missions. Now that the Death Watch game is out of the way, for the time being, although it sounds like we might be able to revisit that in the future. So we've been doing a lot of work on scenarios, and that will come up later on in this episode, so I won't bore you with the details here. Books, I would like to say some thank yous.
Ooh.
I would like to say, because Rafe, don't get jealous.
Oh, I forgot my thank you too for Jeff. You thank him for me.
I've got. I have to thank Nils for sending me Triumph, Her Majesty's Hero, the Dan Abnett book, non-Black Library.
Right.
Oh, cool.
Every little blurb on the cover talks about puns, so I'm expecting it to be a very punny book. Jeff Engelstein sent us all books.
We all owe him a thank you.
So we should owe him a thank you.
Yes.
My
cool.
book looks particularly awesome. It's called The Dream of Perpetual Motion, a novel by Dexter Palmer.
Right.
It looks very steampunkish. There's a blimp on the cover. It's a very beautiful looking book.
Cool.
He sent me the Victorian internet, and it's all about the culture that came up around the telegraph back when it was first introduced.
And that does.
Oh, wow.
That sounds fascinating.
Yeah,
to me.
so I can't wait to read that. That sounds really interesting.
What'd I get?
You got the top 100 interesting games, something like that. Really interesting looking book too.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think I like that one also. Yeah.
Very cool.
Thank you, Jeff, for those great reads.
Hey, thanks, Jeff.
Absolutely. And then listener Jeremy sent me the first Artemis Fowl book when he heard that I liked the young adult fiction. And then a Doctor Who book called The Coming of the Terraphiles, which was actually written by Michael Moorcock.
There you go.
And so I have a whole pile of books here that I'm going to need to start churning through, in addition to the final book in the Mass Effect series that I have to read. And going back to books I have read or am reading, I finished the Mass Effect #2 book, and I like the stories, but I don't get why can't somebody just novelize the main thread of your MMO so I can experience the cool stuff that Russ experienced when he played. That's what I want.
Sometimes they do that, but for some reason they don't.
Yeah, I haven't come across one in a while.
Yeah.
I know Halo didn't do that. I know that Mass Effect's not doing it. So it's neat. You've got like this cool story, but all of a sudden it's not quite as cool because there's a huge cool story happening at the same time somewhere else.
Yeah, I think they're playing is go buy the video game that they're playing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well,
I understand.
I just thought of one more interesting thing, Ross, you might want to know.
What's that?
The DC Universe forums are only found on Facebook.
Oh, look at that.
They're hosted on Facebook. So if I want to read like what to do or what's going on or any of that, I have to have a Facebook account.
Yeah, how long you got to be able to make it another year, Granger?
I don't know. Well, it depends. I mean, if I start paying for DC Universe, then we'll see.
I may have to alter a prediction.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, he's going to go back and edit it. No fair.
Yeah, no kid. You should probably the one person you shouldn't have told that to.
Right. And I have to say, I still like your bit on Russ's rant.
Oh, thank you. Well, we let Craig finish.
I thought he was done.
No, he's not done.
So I'm still reading, or actually listening to Warrior's Apprentice, the first book that has Miles Vorkosigan in it.
There you go.
And I'm not a big fan.
You're not.
I like it, and I like the characters, and that's the problem, because she's one of those authors who's like, every time you think the character's getting his chin above water, she just dumps another bucket on him, and I'm like, just leave the poor guy alone. He's already less than 5 feet tall, and he's got a big mutated head. I mean, what else are you going to do to him? And and then I just came to a part where I'm like, are we sure that this isn't the next Game of Thrones novel? What's going on here? So I'm right now I'm kind of like, I don't know if I want to put myself through the next few books of the series. But anyway, reading with my eyes reading. I'm reading 1776, which is a book about the year 17. It's actually about 1775 through 1777, and it's primarily about George Washington. It's about it's by the same author, and I'm forgetting his name right now, that wrote the John Adams book that HBO made into a big miniseries. And I'm loving it, and I'm fascinated by George Washington.
Washington's an awesome figure. He's really a lot of cool stuff around him.
Really, and this book is really good. It is not like glossing over the things that he did wrong.
Right.
And it's really, really cool. But it's really throwing a kink into my understanding of what Harry Turtledove was doing with his novel, The United States of Atlantis.
Oh, really?
Because I'll admit that I haven't really brushed up on my Revolutionary War since high school.
Right.
So when I read The United States of Atlantis, I'm like, oh, these names sound familiar. And you're like, oh, okay.
Must be true.
General Howe. Okay. I vaguely remember there was a General Howe involved. And Cornwallis. Yeah, I vaguely remember there was a Cornwallis involved. And now that I'm reading the book 1776, I'm like, wow. So Harry Turtledove, half the characters have historically accurate names. Half of those are doing sort of historically accurate things. The other half are doing totally different things. And it's bizarre to me. So I don't know what's going on. Is it like a fictionalized American Revolution? No, because it's way oversimplified. Is it like just, it would be really cool if the same people were involved, but the reality was different? No, because some of them are doing the exact same thing. And so basically, this book, I'm loving 1776, and I'm liking United States of Atlantis less and less because of it, which is an interesting situation for me to be in. I don't think I've ever experienced something like that, where one book has progressively eaten away at my enjoyment of a book that I'd already read.
Well, it's funny that a nonfiction book is influencing how you feel about a fiction book.
It is. But I mean, you've got to understand, Harry Turtledove is like one of the kings of alternate history.
Right.
This is his. This is his genre.
Right.
And if you read, for instance, the Darkness series that he did, which was almost a 1-for-1 translation of World War One into fantasy.
Right.
Like now you're reading United States of Atlantis, and part of it feels like it's a 1-for-1 translation, but other parts of it I feel like they're totally fantasy and made up. And I'm like, I don't know. And I know the man is a genius, and like as far as history is concerned, and he knows his history backwards and forwards, but it feels like an alternate history book written by a guy who doesn't know history. That's what that's what it. And I know that's not him. So I don't know why I'm getting left with that feeling, but that's the feeling that I'm left with now, having or reading 1776.
Interesting.
So it is an interesting thing that's going on in my head.
Achievement for creative comparisons. I like that.
A lot of that went over my head, but it sounds interesting.
It could be why I'm so dark right now.
Could be.
Could be.
Yeah.
And is that achievements?
That's achievements.
That's achievements.
You come to us for your gaming news, rumors, analysis, and insight. And if you're not careful, you might even have a laugh or two.
Because that's how we roll at the D6 generation. Dice are our vice.
And no podcast would be complete without us talking about Lone Wolf Development. That's right. Lone Wolf Development, the fine developers and purveyors of your favorite war games softwares.
Sounds like you swallowed a wolf, Craig.
I did.
Are you okay over there?
Craig,
It's a little scratchy.
Craig, I should point out that software does indeed follow the deer sheep rule.
What's
What's that?
That is that one box of software is also two boxes of software. It's not softwares.
Did I say softwares?
I think you might have.
I don't think I did.
I don't know. Listen, all I know is when I was playing 40K, you use Army Builder. It's that simple. And, of course,
Flames of
they've got
War,
the new version
Army Builder.
3.3 out of the Army Builder construction tool.
Right.
And for additional products, they've got the one that I know Craig is very excited about, Realmworks.
Oh, me too. I can't wait for that.
Mm-hmm. Wow, way to just steal my ad, guys.
I wanted you to get a drink.
Look, if you're going to pluralize software with an S, then we just got to shut you down.
See, I don't think I did that.
Go back to the tape. We're going to go back to the tape after this.
And then there's Tournament Ace.
Right.
Tournament Ace is, I think, the thing that Russ is most intrigued by because he's tried it out himself.
And I really want to be able to wrap it into the XCAM format. I got to figure out if that's going to work. I can't wait to try it out.
Yeah,
because it runs leagues and stuff too. So I got to check out how that's all going to work.
That would make your life much easier.
It would.
And I think somebody needs to send an email.
Everybody's already begging me.
They're to the left coast.
I know.
I think there needs to be an XCAM plugin.
My players are all clamoring, we need you to set up the sheets. I'm like, dude, this would be awesome, but it's like, turn it on. Okay, we're ready. Let's do this thing.
That's true. There you go.
Card Vault also for collectible card games. And
let's not forget about Hero Labs.
And, of course, Hero Lab, right, for your
which
RPGs.
I did just pluralize, by the way.
Yeah, see, you had an S to everything. It's an S thing.
No. I'm adding an S to Labs.
Developments.
What's the plural of wolf, Craig?
Wolf? Wolves?
You're listening to the D6 generation. Born to game.
And now, what's in the news? With a shout-out, if you're in the greater New York City area and are into board games or card games, come check out the NYC Board Games and Card Games Meetup. You can find it all about it at meetup.com/NYC-board-games. Check it out now. Yeah, we love shout-outs that promote more gaming. Good one. And now, the news. Bastion Studios, makers of Excelis, ceased operations, sadly, on January 18th. As many of you may know, Excelis was the hybrid game that featured miniature wargaming on a miniature table, but then also had applications for both your computer and your iPhone that allowed you to calculate the results of combat. It looked like Excelis made a big push this past Gen Con, but finally had to close their doors. Good effort, and we're not sure we're going to see the end of hybrid gaming just yet. But sadly, Excelis will not be down for breakfast anymore. Moving on. In good news, Cargo Noir, a brand new game from Days of Wonder, has gone cardboard, as they say over there at Board Game News. The suggested retail price is $50, and it should be on store shelves near you by March. Cargo Noir looks like it's going to be a game of smuggling taking place in like the mid-20s or 30s. It's kind of interesting stuff.
Oh, yeah, it looks great. I mean, the rules look cool. It's got a lot of colors, lots of cool parts. I mean, it's Days of Wonder. It's going to be great.
Wakeland.
Yeah, and it handles 2 to 8 players and
2 to 8?
Oh, I'm sorry, 2 to 5 players, ages 8 and up, about 90 minutes.
Wakeland, how do you know all this about the game? It's not even any.
Oh, the rules are up on the PDF over there at daysofwonder.com.
Thank you, Wakeland. Could you get more excited about a game you haven't seen yet?
It's Days of Wonder.
Anyway, that's Cargo Noir. If you want to know more about it, go to daysofwonder.com, read the PDF. Anyway, back to the news and not speculation. Wakeland. All right. In other new game news, Fantasy Flight Games has recently posted a post. Wakeland writes this stuff, doesn't he? Anyway, Fantasy Flight Games has posted a brief blurb on their blog about Mansions of Madness. Or is it Mansion of Madness? Wakeland, did you write this thing?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Anyway, that new game, Arkham horror style game, it takes place in a mansion. It's crazy stuff. Anyway, if you want to hear about the combat, how that works, go check out fantasyflightgames.com. In other new game news, a board game based on Terry Pratchett's Discworld. That's right, Terry Pratchett's Discworld, called, I'm going to pronounce this wrong, but here we go, Ankh Morpork. Or Morpork. I guess that's how you got to go. Being designed by Martin Wallace and distributed by Mayfair. It's coming sometime this year. So if you're a big Terry Pratchett fan, you need to check this one out. Also, a little bit of news here based on some comments that Wakeland made about Code 777 from Stronghold Games. There was some debate between Russ and Craig about whether or not the color sheets were available. Turns out that these color sheets that Russ insisted are the best way to play the game are indeed available at Board Game Geek. Just go ahead and look for Code 777 on BGG, and you'll find them there. And Stronghold Games will come on their site soon. All right, that's the board games. What about activities elsewhere? Well, we've got Gen Con news. Gen Con badges went on sale not about a week ago now. In addition to that, the hotel rooms just went up. Now, of course, the premium rooms, the lowest priced and nearest rooms are already gone by the time you hear this. However, there is a massive new hotel there, and there are still rooms left there last time we checked. So if you're interested in Gen Con and just want to reserve a room, make sure you got something, better head over there quick. Another con news coming up really closely is Temple Con, and the boys at the D6 Generation are very excited to be running an event there.
Oh, it's going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome.
Wait, let me just tell this. Just calm down. If you try to get over here and gush all about it, no one will understand what you're saying.
There's going to be all kinds of prizes. It's going to be...
Wakeland.
O'Neill, really hook this up.
Just let me do this. I am a professional. Okay. Anyway, they will be having prizes, and Spartan Games has really stepped to the plate and helped make this an extra special event. First of all, Spartan Games will be shipping over studio-painted models that are normally only available in the Spartan Games studios for the D6 Generation to display during the event. Also, there'll be some new models that are not released yet, but available to looking at as well. And also, they will have some special prizes in addition to the kind of prizes you might expect, including some fleet boxes to give away, some rule books, some decks of the cards there for Dystopian Wars. They also have a very, very unique prize. And this is the ability for, we believe, 3 participants will be able to have their likenesses become characters and part of the background material and fluff of the Dystopian Wars universe. That's right. For reals. What's going to happen is 3 of the prize winners at the event will have their photos taken by the D6 Generation folks, and those will then be sent to Spartan Games, and their artist, as you heard about in the Dystopian Wars interview with Neil, will do up their likenesses and show them off. And if you want to see what this looks like, they've actually already done some artwork for Craig, Russ, and Rafe. And Craig's is available on our Facebook page, so head on over to facebook.thed6generation.com, and you'll be able to see what Craig looks like all done up as a FSA politician. Pretty cool. So if you want a chance at that, make sure you sign up for the TempleCon event the D6 Generation is running. Head on over to templecon.org. And by the time you hear this podcast, TempleCon will be less than a week away. So hopefully you're planning to attend if you're nearby. And finally, in some sort of random news that Wakeland stuffed in here, this is kind of cool too. Anyway, this is actually about Sony. The guys that make PlayStation and televisions. Anyway, Sony recently had a bunch of announcements around their new phone / PSP / whatever they're doing for their next generation portable handheld thingy. But that's not what Wakeland wanted me to tell you about. No, instead, he wants to talk about this idea that Sony has also sort of announced on the side that they have a division of folks now that will be allowing their back catalog of games to be developed and distributed on Android platforms. This is kind of a big deal and something that Wakeland was all excited about a while ago, saying that he sure hoped that other companies would start developing their games for these mobile phone platforms like the iPhone and Android. It's kind of a big deal. We'll see if Nintendo follows suit later. Oh, I think they might. They might have to. All right, Wakeland, this is my segment. You just settle down. And I think that's quite enough news for one day. So that's what's in the news.
You know what I want to talk about next is Battle Foam. So I was talking to Romeo, and he's very excited. He's going to come out and see everybody at TempleCon.
Excellent. That's good. I didn't know he was coming.
That's excellent.
Yep, he's going to be there. I'm pretty sure he's bringing a couple guys this time. Don't know if General Foamy's going to be there, but of course he'll be bringing his custom foam trays, his loadouts, his different cases. He's got the Malifaux case now. He's got the Privateer Press case now. He's got the Flames of War. I noticed he's got a little satchel. He was kind of busting my chops on that on the C4. And I think there's some exciting thing. I don't want to mention yet, but there's some exciting things going on with the C4.
Uh-huh.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Color me intrigued.
Me too.
TempleCon's the best place to use his X-board, too. Where it's collapsible. Right. You can take it on a plane and you can carry your armies around. Because TempleCon's a tight place for playing the miniature games,
It's also handy. I like the, I'm still eyeing that new P3 paint bag. Did you see they have a deal with Privateer Press? Okay, so the P3 paint bag holds every single P3 item that Privateer makes. So not just all the paints, but the clippers, the files, the inks, the everything P3 makes fits in there. And there's actually a version on battlefoam.com that comes loaded with everything. So it's like the
which is pretty much probably the only way you can guarantry of getting some of those colors.
It's hard. It's everything and the case and all the foam. It's pretty cool.
Oh, that's cool.
And it's a great way to it's a small chunk of change because you're getting like everything P3 makes, but it's a really cool way to have it all at once if you really want to just kind of dump a big chunk of cash and get it all.
Oh, that's right. When I was looking at it last week, it attaches to the War Machine case.
It zips to the bottom, right? So you can carry everything with you. It's pretty cool.
That's so cool.
It's very cool.
That is cool.
So check it all out at battlefoam.com.
Hooah!
You're listening to the D6 generation. Born to game.
Okay, and welcome back. Now, we're very excited to be discussing predictions for 2011.
Two of us are.
Yeah,
Two of us are excited.
Well,
Greg's probably not.
We got great feedback for last year's predictions.
Yeah, well, that's great. No, they love it. That's swell.
So, so what we did last year was back in January, we predicted a few things. Each of us predicted 8 different things. We went around in rounds and kind of made different predictions. And then back in December, you may have noticed, we went through and decided if they came true or not and awarded points and then declared a victor.
That's right.
We're gamers and that's what we do.
Which makes Russ the Nostradamus for 2011.
Well, yeah, and I run by such a small margin, it's not really very impressive.
Well, there was lots of interesting controversy because apparently I can see farther into the future, although wrongly.
Right. So this year I've tried to very clearly state that it's quantifiable predictions of things that will occur in 2011.
I do want you to know that I did adhere to that rules. These are all things that are A, measurable by some kind of standard.
Good.
And B, quantifiable in 2011.
All right. Yeah. Now, we've all privately recorded our predictions. None of us have seen each other's predictions until the film. We're going to first be stated now, so we could have the same predictions. Who knows? Now, here are the rules that we developed.
Somehow I doubt that.
Last time. So here we go. So each prediction is going to be worth 3 points if correct. However, the panel may award partial credit if they deem it's worthy. Right?
Yep.
Okay.
Now, do we want to offer a +1 if today someone says a really challenging prediction? We're like, yeah, we'll give you a +1 on that if it's really hard. No.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I do, because I have to admit that in making these predictions, I was thinking of the scoring grid. I was matrix gaming.
All right.
And I don't think that's fair. So I purposely pick some really far out ones.
Okay. Now, the thing we can do is
you want to be rewarded for that, do you?
No, not even because of the points, but I want to be rewarded for making predictions that we might want to make, but would be afraid to make by losing points.
Okay. So we can give you no points, but a pat on the head, and you'd be okay with it.
Yeah, I'd be happy with that.
Okay.
Oh, okay. So why don't we say I would get +1 for being a particularly challenging predictor. Russ will get a +1. Rafe will get a pat on the head.
I like it.
I'd like a pat on the back instead.
Okay.
Okay.
How
How about one pat on the back for every 2 challenging predictions?
No.
No.
Now, in addition to that, once someone makes their prediction today,
Yeah.
the other 2 people can choose to agree, disagree, or voice no opinion.
Oh yeah, I forgot about
Okay.
that.
Now, last time we said basically if you agreed or disagreed, you got the correct point. But I think this time
should say that we should say that last time the scoring was on the fly,
right.
and we did not originally set this whole segment up to be scored.
So now to firm this up, see, we're doing scenario design in this earlier. See, that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
It all fits together.
So what we're doing is, if you choose to have no opinion on the prediction, then you will get no bonuses nor minuses. You are fine. You just want to have an opinion. If you choose to have an opinion, either contrary or agree, you will get a bonus point if the initial predictor is correct and you agreed with him, or a bonus point if he was wrong and you disagreed. But you will get a -1 point if you disagreed with the person and were proven and the predictor was proven correct.
Yes.
Ross,
or
this
you
whole
agreed
thing would be
yes.
this would be so cool if this was an XCam.
All right, we're working on it. After we do 10 years or so, we'll have some kind of campaign rules.
Yeah, right.
All right. So without further ado, are we ready?
We are.
All right. Going into round 1, predictions. Who would like to go first?
Craig.
I'm going to go first because I'm going to get something out of the way. Okay. The reason that I don't like these sort of prediction things is because I've always got bad stuff in my head. Okay. So I'm just going to get this out of the way. Right.
Okay.
In round 1, I predict something really bad is going to happen in 2011. I don't like the look of the year number. I don't like the sound of it. And by really bad, I mean something along the lines of the tsunami or
Wow, you're like 9/11 bad? Is that what you're saying?
Yep.
Wow, but not necessarily a terrorist attack. You're just saying something real, like it's Katrina or 9/11 or
yes,
something.
Exactly. The three of us will know and easily agree
to bring
whether
it down,
or not this
man.
came true because it will be something capital R, capital B, really bad.
Well, that's a real downer, Craig. I'm not going to lie.
Well, welcome to my life. I thought I'd get that out of the way right up.
Well, but what about, like, does the floods and the earthquakes that just occurred in Australia count as really bad?
No.
Like, doesn't something really bad happen somewhere every year?
Yes, but this is something really bad that's globally recognized.
All right, so
as really bad.
what's the I like Rafe's question here. He's getting into the spirit. He's trying to nail this down. So what is the throttle? What's the threshold
like
for
the
really
miners
bad?
got trapped, although that was a good
That's
result.
not really bad either.
Yeah, that's actually
No.
really good.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
Okay, we're thinking Katrina / tsunami.
All right.
Okay. Bali nightclub bombing / I mean, it doesn't have to be 9/11, but it's got to be, hundreds of people.
Wow, what a
dead.
downer.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
Okay,
or
so
something
Well, he
personally.
admitted he doesn't like the predictions, so
So
This is
here's what
my
we'll do.
brain
So
is
here's what we'll
not-
do. We'll let it go there, and we'll judge at the end of the year if anything qualifies at that level and give you the points accordingly.
And believe me, this is one I don't want to argue.
Wow, that's just a downer.
I don't want to be arguing at the end of this year that I won these points.
Rafe, do you want to concur with that one, Rafe, or do you want to disagree?
I'm going to cast no opinion.
You see? Come on. You're the happy-go-lucky guy, Rafe. Put your points where your mouth are.
But I'm also superstitious.
Oh, good point.
I am knocking on wood right now and disagreeing.
Oh, see, thank God somebody
I'm saying
is.
it's going to be a good year because the really bad year is 2012. Everybody knows that. You're a
That's
year
true.
off. This is going to be a bumper crop year, so we all get excited and then get screwed in 2012. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
So, yeah, I'm going to disagree on that one just because it's such a downer, man. Someone's got to be up on this.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Wow, Rafe, can your first prediction bring us up from that? That was really...
Yeah, I now feel like the comedian going on after the child star act. So,
I know. I didn't follow that
After
up.
the Child Star Act went on and bombed.
yeah, here's my prediction.
Mm-hmm.
In the year 2011,
Yep.
the Kinect...
2011. Sorry, I
Thank
missed
you.
it.
The Kinect and Xbox Live will be what the Wii was not and is not. Okay? Bringing Xboxes into people's homes as a staple electronic item, like a DCR or a DVR. And this will be measurable by TV, magazine, and news articles in non-gaming media. For example,
This sounds familiar to me.
it is. It's sort of familiar. This is not a hard one. This is an easy one. On NPR, I heard people talking about Black Ops and how many sales it sold. But nobody said, like the newspaper, the news reporter or anybody said that they played Black Ops. They just were admitting that it sold bunches of sales.
Right.
So this year, there's going to be news articles about, just the news reports like, oh, yeah, I did pick up the Kinect because you can cycle through Netflix with it like that.
So the news anchor will be talking to the other anchor and be saying like, hey, so how far did you get in Dance Central? She'll be like, oh, well, I got to level 4.
Yes.
It'll be that kind of thing. Oh, okay. All right, wow.
That is not what I thought he was saying at all.
All right. So Craig, do you agree or disagree with that? I was
using.
Yeah, go ahead.
Using that particular criteria, I disagree.
Disagree strongly?
Do I have to disagree strongly?
I'm going to, you know what, Rafe? I almost made a prediction very similar to that, so I think it is incumbent upon me to agree with you.
Okay, cool.
I don't know that the anchor people will be talking about it, but I think it'll be so profound.
But they're going. But see, now let's clarify it, because the example you gave, that anchor person in a non-gaming media was talking about it in a gaming context.
Right.
Okay.
So Rafe, you want to clarify that? Or are you with it on that?
No, that's not revealing. That's already occurred.
Okay.
But if he said, "Oh yeah, I got really far in that game, and I'm not a gamer," in other words, like the news anchor himself or herself admitting that they've now
They'll say
played
like,
Black
yeah,
Ops.
I played it with my kids, or I played it and it's great, or I own one
when
myself.
They never would have done so before because
Right.
the other person they were talking to was in the gaming media, so he doesn't count.
So instead of
playing doesn't count.
So instead of talking to like Cliffy B from Gears of War and saying, hey, how's the levels? He'll be like, yeah, I played level 13. You guys did a great job on that. It'll be that kind of rapport.
Yep.
All right. I'm agreeing with you. I'm going down. I'm going to be Mr. Optimist today. I am.
Okay.
All right. So my prediction, my round one prediction here, and I have to forgive me, I'm writing all these down so we have them recorded here for posterity.
With spelling very good, by the way.
Well, we'll see how long that lasts. My prediction, I'm actually going to go right to actual miniature gaming. How's that sound?
Wow.
I know, I'm doing something radical here.
Yep.
And I'm going to be very specific here. The Spartan Games strategic level miniature war game. The one with very small models that we didn't clarify exactly how big they were, but they're very small, and you got like worried about where your drop pods are going and where your strategic level stuff is.
Yep.
Will launch this year, and it will have success to a similar level of Dystopian Wars.
Wow. Okay. How do you? Okay.
Yeah, seriously.
Okay.
Well, when I say to measure that, it's going to be like all of our friends are going to be freaking out about it. Everybody, it's be like Dystopian. Everybody's going to be totally excited about it.
Okay. So you have to have comparable local numbers.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Or internet numbers. Like if it's just totally crazy, like everybody knows who Spartan Games is, and it's just one of those things.
Right, and we can talk to Spartan Games. We have some of their numbers already for Dystopian Wars, and it's really impressive. And so we have access to those numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Will be a success. Anybody agree with me on that?
I agree.
Yeah. Yes, I agree.
2 agrees. Wow, look at that.
That's because it's so easy.
Yeah, I don't think that's a tough one.
Wow, really? I thought I was going on a limb there because it's kind of a different play for them.
It is a different, but I think if you look at all the people in our group that are either recently played Epic and love it, or keep saying, "Oh, I wish we played Epic," or "I'm really still interested in Epic." I mean, I think there's still a very big interest locally
The world wants more Epic.
Globally.
The world wants more Epic.
That's right.
All right.
Somebody else is going to give it to them.
Round 2, Craig. What is your prediction for round 2?
I will delve now headlong into gaming and keep things negative.
Wow.
Currently, there's a lawsuit in action, the Games Workshop versus Chapter House Models lawsuit. And I believe that basically Chapter House is this company, this little mini company, and what they do is they build pieces for Games Workshop models.
Okay.
And it's shameless as far as like, there's nothing else you're going to do with those pieces but put them on a Carnifex and make it into a different kind of Carnifex.
Okay.
And to the point where their actual advertising on their website is like, this is a Trigon, this is the new Carnifex, this is how you make Eldar Farseers on jet bikes.
Yeah.
So it's really, really, really egregious. However, I think the lawsuit will not result in the closing of Chapter House. I think at the end of 2011, Chapter House will still be there, but they will have genericized their product so that they're not blatantly saying that, they're not going to be using all the GW terminology and copyrighted names and such.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah, because I thought you were saying. I'm just interested in the lawsuit now. I didn't know that. Wasn't following it. I thought there was an issue with the fact that using shoulder pads for your army figure.
Right. Well, what they did was they put like a small. Yes, they're doing that. But they also they put together a kit for a small Tau Titan, basically.
Oh, neat.
A Tau Walker, and they said it was a Tau Walker. And
okay, yeah, that's a problem.
The guns are actual rail guns, and I mean they're yeah. It's very clear what they're doing.
That's a problem, yeah.
And so I don't think they will close. I do think, however, that their products, at least the way that they're on the website and the way they're advertised, will be more generic and will not impinge upon Games Workshop copyrighted material.
Okay. So GW will not destroy them utterly.
Not destroy them utterly.
All right. They will not be cow-like. So, Rafe, what is what do you think of that?
I agree.
I have no opinion. I don't really know the case well enough to know.
All righty.
I don't know how strong the company is after they go through the mess.
That's true.
Yep.
But I think Craig, I think what we're finding here is you're actually an excellent predictor.
Yeah.
You're just sort of like the Eeyore of the prediction community.
I'm the Debbie Downer.
There's going to be a global catastrophe. Not that it matters.
Okay. The lights we haven't seen in a long time.
There's going to be a global catastrophe.
GW is going to shoot the bejesus out of somebody, but they're going to be okay. But
that's kind of
my
number
positive,
3
actually.
is a nice, bright, and cheery one. How's that?
Let's move on then. So, Rafe, what is your round 2 prediction here?
This is so quantifiable. It is so easily.
Russ has screwed up the spelling.
Sorry, it is so easily to measure.
Yes.
Okay. In the year 2011, the Deathwatch role-playing system will release a book that enables you to play a Space Marine.
What? Wait, they already did that.
They did? I'm sorry, Chaos Space Marine.
Oh, I was going to say, wait a minute.
Oh, okay.
So Deathwatch supplement.
Yep.
Now, does that have to be Deathwatch or can it be Dark Heresy? Because it may be branded as Deathwatch.
No, I'm picking Deathwatch.
You are? Because I think, okay.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to have to disagree with you on that, though, I think, because they won't call it Deathwatch.
Okay. Playable in the Deathwatch system.
Yeah, but,
well, that would be any system.
That's Dark Heresy then, because Dark Heresy is the system, right? Is it?
Well, no, the 40K role play.
Well, okay, let's call it 40K role plays all around. I don't want to lose points on this for some semantics. Okay,
all right.
So 40K role play. FFG will release a supplement that lets you play Chaos. All right.
So I'll tell you why I think it's Deathwatch, because you can't play that strong of a character in Dark Heresy.
No, but
this is going to let you play one as a character, not create a nemesis for you.
Yeah, but they won't. But you can't call a Chaos guy a Deathwatch guy.
And it's going to be a supplement, right? It's going to be something specific, because right now, technically, you can play a Chaos Space Marine and just call him. I mean, you can play a Deathwatch character, call him a Black Shield, and technically he was a Chaos Space Marine at one point.
No. This is Ross Watson's going to announce, or his team or the company. Yeah. That's not the determining to say, guess what, guys? You always want to play the evil guys? We're going to let you play the evil guys.
All right.
Huh.
It might be a whole new system. That's why I'm saying in the Deathwatch system, meaning Space Marine system.
I'm having flashbacks to Anti-Paladin here. All right, so Craig, what do you think? You think that's going to be?
I disagree. I think they want you to be a hero.
I strongly disagree.
Ooh, strongly disagree.
Yeah, they don't. Ever since the 80s, they frown upon the evil RPG stuff, even though I think that's total, BS. It's still that's how they roll.
Right. Yeah.
It's not an FFG thing; it's a gaming thing.
I have a part B to this.
Although they did release Chaos in the Old World, in which case you all play evil, torturing gods. So maybe you've got a point there.
Yep.
Yeah, but I think
role-playing's
that's abstract enough.
Yeah, role-playing's a third rail, though, for that kind of thing. You're pretending to be evil, and Chaos does some really nasty stuff. I have
a part B to this prediction.
Part B, okay. Do we allow part Bs, Craig?
Sure.
All right.
No points for a part B, though.
Part B.
Okay. You're going to regret that because it might give you points. But in the year 2011, Uwe Rosenberg, the creator of Agricola, will release a game set in space
How is this
related to
Part B of 40K roleplay? I think you're just like last year. You're trying to slip in more than 8 predictions.
Exactly.
Okay,
That's
I'm calling shenanigans.
I am too.
You should lose points now anyway.
No, you got to either decide if that's one of your 8 or move it out. That's,
Rafe, as we go down, why don't you look over the next 6 of yours and decide if you want to take out one of those and put in UA Rosenberg.
Right.
No way.
Shenanigans. All right,
No way.
I'm going to make a prediction now before Rafe makes 3 more.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. My prediction number, round 2, and you're going to start sensing a theme here.
Uh-oh.
A major miniature game company, not Spartan Games, a major miniature game company will release a naval combat game. So to compete directly with Spartan. So it'll be like a Privateer Press or a GW or a Weird or somebody. But someone we already know about who already has an existing game, not a new startup, but an existing company, will release a naval game because due to the success of Spartan, they'll be inspired to try to duplicate that effort.
Oh, okay.
Interesting.
Well, I like that. That's good. I have no opinion for the record. But I like that.
It's a good one. I disagree, but I think it's a good one.
So I get plus some bonus points for riskiness?
No. Because you've been holding close to this Privateer Press naval game thing.
I have. I'm totally dreaming. I have to admit, there's a little bit of a, I want to dream. It's a little bit of a dream in there. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
So Craig says disagree, and Rafe says no opinion.
Right.
Correct.
Okay, Rafe, have you thought through? Keep thinking now of your round 3, Rafe, and make sure you've got one you like. So
Yeah,
Craig,
Why don't you throw in UA Rosenberg in our teeth?
right. So Craig, round 3. Round 3,
Okay,
folks. Out of 8 rounds, here we are. Round 3 already.
Ready for this?
Yeah, here we go.
Yep.
Okay. This has nothing to do with gaming whatsoever.
What
Is it unicorn and rainbows or what?
Entertainment. It's entertainment.
Is this Eeyore?
Okay, nope.
Oh.
I believe that Paul McCartney will do something very odd to revitalize his career, reinvigorated by his appearance at the White House on Saturday Night Live and in the anniversary of John Lennon's death recently. So I think something really weird is going to happen with Paul McCartney in 2011.
How do you define weird?
I think we're all gonna say like, "Wow, that was really weird." He's either gonna appear on like something major, like an album or a movie, not like a little TV appearance, but something big. Something weird. Let's say he's gonna make a new album with some really bizarre partner, like Paul
Yoko
McCartney Paul McCartney and Yoko Ono would be very bizarre.
So not a traveling Wilbury type
I think
thing.
we can quantify that.
All right.
Kind of like how you said last year, Russ, that like Dungeons and Dragons needs to do something very big to revitalize its line.
Well, we can evaluate that at the end and see if it scored points.
Yep.
That's interesting. What do we think of that, Rafe? What do you think?
I don't have an opinion to buy it, but I'm a betting man, so I'm going to bet with Craig on this. I don't know anything about it, but I'm going to bet yes.
I have no opinion. I cannot make an informed decision on Paul McCartney.
No, neither can I, actually.
So I have to ask, what got you thinking about Paul McCartney?
Stuff, though.
I have no idea, guys, really, honestly. But seriously, Paul McCartney's been on my radar for a few months now.
Yeah, he figures that stuff out. I don't know how
This
he
is
does.
fascinating to me, though. It's not that you can't predict. It's just that you can't really. You like to predict in other genres.
I do indeed.
Paul McCartney. Wow.
Yeah, Paul McCartney.
Right.
Yeah, Paul
Okay.
McCartney. I don't. I have developed a strong dislike for Paul McCartney.
Well, we interview all kinds of crazy people on the show, so a Paul McCartney prediction may not be that far. Ooh, the kind of thing you could do that's really weird or odd would be an interview on the D6 generation.
There you go.
That would count.
That would be weird too.
Would count that. So, Paul, if you're listening, come on down. We'd be happy to interview you.
That's a bit prophetic with what I have later on.
Okay. So, Rafe,
alrighty.
what is your round 2? Round 3, sorry. Round 3, Rafe.
Rafe or Craig?
Craig already went.
I'm done. I just did Paul McCartney, man. What do you want?
Okay, sorry. All right, mine's really easy. Blizzard, the company that makes WoW, will announce in 2011 what its Project Titan is. Okay.
I think that's kind of a softball, but I'll go for it.
Okay.
Yeah. Actually,
Craig?
yeah.
Craig, what are you going to say about that?
I'm going to agree because actually I've gone way farther with my prediction. And
I'm going to agree, too, because it just seems like it's about time. They have to, because I think, I don't know, this isn't one of my predictions either, but I kind of feel like Knights of the Old Republic is getting close. So Blizzard's got to do something to keep the focus on their
That's
their
all
brand.
part of my thinking.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay.
Yep.
All right, let's see. My third predictions. Let's see, round 3. I got to think of something really.
Well, wait. Do you agree or disagree?
I
Ross?
agree.
Okay. 3 agrees. Okay.
Yeah, 2. Well, including yourself, I guess that's 3.
well, you do have to agree with yourself.
You can disagree with yourself. Okay, so number 3. Okay, here I'm coming back to home now, right next door. I predict that Craig, ready? Craig will, A, get a, quotes, real smartphone this year, i.e. something with a BlackBerry, Android, or iOS operating system in it, and B, warm up to Twitter, and by warm up I mean he will post over 20 times this year.
Okay, 20 times?
Over 20 times. Over 20. Okay. So 20 would be a fail for me.
Yeah.
Over 20, and the reason you will warm up to it is because you will have this smartphone that allows you to take pictures of your stuff and get it up there immediately, and you got to really get into that.
Okay.
You know what's funny about that is I have a Craig prediction as well.
Oh, wow.
So,
I'm flattered.
So what do you guys think of that?
I disagree. Craig will not have a smartphone.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree only because I know my financial situation better than you do.
No. I'm just saying, you never know.
But not on a philosophical level. I don't disagree that could happen.
Disagree, and Rafe disagrees also, right?
Yep.
I think you're going to come cheap enough, Craig, where it's not going to be financially a challenge.
Well, that would be one I would be happy to see go the way of the any animal that's not the dodo.
Okay, good. Okay, round 4, the halfway round, the hump round here. Here we go. Round 4. Craig, what do you got?
Okay, ready?
Yeah.
I believe, and this prediction is based upon all the sad little faces of my students who got Wii's for Christmas.
Uh-oh.
I believe that Nintendo is going to have to come up with something totally new to try to keep any of its momentum in the face of the Kinect. And I think this will be recognizable as a next step product rather than hey, now you can get the Wii in red.
All right.
Okay, so you're going to either look at the Wii HD or like the Wii now no longer need. There's a connection, so now you no longer need the control. So something that brings the Wii or tries to bring the Wii into direct competition again with the Kinect.
So now it's interesting because I would have said the Wii HD would not have been enough to do something the next. But you're saying HD. Okay, that's fine.
I mean, if you don't think that's enough, then
no, it's your prediction.
Partial.
It's your prediction that impacts with I was almost.
But I don't understand the system platforms enough. So if you're saying that Wii HD is not enough of a next generation, then I'm okay.
Well, it means they got to build a new box, and everybody's got to buy a new one. So you know what? I'm going to agree with you, Craig, because I actually think I almost made that prediction myself. I think Nintendo. I would have been firmer. I would have said Nintendo's in trouble, and the DS 3D DS is not going to be enough to cut it. They need something for the Wii platform soon.
Yeah.
So
I need to clarify with Craig. The whole company of Nintendo will take an interesting next step, or just connected to the Wii?
The Wii in the yes, connected to the Wii.
All right.
That includes dropping the Wii, right? Making something totally new, right?
Yes, if they drop the Wii altogether and they try something new.
That counts. Yep. That counts. A new console.
Yes.
Okay.
Even just announcing,
I disagree.
All right, cool.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, because they did make the 3D. So if I might have agreed if we talked about a different kind of handheld or something like that. But just sticking to console, nope. They're going to crank them out as they are.
All right.
All righty.
So Granger, what are you thinking in round 4 here?
In round 4, I took your guys' suggestion. I junked my round 4. If you want to know what it was, I'll tell you. And I am supplanting it with, in 2011, Uwe Rosenberg will release a game set in space.
Okay.
A game in space.
Huh.
Yep.
Now, why do you feel that? Sort of a strange prediction.
Oh, you're trying to glean my inside information to know if you're going to agree or disagree.
I am, because last year we made a statement that we had no inside information. Is that still true this year?
Oh,
it is for me.
I have no inside information.
It is for me also. Just
I'll tell you what it's based on.
Yeah.
I want to know why there's a Mars mat and an alien thing in Agricola.
All right. So
I think something's up there.
Huh.
What do you think, Craig?
I'm no opinion.
No opinion. No. You know, I really want to disagree, but I think I'm taking a lot of risks here. But you know what? I'm gonna
go ahead. Go out on a limb.
I'm gonna disagree. That's just that's not his thing, man. This guy releases games about pea pods and stuff. He's not going.
I know,
space.
But they're going to be in space.
No, not totally themed. That's not his base market. I disagree.
All right, disagree then.
I do.
Well, there you go.
I do. I strongly disagree. Darn it. Craig, make it strongly. Make it so.
There you go. There you go. The gentleman from Nashua disagrees
strongly, with great vigor. All right. The
gentleman from Nashua would like to enter a vote of no confidence.
All right. So this is my first tech prediction, And this is sort of based on some tech podcasts I've been listening to, so I can't really claim total credit for it, but I'm going to agree with this assertion that instead of convergence, so convergence is out.
Yeah, okay.
The new thing now is ecosystems. All right?
Huh?
So the idea is that your Google TV and your Google Android phone and your Google Chrome browser on your PC or your Google operating system on your PC or your new netbook or your new Google Pad will all be able to communicate very, very easily. So the big thing is going to be they're going to advertise not that this one device does everything, but that you want to keep buying Apple products or you want to keep buying Microsoft products or you want to keep buying Android products because that ecosystem is all connected. And if you try to switch best of breed and switch ecosystems, you're going to have trouble, and you want to stick with one.
Isn't that already sort of true?
You're seeing it now a little bit, I think, with the Windows Phone 7. This is where the idea for me came from, because if you watch the Windows Phone 7 commercials, what do they say? You can check your gamer score and get more gamer score and achievement points on your Xbox with the Windows Phone 7. So I think it's going to become bigger than that, though. It's not going to just be Microsoft. It's going to be everybody's going to talk about that.
Craig, I think it used to be true specific to PCs in their peripherals. That you had, if you had a PC, you couldn't buy, a Mac printer.
No, that's not what I meant, though. I meant if you've got Apple TV, then you want the other Apple stuff to go with the Apple. What Russ said, I thought it had already happened, but okay.
No, it hasn't happened sort of cross different devices.
Gotcha.
All right, so what
I'm going to agree.
You're going to agree?
That's a no-brainer.
Rafe's agreeing?
Yeah, I'm going to agree simply because I thought that was already the case.
All right, so maybe I took a softball. Well, that's all right. See, that's good about the system, though. If you both get a point, then my win's only by one. See, look at that.
Right, yeah. Well, two. But
all right. So, details. Don't bother with math.
Don't bother me with math.
Can't be bothered with math.
Okay. Well, I think I have a softball coming.
All right, here you go. Round 5. Time for Craig's softball. What do you got?
Okay, ready? I believe that by this time in 2012, Looney Labs will have come out with at least 2 more versions of Flux.
Huh. That's interesting.
2 more versions
They
of
do
Flux.
it all the time. They churn out Fluxes like
between January
in the
2011?
next year,
Okay.
in the next 12 months, there will be 2 more versions of Flux than there are right now.
That's kind of a softball.
I think that's a softball, just because that's their go-to thing now.
All right.
Never mind.
You can add. What do you want to add?
No. I was going to add an editorial comment.
Well, you can add an editorial.
Myself.
People listen for editorial comments.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I'm going to say I'm kind of straight edge, and I'm going to say that when I go into your store and I see Stoner Flux, it makes me think a little bit bad of you. I'm just going to say that.
All right. Okay.
It's editorial, like I said.
No, it's editorial.
It's the way I roll,
all
man.
right.
I'm straight edge.
Straight
Especially when the Looney Labs sign says friends and family plus Looney Labs equals fun. Because I don't think friends and family when I think Stoner Flux.
Yeah,
So.
I kind of agree with you on that.
But anyway, go ahead.
So, Rafe, do you agree or disagree?
I have no opinion. Even though that's probably easy, I have no opinion.
Yeah, I'm going to go no opinion either.
Oh, okay.
I can't quite
Free
decide.
points
I don't think
if I get it.
All right.
Right.
Rafe, what do you got for round 5?
All right, round 5, Dystopian Wars XCAM will be played. This will be the game that resists Magpinus.
Really?
Yep. And here's how we're going to measure it. In 2011, there'll be a winner.
Ooh,
So it'll conclude.
Very nice. The We Got a Pair group XCAM will actually conclude.
Yep.
Wow, I hope you're right. That's awesome.
With a winner, and not a winner by default. Like, well, I would have won if it would have.
Yeah, no, I got it. You got the full control points to win. Yeah.
And I like it, too, because the world can extrapolate this as the game's going to have staying power, and we're going to measure it locally. But we're thinking it's going to be a staying power thing. I like it, Craig. So, Rafe, Rafe, so what do you think, Craig? Are you going to agree with that?
I am going to be the optimist that I normally am not, and I'm going to say I agree.
I'm going to agree, too, even though I think that strategic one I mentioned earlier might pull everybody away.
But that's not going to come out in the next few months.
No, that's true. And you've got the XCAM set up for shorter play times. That's good. All right, so that was out. So that's my turn. Round 5. Here we go.
Here we go.
Here we go.
Okay, this is sort of like race prediction. In 2011, we will play the Dresden Files RPG, and we will like it.
Like you mean one like a one-off?
Yeah, we'll
Or
at least
you
play it
mean-
like Death Watch. We'll at least play it for an evening or a day or whatever, and we will like it.
Okay.
Well, it's sort of a wishful thinking one. I really want to play
Is
the
this
game.
the softball round?
Well, I don't know if
not with Dystopian Wars, that's for sure.
Well, no, we've had it since June.
I
We haven't
know.
played it yet. So
Now, when you say we, is it all three of us?
yes,
And what happens if, like, one of us could have come, but then we couldn't because of life?
I think then we'll have to award me partial points or something. You guys can figure that out. I will defer to the judges on that.
Huh. I have to say that sitting here today, I don't have a desire to play it.
That's okay.
But you're right, I could. Under the
We had
right
a big line waiting to play it, and then it just came right before Gen Con, and we couldn't make it happen, and now we've kind of fallen away. So are you saying no, Rafe? You saying disagree?
I disagree, but that's weird because I'm one of the three. So
Yeah, I don't know about that one because he can disagree and then just tank you.
So do you think I can say as long as one of us plays it, it counts?
yeah. I think two out of the three is a success.
Okay.
Yes.
And Craig, do you agree or disagree?
I agree because I can make it work and get a point that way.
Oh wow! Look at that meta game. Love it. All right. I like. See, this is kicked up to all kinds of notches today.
Yep.
All right. Round 6 now.
Round 6.
Round 6. Craig is up.
Okay.
Are these getting serious now? Are these getting serious here?
I'm back to doom saying.
Oh, here we go. Eeyore's back.
boy.
Okay.
In the style of Eeyore, please make an
Warhammer
explanation.
Historicals. Okay.
Yep.
Currently nearly homeless but living under the bridge near Forge World will be discontinued by the end of the year, and this can be quantified either as there really is no Warhammer Historicals at the end of 2011, or there have been no new Warhammer Historicals products in the last 6 months of 2011.
So there's no new products. What was the other one?
Or they announced that it's over. That they either GW
Yeah,
they might
right.
just kill it without saying they killed it, or they might announce that they no longer supporting any of the
Was
Warhammer
it
Ancients.
8 months? No products for 8 months. Is that what you said, or 6 months?
6 months.
All right. What do you think, Rafe? Is that?
I'm going to vote no confidence. I don't have enough to know.
So that's no
So
opinion.
no opinion. No opinion.
I'm gonna. I really want to agree. I'm gonna agree.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it's a bold prediction.
I think there's a big shakeup going
Yeah.
on right now with the whole Forge World, the what
something's
used
up.
to be Black Industries.
Something's up over there. I agree. Yeah,
Yeah.
something's going on.
Yeah.
All right, Rafe, what do you got for round 6?
Okay. A major miniature wargaming company, which I'll define in a minute, will release PDF or e-reader versions of their rule books along with their paper versions in 2011. So the companies are GW, Privateer Press, Spartan Games, Weird Miniatures, and anyone you think I'm leaving out that's a major miniature.
Battlefront.
Yep, Battlefront.
That's a pretty bold prediction. I like it. I could see the ebook happening where they charge for it. That makes some sense.
Yep, that's what I mean.
Yeah, I'm with you. So, Craig, what do you think? You agree?
And it's the full rule book, not a supplement,
Right.
not...
This is the whole. I've really been wanting that now. I've noticed that since I've got everything else in my. Plus,
too.
if they change it, it's all up to date. I don't have to.
Right. I think I'll agree.
I'm gonna.
I mean, it's going to happen eventually. It might not happen in 2011. It'll happen eventually. So I'll say yes. I agree.
I'm going to agree also. So X gets the square.
All right.
All right. So I like that prediction. Rafe, that was a good one. These are good predictions this year. I think they're pretty good.
Yeah, I like
If I do say so myself. My predictions are not so good, though. So we'll see how this wins. We're in round now. What round are we in here? 6. Round 6. All right. This is my first sort of not entirely optimistic prediction.
Okay.
I want this to not be true, but I'm a little nervous. This year, the War Machine video game will launch, and it will be okay, with air quotes. Okay. Meaning what I mean by okay is War Machine fans will love it, but it won't be like Dawn of War and attract new fans to the hobby. And we're going to judge it because the Metacritic scores will be in the 70s.
Okay.
Okay.
All
All right. It's a way to judge it.
So I'm 2-part prediction. It's coming out this year, and Metacritic scores will be average. And I think War Machine fans will be like, "This is the best thing ever," but non-War Machine people will be like, I don't
Okay.
know. What do you guys think?
Okay.
I like it. I will agree.
You will? Oh,
I'm
nice.
going to agree.
Wow. I don't know if you guys would think of it.
No.
What do you think?
No,
Explain your
I'm gonna
thoughts, Rafe.
disagree.
What are you
I'm gonna
thinking?
disagree.
Why are you disagreeing?
They're going to pull it out.
So you think it's going to be Metacritic scores higher than 70s? In the 80s?
What's Metacritic score? Do you mean GameStop score?
No. Metacritic is a compilation site. What they do is they take an average of all media, and let's say like GameStop gives, or let's say GameSpot, the rating site, gives a game an 80, and let's say Game Informer gives a game a 90. The Metacritic score would be the average of those two scores would be 85. So it's just an averaging site of all the different media outlets.
All right. Yeah, I'm going to disagree.
Fanboy.
Mm-hmm.
Metacritic is in the 80s, or 70s.
70s.
And Rafe is disagreeing.
Yes.
All right. Wow, Rafe. So why do you think it's going to be awesome? Or very, very good?
I think gamers are going to like it. If they can pull off the Warcaster War Machine and jumping in and out of each, which sounds kind of fun, I think non-War Machine players will like it.
Yeah, I think it's out of the mainstream enough that it's not going to hook people.
Mm.
And I really do think that the aesthetic is not universally acclaimed.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going out there.
Although steampunk is kind of getting hot, it feels like.
I know. I think, and in fact, steampunk is coming up in one of my
so it might be
upcoming ones.
Well, is it round 7? What do you got for round 7, Greg?
No, round 7 is not steampunk.
We saved it for last.
Are we ready for?
I think we're ready for round.
I'm ready.
Okay. Because of the next Pirates of the Caribbean movie, I believe that at least one mainstream pirate minigame will come out by the end of 2011. It'll be something. It might not be a company that we're regularly familiar with, but it'll be something that is readily available at at Myriad or from the War Store or something like that. It'll be some mainstream thing that people are generally aware of.
Now, will this not be? But it won't be an existing company necessarily. It could be a brand new company.
It could be a brand new company. I'm just leaving that open as a possibility. It could very well be somebody that we know.
So it's going to be carried in stores, though. It's not going to be super obscure.
Yes, it's not going to be super obscure. It's going to be something that everybody goes, oh, yep, that came out.
Huh. I don't know about that. What do you think, Rafe?
And it won't be one of Will's bizarre
French board
skirmish games.
Yes.
I don't know anything about it. I'm going to have to go with no opinion again. Take the safe route.
See, there you go.
Now, this is going to be interesting because I love my pirates. In fact, I'm really enjoying Masters, Merchants, and Marauders. And I like Pirates of the Caribbean so much, I'm going to see the next movie, even though I'm nervous they're jumping the shark. However, I just don't. I think the pirate craze ended a few years ago. You know, when Privateer did the pirate faction and everything. I don't see another one happening. I'm going to say disagree.
All right.
Wow, he's going with disagree.
I'm going to disagree on that one, even though I like my pirates. I really do.
That's true. You do like your pirates.
It hurts me. It pains me to say that.
Yes, really, I can tell.
It's deep. It's a deep hurt.
Well, I mean, for what it's worth, I'm not sure this is going to happen either because in order to have the reason that, because there is a bizarre, obscure French pirate skirmish game that everybody wants us to try, and I have no interest in at all. Because what good is a pirate skirmish game without a boat?
Exactly my point.
And that's so technically, if one of you had made this, I would be disagreeing right now. But
interesting.
Nice. So
that's very bold.
Up.
That's very. Yeah. You know what, Grafe? I would like to offer you a +1 on that one if it comes true.
Except that my name is Craig.
Craig, sorry. Yes. So
he's got it wrong all night. Our listeners are going to be so confused.
I'm a little confused this evening. So
he can't tell when you're not looking straight at the
right.
person.
Right. That's right.
+1 for difficulty.
All righty.
Or unlikelihood.
Right. Well, that was totally me going out on a limb. So.
All right. So Granger, what do you got for round 7?
I'm ready for my next one. Craig totally defined it for me in one of his earlier ones.
Okay.
The D6 generation will have another interview with someone cool and totally unexpected, like our David Weber interview in 2010.
And that's not including the one we already have in the works?
Not including.
Okay.
And by the way,
because folks, we have inside knowledge on this one. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, I was going to say. I mean, nothing has been confirmed yet.
Right.
But let's be a teaser, guys. We got another big one coming.
No. This is like Paul McCartney is on the D6G. Is what I mean.
Wow. So how do we quantify this? How do we
quantify it the same way Craig said? We will just know. So I'm thinking if it's somebody in the gaming industry, no, that doesn't count. Even if it's an amazing grab. No, it like David Weber's not in the gaming industry.
Right.
All right.
He's a gamer. You see what I mean?
I'm with you. Okay. All right.
Now, does Total Fangirl count?
Nope.
No. Okay.
So it's got to be us working on our own.
Yep.
Yeah.
With no help from the Geek Girls Network.
Yeah,
Correct.
the Geek Girls Network just scored a really cool interview, actually. But But yes, it's okay. So it's us. What do you think, Craig? You agree or disagree with that?
I'm intrigued. I'm going to say no opinion because
I am.
Wait. I want to add one more caveat to that. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Will Wheaton would count.
Oh,
Right.
okay.
Because he is a gamer.
Right.
Then he wouldn't count because you said
I know.
not out of the gaming.
That's the one exception.
Oh, okay.
He's the exception that proves the rule.
No, he's just the exception.
Does it have to be okay? All right. I think we can judge this one and give you partial points if it's close or something.
All right.
All right. I hope you're right, but I don't want to curse us either way with having an opinion on that one. Sorry.
Right. Gotcha.
All right. So round 7. What did I have in round 7? I'm trying to remember. Was it a good one? I can't even remember. Oh, okay. This is not a statement of opinion. So, Rafe, Craig, I need you have to write this one down for me, okay? Because I'm gonna have to.
Okay.
This is not a statement of opinion. This is simply an informed, well thought out, and very logical prediction.
Okay. I'm writing this down.
Yes. Ready? Here we go.
Okay. Yeah.
I want 3D to die. I want it to. I mean, no. I'm going to predict that 3D will lose its hotness. Movie studios have overextended the cost of watching film and ruined great theaters in New Hampshire like Chunky's.
Why is Chunky's ruined?
Chunky's is tanking.
Oh,
when
is it?
Chunky's recently added. Okay, little background here. I have time. I'm gonna wax poetic. Here we go. Ready? So Chunky's.
What have we done?
Is this unique little theater chain up here in New England? And what's unique about it is you go in there and there's these tables spread out around on the floor in front of the theater, and there's these giant leather car seats that you sit in.
Yes.
And then there's these long tables.
I believe they're Cadillacs.
Yes, exactly. And they lean back.
Leather Cadillacs.
And they serve your food. Now, up until recently, they didn't have any 3D technology. So any film shown there was always in 2D. And what was nice was the movie prices were actually very affordable, the tickets. It was just the food was about Applebee's prices,
right.
give or take. Now, though, they've added 3D technology to the movie, to the theater. And now the ticket prices are comparable to other movie theaters, and the food prices have gone up, and the portions have gone way down.
Oh,
it's awful. They're trying to cover the cost,
offset that 3D.
And I just don't like. I wear glasses. I don't like glasses on my glasses. I just don't.
Yep.
Okay, and I don't think people want 3Ds in their TVs in their home with glasses. So I think I would just. Can this fad just end? I'm sorry. It will end. That's my prediction. And my measure is going to be that more and more theaters will offer more affordable 2D versions of the movie. I know that some of them do now, but some of them don't. I think it'll be very common for every major release to have a 2D offering at the theater it's in.
That's odd because most of them do. So how are you going to quantify
most of them
this?
do.
No, like Chunky's doesn't. See, that's the thing. Certain places don't.
Right, but Chunky's is not your normal theater, as you've just said.
Well,
Chunky's doesn't have a lot of extra space.
I'm going to let you, this is going to be my vague one you guys have to quantify. It's going to feel like the 3D thing is over.
You're onto something, but I think it's just 3D will die.
Okay. Well, it'll still be around by the end, unfortunately, but it's just going to be less. People are going to get less excited about it. They're tired of paying $15 a ticket, basically, or more.
So, do you want to give percentages of like I think there were over 100 movies announced that were going to be in 3D. So,
yeah, just more theaters are going to offer 2D. I'm just going to let it quantifiable. That's what I'm going. I'm just going to leave it white out there. This is my flaky one. I'm not too proud to admit that, but I want 3D dead. I mean, I'm predicting.
They already do. That's the weird thing.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
Well, no, some don't.
You have to look around. Like at Cinemagic, they almost always do.
They almost all do, exactly.
I don't know that all of them do. You check it out.
I'm not saying they all do. I'm just saying the local theater closest to me.
See, I think what we should do is get a percentage of how many they say are going to be in 3D, and then they end up.
All right, the percentage will go down. How's that? Of some number, 20%. 20% drop in 3D movies.
How do we?
There you go.
How do we quantify that?
And we'll Google it.
Because there'll be some article that says there's a 30% drop in 3D.
This is my vague one, okay? Throw me a bone. I just want this to happen. I want it to be over.
Okay.
Oh, and the other thing, too, is, the one way, too, is TVs, 3D TVs will become, you won't be able to buy a TV without 3D in it anymore, but no one's going to care. No one is going to care. You're never going to walk in your friend's house.
Yeah, 3D TVs.
And see 3D on people talking, let's watch the Super Bowl in 3D. It's not. It's
stupid.
Stupid. That's my prediction. Maybe I'm an old man. Maybe the young crowd loves the 3D thing, but I think I'm. So I'm going. So you guys agree or disagree with my vague prediction?
I agree.
Rafe agrees. I agree with what you what you think with your opinion. I'm just not sure how you're going to.
Any suggestions? I don't know how to quantify it. I don't know how to.
But yeah, so I'll say I agree.
All right. So Craig agrees.
Yep.
And Rafe agrees. Everybody agrees.
Yep.
3D should be less somehow.
Right.
And I like that because that way everybody's going to agree with me, so it's good in the end.
Right. Right. There you go.
Everybody agrees. Okay.
Yep.
Tentatively. What, you agreeing tentatively? I don't like these sidebar
Yes, I
notes.
totally am.
All right.
Because I have no idea how you're going to quantify.
I don't know either. That's part of the fun.
Okay.
All right. Craig, round 8, the final round, the lightning round. Here it
Okay.
goes.
Final round.
All right, ready to go. I'm out of my comfort zone again. I
All
just
right.
want you to know that.
All right.
Okay. And this is the one that may well tie in with Rafe's Project Titan prediction from above.
Oh, interesting.
Okay. Ready
All right.
for this?
Okay.
I believe in 2011, a major player in the video game industry will introduce a steampunk MMORPG.
Huh.
Ooh, I think that might be
Very
already in
good,
development.
Craig.
Isn't Kurt Schilling doing that already?
I don't know.
Isn't that his project,
I
Rafe?
have no idea. This
Well,
is not,
you know what? Yes. Kurt Schilling's 38 Studios is. But
Yeah.
from... Wait, is they going to make the announcement this...
Is it announce or release? What is it?
Okay, either the game will be available or a full announcement will be done at least by 2011. So you'll know that
That's still
company
pretty
is-
risky because they haven't said a peep.
About
And
what
it
it really
sounds
is.
like he's
The theory is,
behind to me.
A steampunk.
And I don't know. I think
know.
it's going to be somebody bigger than that.
Now, can it be a little side MMO company, or has it got to be like I
No,
define
think
major?
It's going to be a pretty major player.
So like
Somebody that you guys would hear the company go, yep. Somebody I
Could be
would
Titan,
probably
right?
know.
yeah,
Right,
could be-
I know what he means. He means Sony
Right.
Online, like who just did
All right.
DCU
We can-
or Warner
we
Brothers
can
or
get that one.
Turbine or 38 Studios or
right.
See,
Blizzard.
I don't know 38 Studios, but
All right. So Rafe, what do you think of that? That's pretty interesting. That's a good. That's a
You
good
know what?
prediction.
I'm going to
Craig. I like it.
disagree. I like his prediction so much, but I'm going to disagree.
okay.
I
just
like
think
it.
steampunk is on the rise, and
Steampunk is on the
MMORPGs have been
Because it
released
could be
upon-
Project Titan is steampunk.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, that's what you got to make the call right now. You got to decide: is steampunk in Blizzard's heart?
All right, I'm going to go no opinion.
Yeah, I'm going no opinion. Also, I think that's a good prediction, Rafe. Craig, I really like it, and that's why when you see no opinions, I think it's a good prediction. Good one.
Yeah, I agree.
Gotcha.
I just liked it that he keeps calling you me, Craig.
I've noticed
Sorry.
that myself.
He's
I'm not
taking
100 percent in tonight. Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm trying to look cold here. Give me some break.
Oh, that's right. I don't feel well.
I don't feel well. I'm using
All
an
right,
excuse.
this one is going to take some defining.
All right.
Now, this has to be a two-part. This does have to be a two-parter because it involves Russ and Craig. My number 8 prediction is Russ will continue to admit that he does not like to play Euro games.
I've never said that.
I know.
Yeah,
I want
knew
that on the
you were
record.
gonna
I've
like
never
the
actually said I don't like Euro games. It's not. You keep saying that. I don't know. Just say that.
So,
And it's weird because he does have that reputation online.
All right,
but
So I know
know
because you
he
keep saying but it's
says-
not true. I own several.
this is what he says he likes to play: Pillars of the Earth, and I guess Dungeon Lords.
And Galaxy
Right.
Trucker.
That's a Euro game.
Yeah. And I like Dominion with the new expansion there. I don't know if that's Euro or not, but I like it. I like Carcassonne is very Euro. I like that game. I like there's a lot of Euro games I like. I just don't like I don't like your Euro games.
All right. Well, I can still stick to this.
So what's the prediction? Please reword it. I got lost there.
Here's the prediction.
All right.
It does not hinge on whether you like them or not.
Okay.
You will play and say that you liked 4 Euro games in 2011. And like will
Are
be
we
defined
talking
as
review in this on the show?
no,
Just playing
no,
like-
like he'll play whatever the new Galaxy Trucker that hasn't been invented yet.
Right.
And Russ's definition of liking is he'd play it again.
Oh, you know what Euro game I love? I love Founding Fathers. That's
Right.
totally Euro.
So I'm saying.
I love a lot of
in
Euro games.
2011,
Yeah.
you will
4?
admit to liking 4 Euro games. That's the
Okay.
prediction. That's
Yeah,
it.
I think that's pretty strong. That's a strong prediction.
I think that's a pretty. I think that's a softball. I think there were at least 4 in 2010.
I think so
Okay.
too. So you going
I'm
to
saying
agree,
it was
Craig?
hard.
Are you going to
Yeah,
agree?
I agree.
I'll agree also.
Okay. Here's my second half. Craig will still not be on Facebook, and he will
better-
not use Twitter other than for receiving messages.
See, he's getting in another one. That has nothing to do with the first
Yeah,
one.
no, you can't have 9 predictions.
It's
No.
an A and a B. It's a Russ and a Craig.
Okay.
Okay?
I don't know.
Wait, and there's even a better one for Craig. If I had
Here,
to
wait,
pick one, I'll pick
wait.
Craig.
You can do this, but you only get 1.5 maximum score for each of these predictions.
I'll drop Russ and pick Craig.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Craig, here's my full prediction for full points.
Yes.
Craig will not be on Facebook. He will not use Twitter for sending, so we can use Russ's measurement if you want.
Less than 20, you're saying?
Mm-hmm.
He used it last year,
20
but only a
less.
few times.
Wow, so that's a 6-point swing right there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I don't know
Yeah.
how it will happen. It might be in some sort of crazy bet or something. I don't know. He will play a full game of Agricola or
What? You
Lahar.
can't. What? This is not a prediction.
What do you care?
You're just tacking them on. So all these must be true for this prediction to be correct.
Correct.
And you
Correct.
will play Agricola. You will not play or will play?
He will.
He will play Agricola or Le Havre.
Yep.
Somebody's
Not
got to
on
put up
Facebook.
some ridiculous bet before I play Agricola. I'm just going to say that.
And I want you to know there's no advance warning. I don't know.
That tells you right now for when we do Extra Life next year.
That's what I'm thinking. Someone was. I was.
I'm going to tell you
someone's
right
gonna
now,
bet
it's going to
they
cost way more than $100 to
because
get
they bet Russ.
All
So I
right.
thought they might bet Craig.
All right. So it's a
He
new
won't turn him down in the face of the kiddies.
new bet, right? New prediction here, Craig. So that you will not. Here are the three components of this that must be true. You must not be on Facebook, and I guess Karen's account doesn't count.
Nope. Karen's account does not
right,
count.
Will not have a personal Facebook account. You will not use Twitter more than 20 times,
Yeah.
and you will play Agricola or Larve.
No, hold on. He already uses Twitter to receive.
Yeah. He won't post.
Oh,
more than
posting,
20.
I get it.
Right. Yeah. Post less than 20 times.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Yeah,
I
have to
disagree.
I have to disagree because I've already predicted contrary to that. And plus, the Agricola thing's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Disagree. All right. Everybody disagrees with that. Rafe, I'll give you points for boldness, but
That is bold.
But in fact, I think we should give him +1 if that's true for the difficulty.
Yes,
level.
absolutely.
That's a strong trifecta, isn't it?
If
It
that's
is,
true,
yes.
then yeah. All right. So my
And
final.
I don't think I don't have my own coalition of wealthy listeners who will back me up with cash. So if somebody says, I'll pay you $100 to play Agricola, don't think I can't come up with some names that'll pay $200 so that I don't have to.
Wow.
All right. I'm
Well,
not
that
that
out
game
there right
assistant.
It's all good for Extra Life. That's what I'm saying.
Exactly.
All
So
right.
folks, right now I'm asking you to start putting away your pennies. Save me from this prediction.
Right. Are you ready for my final prediction? And it's actually in gaming. Ready? Here we go.
Yeah.
I am predicting the return of a former giant.
Huh.
Are you ready? WizKids will have a great year this year. Their 2 new Star Trek games will do exceedingly well, especially the away team version. I got to see both these things demoed at Gen Con, and I have to say they are fantastic.
Yeah, that did look cool.
So WizKids will have a resurgence. People will know who they are again, and the Star Trek games will do very well, especially the away team one, at least the away team one. What do you guys think of that prediction?
I'm going to agree with you. I like it.
Yeah, I'll agree. Because I wasn't there, so I didn't see it. But everybody who was there said it was wicked cool.
All right, so I want to see WizKids back on the map because they're a cool company. I was sorry to see them have trouble. So both agree. Craig agrees, and Rafe agrees.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's all. Is that any other predictions? I know Rafe's probably got 10 more. But
I do. I have some wishes to the universe. Can I say
Okay,
them
yeah,
now,
sure.
or
These
do you
are
want me to-
not count. These are just fun. So why don't you
Okay.
wish the universe? Here you go. Rafe
All right.
wishes the universe.
I have 2. My wishes to the universe is, remember I said I wanted to have coffee with Cher? Well, I would.
Share?
I would want that. Yeah, remember?
No.
Oh,
She
you guys
would,
are making
by
fun
the
of me.
way, she would count if you got her an interview on the show. She would, she
Yeah.
would count for
What
your
is your
other.
connection with Cher?
I have no connection with Cher. There was one point in a prior show where I said I would have coffee with Cher, and you guys thought that was ridiculous.
Okay, all right.
I still kind of do.
Okay.
Of all the
Well,
people,
my
of all the
real
wishes for the
person-
universe, I mean, world peace, whatever.
Yeah, no.
Coffee with Cher.
Accepting world peace and all that.
All
nonsense.
right, okay. Accepting all the America,
Well, the person I do want to have
suicide
coffee with Cher, but the real person I'm going to have coffee with is Susan Sarandon. So I'm just putting that out.
Wow, that's quite a quite a duo.
That is
I've
quite
always
a
had
duo.
a little something for Susan Sarandon for some reason.
Really?
I have to say, I kind of wish I'd like to be a fly on the wall for that room.
Oh, maybe I'll invite you in.
For that little tea party.
Yeah.
just just hear what's going on there with Susan
Yeah.
Sarandon, Cher, and Hollywood.
And my second wish to the universe for 2011 is I want to have, like I said before, a voice acting gig for the three of us in a movie that is at the Sundance movie level or above.
Wow.
Or
2011?
Yeah.
Wow.
Or an
Wow.
Xbox game.
That's quite a departure there between Xbox. I mean, I'm an Xbox fan, but I think the Xbox game voice bid is quite a bit lower than perhaps being.
Well, no,
the
there's a
Sundance
lot
movie.
of drag that goes on at the Sundance Film
Then
Festival.
we qualify. Excellent.
Yeah.
We can do Drek.
There's a lot
Do
of
you
not
guys
so
have any
horrible
wishes?
stuff.
Wait, I can do Drek. It's okay.
Do you
I'm
have
in.
any wishes that you want to wish out to the universe for 2011?
What do you got, Craig? Besides world disaster.
Yeah, besides world peace.
I'm very, very disappointed with Hollywood right now. It would be awesome if not Rafe Hollywood, but
Oh.
it would be very cool if
I was like, oh wow, don't hold anything back.
No, not you. I don't call you Hollywood. So there you go. I think it would be really cool if the Earth would try to shake Hollywood off of its crust. So
Wow.
it'd be really neat if there was some sort of earthquake. No, nobody hurt. I don't want anybody hurt. But it would be really cool if like the sign was damaged.
Wow, but we lose Yak Face though. He's out there.
No. Like I just said, I don't want
All right,
anybody
okay,
hurt.
all right.
I have a lot of friends out there too. I don't want anybody.
okay,
and
no injuries.
Yeah,
Yeah.
up there. I want the sign damaged.
Oh, I see the sign.
So the Earth will. So everyone on the planet will know. Ooh,
Maybe that's your disaster. Maybe the Hollywood sign will collapse.
Ooh, it could be.
That could count.
Very well be.
That could count. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, that
All right.
and let's see. What else would I would love, okay, if the actor whose name escapes me, who plays Spartacus on the Stars TV show, if he would come back to the show healthy,
Oh, okay.
that would
That's
be
a
good
nice
for
thought
me.
from Eeyore.
His
there.
name is Andy. His name is Andy Whitfield, and he came down with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma right
Oh,
at the
dear.
end of the
Yeah.
first season. And,
Are you ending on a downer again? I mean, I hope the guy's better
No,
too. But I'm just saying.
no.
this
I
is-
hope because
All right.
they basically, it was really cool what they did because I mean they wanted him obviously back for the next season because it was a wildly successful. It has Xena in it, by the way,
Oh, nice. I'm gonna turn it on
and
now.
really really disturbing sex scenes. But that's beside the point.
Wow.
Are you saying you want to have coffee with Xena?
No, I am
Lucy
not,
Lawless.
actually.
Little Lucy Lawless coffee.
No, I'm all set.
We can add
I've
her to
already
Susan.
seen more of Lucy Lawless than I ever need
We
to
can
see.
add her to Susan Sarandon and share for you, Granger. Maybe
That'd be great.
that'd be quite a conversation.
That trifecta. No, but so what they did was when he fell ill, rather than just stop the series or go on without him, they did a short season which starts this month, which is a prequel season.
Okay.
Hopefully giving him enough time to get well. And he was well, but just when they were going to start filming again, he had a relapse. So I'm hoping that, and now they've said they're looking for a new guy, and they're going to hope, hopefully they're going to hope for the best, but we're hoping, but we're going to move on. So I'm hoping that it's in secret that Andy Whitfield, excuse me, is going to end up being Spartacus again in the Stars TV show. That would be
There you
really
have it.
cool to me.
That's a very thoughtful wish.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Wait,
And Ross, do you have any wishes to the universe?
My only wish is that 3D would die. That's really, really what I want to happen. I really, I think the real world is 3D enough for me. I don't need fake 3D.
That's very true. To be honest, I haven't seen a 3D movie since Avatar. I didn't go see any of the 3D movies.
See, I had to see Tangled. The girls wanted to see Tangled, the new Disney movie,
Right,
and we went to Chunky's, and you had to watch it in 3D because they didn't have a 2D version.
There you go.
Ah, it's awful.
But you went to Chunky's.
Yeah, if you'd gone to
That's what I'm saying. They're ruining my favorite theater. They're ruining it.
right, but if you'd gone to Cinemagic, you would have
Right in. Let them know, people. There's theaters out there that don't offer another choice. They want you to pay the extra money. I'm telling you.
Right.
It's a conspiracy theory. That's all I got.
All right.
All right, that's our predictions. Have a good 2011, everybody.
Have a good 2011, and let's hope nothing awful happens.
Let's hope.
You're listening to the D6 generation. We just love playing around.
And then, of course, there's the War Store, bringing the war to your door since 1999, and that's a decade or more. And let's not forget also that they have a huge presence at TempleCon.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, in fact,
their website is full of announcements on all the cool stuff going on at TempleCon this year.
they're really the shop at TempleCon. When you think of buying
really
supplies at TempleCon, or most cons actually, because the war store's there, you can find just about anything you need there.
It's true. Adepticon, same thing.
You know what they don't have, though?
What do they not have?
D6G tape measures.
Would you let the tape measure go? You just got to let it go, right?
Yeah, and let's not chat it up on their dime either. How about that?
Well, they do have tape measures, though.
And they do. And, and also, not just the cons, though, but you can also find all their stuff at thewarstore.com.
That's right.
And
thewarstore.com.
They feature products from all the major manufacturers: Games Workshop, Privateer Press, Spartan Games, Battlefront. Some of the best prices on the net. You really can't beat what you get at the War Store.
You cannot.
And I like their website organization. It's so easy to find stuff.
They're not only are they a great store, but they're also a great resource for looking for pictures of things and what's coming up and things like that.
And we were talking about P3 paints earlier. They're one of the few places you can actually find the entire selection. So it's another handy thing as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
I didn't know that.
That's right. So are you in need of anything remotely resembling war? Then go to Vic at the War Store.
Is he the Viking dude? The little Viking
He's
guy?
the little Viking. Yes,
Oh,
way
see,
to go.
I
Way
didn't
to
know
drop that little
I didn't know his name was Vic. Well, now we know. And knowing is half the battle.
Yeah, well,
Who would win in a fight between Vic and General Foamy?
I would go with Vic.
I have no opinion.
I'm Rafe Hollywood Granger, and this is the Hollywood Minute.
This is Rafe Hollywood Granger. I'm aboard the 40K space vessel Eisenstein Communications Array Specialist. I've just received word from Horus himself. The following message. Call of the Dice, the Brighton and Hove gaming community. Do you live in the southeast of the UK or know anyone who does? Come on down to the Victory Pub in Brighton, Sussex on Tuesdays from 5 p.m. We play War Machine, Small World, 40K, Blood Bowl, and many more. Look us up on Facebook and just search for Call of Dice. End message.
So today's Hollywood Minute's going to be a hodgepodge of a couple of ideas. I guess first off, I have to say, really, really enjoying the Death Watch Space Marine book that Ross Watson and his crew over at Fantasy Flight Games have put out. I mean, seriously, I have never enjoyed a role-playing book as much as I have this one. I'm the guy who buys the books for the rules. I don't sit and read them like a novel. And for Death Watch, I keep going back and I just read it just for the Space Marine fluff. I mean, it probably has to do with a lot of nostalgia, too, on my part. Being that 40K was my first real miniature game that I got into. As you know, that's where I met Craig and Russ and Ragnar and the boys and Dave and just a really good, strong Jeremy, too. Good, strong memories and getting involved in the fluff by reading each of the codexes. I mean, I can remember there was a time when one codex, I think it was the new Space Marine Codex for, I can't remember what edition, maybe 3rd edition, and we all took the day off and drove down to one of the GW stores or something. I could be mixing the facts together, but I remember taking a big old day off just to read either the new edition or something. And then there was a very fun and famous day. We went to Games Day in Baltimore when GW was at its peak. In my mind, as far as Games Days went, I mean, there was this huge, massive diorama of Imperial Guard, and the water effects look like water effects, and some very fond memories. I'll let you in on a little joke. You can now be part of the DACA crew. That was back when we had the DACA website was strong. I'm not sure if the store was open yet, the brick and mortar store, back when Russ owned it. And there was a very funny instance where Craig's best man in his wedding, you've heard him mention it a couple times, his name's Joe Skandarian. I never even met the guy in my entire life. Well, somehow we ended up sharing a bunk. And I believe Judd, a guy by the name of Sporky, who I just reconnected with, which is great, he was part of our crew, and he was like snoring like a buzzsaw. I think Craig was in the room too. He was smart, and he sacked out on the floor, rolled up in the blankets. But anyway, all of a sudden, I'm in the bed and, trying to sleep on the edge because you know what it is. You don't want to touch another guy. And all of a sudden, man, I am gripped in a spooning position like you read about, okay? I mean, this is like what every guy who does not have a boyfriend, this is what he dreams about his girlfriend will do to him one day. I wake up and I'm like, Joe, what the heck, man? Of course I didn't say heck. I'm like, what the heck, man? What are you doing? He is sound asleep, okay? He was not... I thought he was joking. I mean, it was that strong of a spoon. And I'm like trying to get out from under his arm. I couldn't get out. I'm like swearing like a sailor. I'm like, what the heck? So all of a sudden, Craig wakes up the next morning. He finds me sleeping on the floor. And I tell him the story of what was going on, and the famous spooning story that the local Dakaites know has begun. That's the genesis. Happened at that Baltimore Games Day. Don't remember the year. It's probably like 10 years ago. Now, what happened was Joe wasn't married at the time or even had a girlfriend. He's a great guy. But what happens is I guess he had these two pugs, and so he used to they used to sleep in his bed. I guess he used to grip him like that. So, I don't know. I guess I reminded him of his pug or something, but... that's the famous spooning story that I've now shared with all of you. You can be part of our crew now. But yeah, that was the heady days of 40K, and some other stories I remember. You've heard us allude to, of course, is Russ and John, his brother, having big old fights over their games. And, this was, we all had these signature armies. I played this Space Wolf army called the Stone Dogs. I'll never forget this. I didn't know this, so I just had my army and my Space Wolf army, and I wanted to paint camo patterns like Imperial Guard. Well, I didn't know that camo patterns were not considered 40K proper, so I painted these guys in these earth-tone desert camo pattern, and I was really proud of them. And the name of the chapter was called the Stone Dogs, which is where my original gamer tag comes from, which is where Stony comes from. So, anyway, like all these people come up to me and they'd be like, dude, what are you doing? These would be like when I go to game stays and stuff. Not my local crowd. They could care less. But they'd be like, what are those? I'm like, oh, that's my own chapter. They're a version of the Space Wolves. They're Stone Dogs. Like, why are they wearing camo patterns? I'm like, oh, yeah, my fluff is they were lost in the warp, like the 13th chapter, and they adapted the camo patterns of their home world. And they're like, dude, Space Marines don't wear camo. And then I'd feel like sheepish about that. But I loved the original Stone Dogs. They were my original Space Marine army, and they had many, many battles under the Namaker of Toriah was the name of my leader, and it was usually run by a wolf priest. I sold that army off. I guess somebody thought the desert camo pattern was pretty cool because they bought it, and I still have my wolf priest model, though, my very first wolf priest model. Looking at it today, it's painted very garishly, too. That's when Russ had Michael, his librarian. It was this ultramarine guy with these big white wings. Our friend Juan Rios played an army called the Void Knights that he made up himself. And I remember a buddy of ours, Frank, you don't hear us talk about this, man, this guy could not lose. He was just an amazing, amazing 40K player. He had, the mind of an excellent chess player. Really fun guy to hang out with, too. He got burnt out at the hobby, too, and we haven't seen him since. That was 6 years ago. Dave Farr used to play the Salamanders. Craig would, of course, have all sorts of 40K armies. The ones I remember are his Penal Legion Imperial Guard. These were all Imperial Guardsmen in orange jump suits. He also had a Steel Legion Imperial Guard. That was awesome. I loved that army the best. He had this blue and earth tone or this bone camel pattern, and every single guy had the masks. That was freaking awesome. Russ mainly played the Omega Marines, the Ultramarines. Trying to think of who else. I didn't play 40K, Brian or Hearn or Matt. We didn't know them back in the day. Ragnar would always play Eldar, another excellent 40K player. Judd, who just recently kind of came back, and I saw him the other day. He used to play Blood Angels, and he used to always yell when he needed a good dice roll. He would yell out in the middle of the hall, "Sanguinis!" to try to get a good dice roll. He rolls dice like Craig. We used to have these fun events at DACA. We used to have DACA Dreadnought Arena Combat, and we would have these cool events that Ross, Craig, and Dave would make up. Another thing I remember, nostalgia, was Dave Farr and I made this really cool chaos table with these pools of liquid that were all crusted over, and we had nurglings glued, but with that bar type topper, and it looked like the whole board was slimed and just green pustules. That was an awesome table. I don't know where that ended up. And other fond memories I have is Ragnar, again, like Frank, was one of our top players. We would have leagues. It was 10-game leagues all the time with these missions that you hear us talk about. And I would lose. I would lose easily 75% of the time. Well, we went to, I can't remember if it was the same games day or if it was another GT tournament. Ragnar would remember. And there I am. It's the first round. I pull Ragnar, and I beat him. And, he was probably like, what the heck? I could beat Rafe on any given Sunday. And here we are at the GT, and I totally beat him. And Ragnar, one thing about Ragnar, man, is he is a great sport. He tipped his hat to me and says, hey, you had me on that day. But I was just like, how the heck did I win that? I guess the Matrix just opened up on me. Oh, Christian. Christian was another big 40K player. He always played the bugs. That's what I remember playing with these big hive tyrants and these freaking Hormigaunt swans and swarms and Termagant swarms. So anyway, just reading this Death Watch book and some of the new players that maybe you're like, where do these guys know all this stuff? Well, I would say the 3 sets of books you need to read if you want to get up on your 40K fluff is the Eisenhorn trilogy, which I think may even be 5 books now. I can't remember. And that has to do with Inquisitor Eisenhorn. Those are just the greatest books. The Horus Heresy books, one of these times I'll get Craig to list off the ones that we should read. The Space Wolf books are awesome, too. They just talked about the induction of a Space Marine. But if you want to start somewhere and don't want to do a novel, I really, really, really support the Death Watch book. The quality of it is unbelievable. You learn all about the fluff. You learn about the Horus Heresy. You learn about what the different organs do for the Space Marine. And, I'm reading it, and then there's this is the level of detail these guys put into it. There's this little faint reading in the back that says, strength of the spirit, and the Emperor protects, and there's just this very faint script as if the Death Watch manual was written over older pages. It's just a really cool touch. I just noticed that today. Very subtle. So good times. Good times are wrapped up in those heady 40K days, and I recommend anybody pick up the Death Watch Death Watch role-playing book and learn about the different chapters in there. Really, really fun read. As far as that goes, really looking forward to Adepticon. I'm getting my Adepticon juices going here right after this. I'm going to check the website, see what kind of events I'm going to roll in. Really looking forward to heading up there board game night and meeting Hank of the Adepticon Council. Also looking forward to TempleCon. We're going to be doing our Dystopian Wars and seeing all the local guys. We'll see Adam. I'm sure I'll see Greg Silberman. Doc's coming over. We're going to be he's joining me on my after TempleCon craps run. We're going to be doing some Sunday morning craps playing at the craps tables. I'm looking forward to that. Probably see Norbert and his crew there from the New Jersey SOBs. And other than that, looking for a pretty good con. So, I think that's all I've got for episode 72. See you in 2.
This is Total Fangirl. Regular Jane most days, total fangirl when the moment strikes. Han shot first. Starbuck is a guy. And Lestat, now there's a vampire. Hey everyone, this is Nicole, your Total Fangirl. You can find me on Twitter at Nicole Wakelin or check out my blog, TotalFangirl.com. This week's shout out is check out www.varkancluster.blogspot.com. Varkan, V-A-R-C-A-N. A great little blog by my friend Craggy and his adventures in Warhammer and Dystopian Wars. I have with me here a very special guest today. Her name is Jessica Mills, and she is the mastermind. I'm going to call her a mastermind behind the web series Awkward Embraces. Welcome, Jessica.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for coming on and chatting with us. Now, Jessica, tell us about Awkward Embraces. What is it?
Awkward Embraces is a web series based on my own life about a hardcore geek girl who's very awkward and all the dating misadventures that she and her two best friends get into.
So the idea for this comes from you. You didn't weren't inspired by anybody else. You were inspired by sort of looking in the mirror.
Yeah. I was inspired by all the awkward, because I would have all these awkward dating situations, and then the only way that you can really deal with that kind of thing is to go make it a funny story, so then you're laughing about it, even though at the time it was kind of awful.
Right?
all these awkward dating stories that I would share with people as like my little comedy routine or whatever, and so then I decided maybe we should shoot them and make them a show.
And make them a show. Excellent. Now, and what I really love about it, I mean, the awkward dating thing is funny enough if just, dating is awkward, just that's how it is. But the geek part of it, how you wrap in all these very geeky references, and how Jessica, your character's same name as you. Jessica is such a geek, and so are you, from what I hear.
Yeah.
I love it. That
Twitter for like 5 seconds, and you can tell I'm just awful geek.
Yeah, she doesn't even try to hide it, guys. So just how much, I know the real you is a geek, how much of the character Jessica, how are you that geeky? How much of her is you?
She's totally me. Like, I'm definitely that geeky for sure. Like, I love Star Trek. I love geek conversations. I'm very awkward around people I don't know very well. So if I go to a party, I usually sort of end up in a corner with like one or two other people talking about like Buffy or Doctor Who or whatever,
I love that your two people that are on the show with you, they're not geeks like you are, and they're like normal girls on the show. They don't have your geek thing going on.
Right, and they don't get it at all.
Now, I loved there's a piece of advice they give you, and I have to ask if anyone ever did this in real life, where they're telling you, like, don't bring up Star Trek that early. You can't. Is that just like something that you figured out yourself, or did someone ever actually say that to you?
No one's ever actually said that to me, and I've never really... I haven't had it be as big a problem for me as it was for Jessica.
Yeah.
But she actually, that whole scene was very funny. I like the way that we did that.
That was really well done. Is there, and watching it, I know that it's scripted, but is there a lot of improvisation that goes on where you guys just sort of started going one way and then one of you takes it another?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the structure of the scene is in the script, like what needs to be said and what has to happen and everything. But Adam just lets us go. Like once the scene is done, he just will not call cut. Like, and we'll just go on forever. Like, he'll just let us go until we're not funny anymore. And then when he goes and edits it, he picks out all the best little bits. And so most of like the scene enders, or the episode enders, all those are just improv from when he would just let us just gabble on and on and on.
Just go. Now, you finished season 1. Is it, I'm going to forget, is it 10 episodes that you had for season 1?
It's 11.
11. So you had 11 episodes for season 1. And the big news is you guys are about to start airing season 2, correct?
Yes, February 18th, officially, the first episode of season 2 airs.
Woohoo! Now, have you filmed everything for season 2 already, or are you still working on that?
We're still working on it. We filmed the first 5 episodes, and we have either 6 or 8 more. We're going to do an Indiegogo campaign. We're going to launch it next week, hoping to raise enough to finish the season. So I can do it in 6 episodes. I'd rather do it in 8, but it depends on how much money we raise. So
that's an interesting thing. So there's no one paying you, to do this. You're not a salaried actress doing all this. You wish, right? Now, how are you managing to do all this? Is everybody just contributing their time and energy to get this project done?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a lot of really passionate, awesome people. Season 1 was done totally for free. Adam and Candace and Lindsay, like nobody was paid at all. And then for the first half of season 2, I paid a few people, but the large majority of our crew were volunteers and they're great. Like they're so passionate, and it was a fun set, and everybody was relaxed, and nobody complained about the long hours. Like I was just blessed with finding just awesome people who are just passionate and happy to be there, which is really cool.
That's great that you can find people like that. Now, how long is it to record a typical episode? How much time do you guys spend on set trying to get that one episode completed?
Well, we film things out of order, kind of by location, but I would say, we had one 6-minute episode probably about 14 or 15 hours of shooting, and that's going at a really fast pace because we don't have a lot of cash.
Right. Now, did you have ridiculously long days where you were doing filming for like 12-hour, 14-hour days to get this all done?
Yeah, definitely. There were some days it would go pretty smooth and pretty quickly, and then other days, it would just be like, oh my God, like what, we've got to cut something or we're never going to get out of here, so.
Now, I have to ask you about one of the episodes, which is my absolute favorite, and I want you to describe it in brief to everyone who's listening, the donut episode.
Oh my God.
which I swear I never walk into a donut store without giggling a little bit now. Tell everyone about the donut episode.
So what happens in the donut episode is that my character has a one-night stand, which is very atypical for her. So she wakes up and she doesn't really know what to do. So she tries to leave, but she feels really bad about it. She feels like she should say something to him, and he's still asleep. So she goes and she wakes him up, and because she's nervous, she just starts babbling about the fact that she's kind of hungry and that she's going to go get a donut, and then she asks him if he wants one. And of course, because he's a dude, he's like, yes, please. So then she goes to get her one-night stand and a donut.
But where does she leave the donut? Does she knock on the door and bring it back inside and say, here's your donut, hun?
No, she freaks out and just drops it on the front porch and runs away, and then is convinced that he's going to refer to her as Donut Girl from here on out.
As Donut Girl. I think of you as Donut Girl now because that's one of my favorite things from the entire series.
We almost called the show Donut Girl. We almost did.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Now, you said that the character is based on you, so fess up. Was there a donut moment in your life?
Nicole, I knew you were going to ask me that. Yes. Because I am also not accustomed to one-night stands. One of my one-night stands, I just felt he wasn't a stranger.
Mm-hmm.
Acquaintance, so it did feel weird to just leave. And I did really want a donut because I was fully hungover. So I was like, do you want a donut? And he was like, yeah. So I didn't leave it on his front porch. I brought them back in and we awkwardly ate donuts together before never speaking again.
Oh my God. Well, at least you didn't throw it on the step. That would have been more awkward if it's someone that you kind of knew.
In hindsight, I kind of wish I had, because that was like the longest donut eating session I've ever had in my life.
But you didn't throw it on his door. And was it actually donut? Did he tell you what kind of donut to get? Was it just like, yeah, I'll just pick you up a random donut?
He wanted a glazed and a chocolate. So.
A glazed and a chocolate. Do you think he calls you the donut girl?
I don't think so. The funny thing is that he actually ended up subscribing to us on YouTube and commenting about how much he really liked the show.
Oh my gosh, did he realize that episode was him?
I don't know. He didn't say anything about it. And I think about that all the time where I'm like, does he know? Does he know that I wrote that episode about that? I mean, I have no idea. And he's a dude, so I'm sure it was just like, oh, sweet. We ate donuts, whatever. But for me, it was like awful.
A big, huge, awful deal. That's hilarious. Now, so poor Jessica and her awkward dating things. What's in store for season 2? What can people expect to see?
Well, Jessica is totally bummed about what happened in season 1 when we started out, and so the girls decide to cheer her up by they're gonna make their life mission to find her perfect mate. But of course they don't get geek things, so they don't really get Jessica very well, really, even though they love her very much. So they mess up quite a bit, and they end up putting her in situations that she would normally never be in. Like they try and convince her to do a booty call. They sign her up with an internet dating profile,
So her life manages to get, as hard as it is to believe, actually more awkward.
Yes, exactly.
Well, now tell everyone, where can they go to watch the series, season 1, which is all out there, so they can watch that, and to pick up viewing season 2 when it comes out?
Awkwardembraces.com. You can add me on Twitter and Candace on Twitter. There's an Awkward Embraces Twitter and YouTube and Facebook.
Excellent. So. Now, Jessica, before we go, I always ask questions at the end of the show. I normally do it, who would win in a fight, but I decided for you, you have to answer which is more awkward of these two things. And just boom, you got to give your first answer. You can't think about it. You have to commit.
Okay.
Okay. Who was more awkward, Wesley Crusher or Will Robinson from Lost in Space?
Wesley Crusher.
Wesley wins as the more awkward guy?
Yeah.
Oh, poor Will Wheaton.
I love Will Wheaton. I have a huge crush on Will Wheaton.
Everybody has a huge crush on Will Wheaton. If you define yourself as a woman and you're a geek, you therefore have a crush on Will Wheaton. Okay, now we're going to take it to robots. C-3PO or Crow from Mystery Science Theater 3000?
Oh.
Crow's more awkward, you think?
Oh, more awkward. Sorry, I was back on crushes. Sorry, no. Okay, C-3PO is more awkward.
So are you telling us you have a crush on Crow? We've added that to the interview, too.
Crow, he's hilarious. He cracks me up.
And the last one, who is more awkward? Jessica, not you, the character you play, or George McFly from Back to the Future?
Oh, man. I hope George McFly.
That strikes too close to home, huh? Is that what happens? Well, thank you, Jessica. I really appreciate you coming on the show to talk to us. And everyone head to awkwardembraces.com and you can see the first season and pick up viewing the second season when it comes out in a couple of weeks in February. Thank you so much, Jessica.
Thank you so much for having me.
Need to add a big unit to your current force and don't feel like painting that many grunts? Or maybe you want to start a new army and really don't have time to paint it up. That's where PaintedFigs.com can help. For over 4 years, their staff with over 20 years of experience in the industry have been providing gamers with high-quality, affordable paint jobs on miniatures for their most popular games, including Flames of War, Warhammer 40,000, Fantasy, War Machine, Hordes, and even a variety of board game pieces. Their full-service packages include the cost of the models themselves at wholesale prices, assembling, painting, and basing. And they now offer a super affordable dipping service starting as low as 99 cents per figure. Because they are able to get the models wholesale, you end up with a package appearing on your doorstep full of ready-to-play models at only a fraction over the retail price. That's why PaintedFigs.com is the official painting service of the D6 generation. Their name says what they do. PaintedFigs.com. High-quality miniature painting at the lowest rates on Earth. Even with shipping. Be sure to let them know the D6 generation sent you.
Conglomeration, Louisville, Kentucky's own multi-genre science fiction and fantasy convention. Our convention is fan-run and fan-focused, so come join over 500 other members and celebrate the best in sci-fi art, literature, new media, costuming, gaming, and more. Conglomeration is coming to the Crown Plaza Hotel in Louisville from April 22nd through 24th, 2011. For more information, visit us at www.conglomeration.info.
All right, now I think it's time to talk about our sponsor, Myriad Games.
It's always time to talk about Myriad Games. It's Myriad Game time.
Sponsoring us on behalf of friendly professional gaming stores everywhere.
Yes, indeed.
Now,
and launching GameShare Beta still, working with GameShare Beta.
Yes.
I got a story about that.
Okay, go ahead.
I should have used GameShare program Beta because my family didn't like Black Pirate.
Really?
No.
Wow. I'm shocked.
That is weird.
Not a big hit, and I was very surprised by that.
Didn't he play it with us at Myriad one time when I brought it up?
I still like it, but Lou, Emmy, and Mommy, not so much. You know what they want to play still? Ticket to Ride, which you can get at Myriad Games.
There you go. And you know what else they have? And you guys can't take advantage of this because you don't have Facebook accounts. They have Facebook Free Games Fridays.
What's that?
So every Friday, literally every single Friday, Myriad Games gives away a free game to one of their Facebook fans just randomly. So just go on there and click the like button.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, go search for Myriad Games on Facebook. It's actually facebook.com/Myriad Games. And once you've clicked like, you're in the contest every Friday. And if you win, they'll pick a game for you and give you a prize.
Okay.
Pretty cool. Yeah, I thought so too.
Well, I know Dan, he's always innovating, He's always changing. He's always changing some things
Taking
up.
advantage of that media.
I think...
what else he's changing? MyriadGames.com.
He is?
Oh, yeah, it's getting updated. Yeah, he's good.
Sweet. Major updates to MyriadGames.com coming soon.
Maybe even by the time you hear this, so check it out, because it's been in transition for a while, a little rough around the edges, but they're really kicking it up a notch now, so check that out, too.
Excellent.
And don't miss the Myriad presentation podcasts. Also
That's
great.
right.
Divided by
Broken
games.
down by topic, so you don't have to listen to 4 hours of crap
I know, like
to get
some
to the one
crazy
thing you're interested in, or at least that's what I'm told.
That's what I'm told.
Myriad Games, where fun comes in a box.
Yes.
The D6 Generation Podcast. All of the mysteries of gamer culture revealed. The D6 generation. Born to game.
Welcome back.
Again.
Yeah, right. Now we're going to talk about another mulling mechanics segment.
Doodly doodly doo.
Scenario design. How to did I say that?
Scenario.
Is that
What
English?
Are you, British?
Is that English enough? Scenario.
Scenario design.
Oh, we're going to play a scenario with our little figures. Over tea and crumpets. That might be a little inappropriate.
Embrace the madness.
Send emails to Rafe.
Send me an
Send emails to the guy with the fever.
Right. I'm a little feverish today, so, work with me. So what we're going to talk about here is we've been doing a lot of scenario design recently for Dystopian Wars. Yep. And it got us thinking that, it's kind of a fun thing to do, and a lot of people like to make scenarios for games. And Craig and I have done a lot of scenarios in our lifetime, and I think Rafe has too, based on, we used to run a lot of tournaments and leagues over the years with the stores and past things we've had. And so we kind of, I guess, want to kind of share with you the things we do to help design scenarios that are fun to play and not too intimidating for players. So, so first up, I have a question. What do we mean, Rafe, by scenario, which is also sometimes referred to as mission?
Well, to me, what it means is playing an objective in a game, usually a miniature game, other than just kill the other guy, other than wipe the other side clean. That's what a scenario means to me.
Okay. Craig, do you agree with that assessment?
Yeah, I would agree. Basically, I would say a scenario or mission is something that gives victory parameters above and beyond, like Rafe said, just kill the other guy.
Yeah. I mean, technically, anything that gives victory conditions, I think, is a scenario, even just kill the other guy. But I agree with you. I think most people would say that, like, for example, most board games have fixed scenarios because the board game itself is a scenario, but not always. Like, a lot of board war games or adventure-style board games like Battlelore and Memoir 44 and Dark Heresy and Space Hulk and Descent, all those have different...
Dark Heresy is a role-playing game.
No, it's... I'm sorry, Horus Heresy.
Horus Heresy.
Horus Heresy, right, thank you. Horus Heresy. All those have different scenarios, especially if you consider Descent as well. So think about the Descent where your adventure's doing one particular thing, that's the scenario, right?
I like that. That's good, opening up with that. I had never thought of that before.
So, but we're thinking more along the lines, although many people do come up with their own Descent dungeons and their own scenarios for Battlelore and Horus Heresy and Space Hulk, but mostly where people start cranking out scenarios are in miniature war games.
Right.
And it's really a core element of miniature war games, and it's where you hear it talked about a lot. Which mission are you playing? Which scenario are you going to run? How many scenarios are going to be in the tournament? What's the format going to be? Those are the kind of things that people talk about. And unfortunately, some game manufacturers overlook the scenario. They don't really consider it as something they get to. There's so much goes into making a new game. It just they don't get around to the scenario section of the book. And so there's either a very limited set of scenarios or none at all in some cases in the book.
Well, and sometimes that's because they believe that it's up to the players to come up with them themselves.
Right. But I think more and more miniature war games are doing good scenarios. I think like 40K and Warhammer Fantasy Battles have always had great scenarios in their books.
Yeah.
War Machine and Hordes.
Back and forth.
Well, they've always
War
had
Machine
something.
and Hordes has a lot of good ones, but they always, now is not the time to discuss War Machine Hordes.
Flames of War.
As far as I'm concerned.
Flames of War has scenarios built right in also. And Malifaux, I think, is one of the games that really, where you look at the book,
Malifaux put a lot of time and effort into scenarios.
I think they have the best scenarios.
And we should say scenarios go beyond just the objectives, because also they might include a particular terrain layout. That you're going to have a river in the middle, or a hill to take, or a fort
extra
to guard.
rules.
Right. So there could be all kinds of layers to these things. They could be as simple or as complicated as you want to make them. And so, why do we think scenarios are important? What do they do, Craig, to make the game more interesting?
Well, for one thing, they make the game shorter usually than play to the last model. To me, a scenario is everything. I want to play a really good scenario. That's where the story comes in, which is why I like playing these games.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah, you want them to be competitive. You want them to be, balanced, and that doesn't necessarily mean that they're equal in points. But there's if you have fewer points, then your victory condition should be, of equivalent ease, I guess you should say. But ultimately, it's the story. I want to play a game that's got a story behind it, not, run and kill the other guy.
Yep.
Yeah, is that what you feel, Rafe? That's sort of what you look for.
Yeah, I was going to say the cinema. So the scenario sets the cinema, because it might be capture the even if it's just a mosh pit where you capture the center objective, you can at least create. If the two players don't on their own, you can at least create. It's like, oh well, am I taking control of the center because there's a relic there that I need, or is it that I'm denying the high ground, or so? Even if it's just a simple one like that,
right.
The other thing I like to do, I like about scenarios, is it challenges the general. So now you're using your army list in a way that you might not have originally intended. It's easy to anticipate, I'm going to rush the other side, I'm going to take my superior forces against the weak side of their units and kill them. This is all of a sudden, oh, wait a minute, I got to defend and hold? I mean, that's a whole different type of thing.
Right.
So it creates new and exciting ways to build your army list and new and exciting ways to play your army once you've built it.
Yeah.
I like them also because they sort of weed out Matrix gamers.
Yes.
Yeah, you get a lot.
That's a good point.
I think that's totally legit, and I've seen that a lot recently on some forums where you're trying to be like, hey, what makes a fun blah, 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 and people are like, well, in my area, everyone knows exactly the optimum build, so we all have the same exact army, blah, 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 and your scenarios don't allow for that to be used. And it's like, oh, awesome, then you won't be playing.
Well, I think you'll run into that sometimes, right? Like people come and be like, well, that scenario's no fair because it totally diminishes the type of army I have. And it's like, well, welcome to pretend war.
Right.
Well, another good point is like going to grand tournaments, these really big tournaments, they had some awesome missions, but you always ran into some people that were like, this is just ridiculous and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, no, look, I'm here to meet new people and play cool games with some cool stories. And that's why I'm here. So like you can do a tournament and have some really cool scenarios, really cool stories. But you're always going to have some people then there, and it's totally legitimate. And that's why I think the gaming world is so great, because there's room here for all of God's creatures.
Wow. I think we need to have you in a room with Susan Sarandon. So,
Well, but somebody out there knows her well enough to say Hollywood wants to have coffee. I know it.
Wow. So I'm going to agree with both of you. I think that the scenarios, I like what you're putting down there. There's
you picking up what I'm putting down?
Picking up what you're putting down. The scenarios add variety, so the game's got different things to do. Storytelling, of course, balance and competition. You can. It's really interesting to watch really hardcore tournament players when the event pre-publishes the scenarios for the event. Because the players all get into the metagame of that. They like it. They're like, oh, because this is cool. I got to figure out the optimum list that can handle this kind of objective and that kind of objective and these kinds of objectives. And that's a fun thing if you're that kind of person.
Yep.
And again, as Rafe said, you get different challenges. And basically, I think the overall picture is it adds to replayability of the game. It extends the life of the game because it adds variety. Even when board games have scenarios, Battle Lore wouldn't be fun at the same scenario every time. So having a different scenario adds a lot more depth to the game and more replayability. So
absolutely, and I love the way that it totally redefines optimum list build, or I'm going to call it OLB. OLB. Because Rafe, how many models? I mean, how many Flames of War units do you now have that you never had before? Because you're playing these scenarios, and you're like, oh, I need more infantry if I'm going to be taking these little villages, and I just think that's awesome. It gives like you said, Russ, it gives a lot more variety to the game. The game is not, in my head, a fun game is not, I sit up on this side, you sit up on that side, we look at the terrain, and then we figure out how best to kill each other. That's not really super fun for me. I mean, it is in early days, and you're starting to get all excited at the in the first point, but exactly as you're saying, to extend the life of the game, to give it more replayability, scenarios shake everything up.
Mm-hmm. So let's say your favorite game doesn't come with many scenarios, or you've already played the existing scenarios to death, and you want to make a new one. So what we're going to do here is we're going to give you some Scenario Design 101, the basics.
Yeah.
Now,
hey, I wanted to say how I'm excited about this, too, because I was just in here thinking, and this is a totally different skill set than you use to build what we would call a scenario in role-playing or a dungeon. So this is going to be fun.
Yeah, and we want to say now that this is just based on our experience. This isn't necessarily the right way to do it. There's no right or wrong way to write a scenario.
Correct.
You do whatever you want. We're just telling you the things that we have found that work for us. But, of course, there are probably great scenarios that break some of these rules that I'm about to list. And I'm sure that even Craig and I and Rafe are going to disagree about some of the rules I'm about to list. But I think part of the fun is I think if you stick kind of close to this stuff, you won't be disappointed with what you end up with. That's sort of my theory. So I think the first thing you need to do, and you guys correct me if I think I'm wrong here, is you got to kind of figure out what the format the scenario is going to be used in. So designing a scenario for a tournament or a league or a campaign are all very different things. In a campaign, you're going to be focused more on storytelling, and maybe people would be less concerned about it being a perfectly balanced, event, a battle. Whereas in a tournament or a league, especially in a tournament, people will really be frustrated if there's some kind of prize on the line, and they drove a long way to get there, and they get to a scenario where whatever they brought simply won't function, and not because they're a Matrix gamer, simply because you built a scenario where certain lists just don't run in.
Right. Well,
so,
you forgot one. You left one out. Convention scenario.
Oh yes, exactly.
Convention
demo
events,
scenaries, right? Demo or convention, yeah.
I mean, just like the one we're planning right now.
For TempleCon, exactly, because those kind of things are going to be, and I would put, that's the storytelling or the mega battles we used to run at Dak or the idea is it's a fun event. We'll get more to that, but so figure out what your venue is going to be when you're writing your scenario. One scenario won't cover everything, probably.
Yeah.
And this is my biggest thing. KISS, not the original KISS, this is a different KISS. Keep it simple and short. I think you want your mission write-up to fit ideally on like a half a sheet to a full sheet of paper and not more than that. If you've got to break it out,
ideally less. If you're including everything you need, then
because I think you don't want to have to read a book to figure out a scenario. It shouldn't be a new game to learn. It should be a scenario. Should be something you look at, you kind of immediately identify what the goals are. You know what you're trying to do. It shouldn't be this long. Oh, we rolled up, because there's been, even when Craig and I have designed some really crazy creative scenarios, and then we'd roll them up in a league or at a special event. I'd be like, oh, it's this one. When do we roll it? Because I don't want to feel like figuring out and digging out this exact, if it's an hour to set up this particular scenario, unless you really want to do it, it feels a little intimidating. So you got to kind of weigh that. Keep it short, keep it simple, keep it understandable.
Yeah.
Try to keep the new mechanics to a minimum. Try to keep it so that people who know the game already don't have to learn anything new. I think that's important because, again, you don't want to have to relearn something or forget new rules, especially if people are trying to learn the game for the first time.
Now, I should say, and you might have this later on, but when you guys make scenarios, you guys make more scenarios than I do. When you guys make scenarios, you don't exactly break the rules, which is what I've always enjoyed about them. You use the existing rule set. Would you say that's fair, or is that part of scenario breaking?
We argue about that sometimes.
In fact, we're in the middle of an argument right now. Can't you tell? Right. Shut up, Russ. But to give an example, an excellent real-world example, we have a scenario for the Dystopian Wars XCAM where your force is trying to get from point A on the board to its home base. So it's trying to basically make a straight line for its home base.
Is it like breaking a picket line?
Nope, because the enemy is except for a small flanking force, the enemy is behind you. Okay, so they're chasing you. It's a stern chase. It's a difficult. They've got more points than you, so they've got bigger ships probably, or they're going to flank you with a greater force. Right. But you're trying to get. Your goal is not to kill them, although you do get points for killing them. But your goal is to get back to that home base.
Right. So
in Dystopian Wars, you have the option of, and this is generally taken care of in the regular Dystopian Wars, in that you need to have a small, a medium, and a large squadron. In order to play. But at the lower level of the XCAM, the recon level, you don't have that many points, and we've limited the amount of models you can have. So so we've broken that already in the XCAM, but it kind of has to, because you can't really do a small, medium, and a large when you've only got 300 points. That kind of thing.
Right.
So you've got 400 points, and theoretically you could have you could throw most of those points into, say, bombers, and then fly high in obscured, and just go straight for your home base, and nobody shooting at you is going to hit you on anything but sixes right now. Right? So that's the now the metagame beyond that, of course, is that there are models in the game that nobody has access to right now that can limit that ability. Right?
They're not out yet.
But not right now. So right now, in the world we're living in, I could take a bunch of bombers, fly them high, I'm done. You can't kill me except with sixes, and so I'm probably going to automatically win.
Right.
So what Russ and I are facing is this dilemma. How do you deal with that? My idea was, well, you know what? Just don't allow that rule in this mission. The skies are clear. Russ immediately came back with, okay, if you have subs, though, what are you going to say? The water's clear, too?
Right.
Okay. So Russ came back with some help. What Russ came back with, limit the amount of flyers that you can have. So you can have some flyers, but you have to have some other things also.
Right.
And that's the route that almost everybody agreed with.
Yeah, you go through the since you're already breaking the force org chart, you might as well just break it a little further.
Restrict composition, or we call it comp. So that's how you can deal with that. We'll come back to that more because that's a great example. So I'm glad you laid the groundwork for that.
Okay, good.
So keeping it short. So and I would also say that picture's worth 1,000 words. Back to our simple thing. So you want to include a diagram for the deployment.
Ideal. Absolutely.
So here's what I think a basic scenario should always include. Okay, you should have a short paragraph at the beginning of motivational fluff.
There you go.
Why are you fighting? There should be something. You got to give the players something fun.
A little something to sink their teeth
It could be
into.
short. It could be whatever. It could be your general's fleeing from the enemy base after a resounding defeat. What are you going to do now? And something. It could be short, but whatever. There should be deployment instructions. How do you set up your models? There should be any global scenario rules should be clear and in a special section you could easily find on the sheet. So if there's some kind of special weather effects or some kind of rule like no flying high or whatever those kind of rules are, they should be right there on the sheet.
Or like the stats for the base in that mission we just mentioned.
And then make sure that there are victory conditions clearly stated for all sides. Both sides should have victory conditions. I've actually seen professional scenarios that only have victory conditions for one side. You look at it you're like, really? What do I do? I'm the other guy. Just don't die. Is that, but they're out there. And then also game length. You should explicitly state all the conditions that cause the game to end. And this is really important because I think you want your scenario, as Craig mentioned earlier, scenarios keep the game short. So you want to make sure that let's say you have a victory condition and it's possible for the victory condition to never be achieved. Mm-hmm. Then there should be some other thing that can happen that triggers the game to end, whether it's a number of turn limit, whether it's something else that happens, if everything's destroyed, whatever it is. It can be you killed to the model, but you're not going to make a short game out of that. But whatever, some kind of way to specifically say.
Time limit.
Yeah, whatever, that it ends. So short, half-page document, those 5 things, you've got a scenario, right?
Yep.
Right.
Anything I missed?
Nope.
Nope.
Right. Okay.
I can think of the concerns that you
terrain.
get when you're there, but I think you've listed everything.
Yeah, I think board setup with you're talking about deployment, I think should also include, you're right, I did miss that. Should also include any special terrain you're going to need.
Some sort of terrain.
A hill. It should also try to specify the size of the terrain so people know what you were thinking when you made the scenario. So they don't have a 4-inch diameter hill. They know, well, he was looking for 4, so we'll try to find something that's close, whatever it is. So that's basically the simple scenario. Now, there are different scenario types. And so I'm going to kind of go down the types here and kind of talk about, and you guys, of course, chime in wherever you feel proper about these. So first kind of scenario that I like to talk about a lot is the asymmetric scenario.
It's a fancy word we're giving you.
So, Craig, what is an asymmetric scenario?
Well, Russ, I'm glad you asked. An asymmetric scenario would be a scenario where the sides are not equal, either in size or in goal.
Right.
So it is not two people trying to do the same thing or even relatively equal things with relatively equal points.
Right.
It would be a small force trying to infiltrate a giant base. It could be a convoy duty, a large force that's trying to go across the board, and you're trying to just swoop in, do some damage, and leave. It could be any number of things, really. But the key is asymmetric, meaning that the two sides are not equal.
Right. Now, Rafe, you probably have a lot of experience with asymmetric scenarios because you play Flames of War.
Yep.
Right? And and you've played quite a few scenarios with Don that are asymmetric. What do you like about those?
Well, they give a realistic feel. If you're playing historical, they also can give a nice underdog feel, so that if you are the underdog and you win, your victory is a little bit that much more sweeter.
Right.
And even if you're the overpointed force, it's still kind of fun because you might have a lot of tools at your disposal. You might be a little more relaxed, take a little more game risks, which can be fun.
Yeah, I always joke that the underdog has a slight advantage because the guy who's not an underdog is more embarrassed if he loses.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but you're right. I think the two common pros for or good points or things people like about asymmetric scenarios is they're historically accurate because very rarely in history do you have a symmetrical battle. It's very, very rare any major battle in history has ever been symmetrical. Someone's always got the advantage of some kind.
Yeah.
And also, it's new types of challenges. Most game books come with symmetrical scenarios most of the time. So if you're only familiar with those, it's a whole new way to challenge your brain around, wow, I actually don't have as many things. I have no tanks and he has 4. How am I supposed to win this? And you have to think about a way to challenge yourself. So it can be a lot of fun. But there are also things that can be frustrating about asymmetric scenarios for some people.
Yeah.
So what are some of those, Craig? What do you think?
Well, I mean, the key thing is that one side is almost always going to be at a disadvantage. You try to minimize that by having their victory conditions be commensurate with that disadvantage, but you're still going to be the underdog the entire time you're playing.
Right.
Quite often in an asymmetric game, you're going to feel like you're losing, and only at the end when you tally up the victory conditions are you going to be like, oh, wow, you mean even though I lost almost everything and I just had this one little ship left, I still won?
Right.
It's almost like it's, for certain types of people, it's not going to be a really fun time because of that.
Yeah, I was going to add to that. If Craig and I, and you hear us talking about cinema all the time. Well, for some people, that cinema is not very fun, and I'm not picking on them and saying that that's a failure, but they might not like being.
No, they want more of a sport type. Scenario where it's even, the equal teams both just trying to do one specific thing that they both know, and at any time in the game you really know who's winning or losing. Yeah, and and like you said, there's nothing wrong with that at all. That's just one particular type of gamer, one way that one particular type of gamer enjoys their game.
Now, we all agree that an asymmetric scenario is more challenging for a new player, especially if he's on the underpointed side.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it's not a good way to introduce someone to the game unless you're giving them the advantage side, maybe, so that they feel like they have a little bit of a...
Right, but even then, that might give them the wrong idea about the game.
Right, so it's not a good way. I don't think it's a good way to introduce people.
No, I agree. Not a good way.
And it's not a good format, I don't think, for competitive venues. People generally don't like them in a tournament, or even... Sometimes in a league it's okay, but it depends. But I think in tournaments in particular, you really want to stick with symmetric scenarios.
Yes, indeed.
Right? So on that note,
nice transition.
Rafe, what is a symmetric scenario, Rafe?
Well, I'd have to say, Bob, that they are when both sides are equal.
Right, equal. Now, I don't necessarily think a symmetric scenario has to have the same objective for both sides. Although I know, Craig, you hinted at that, but they can. I think for me, symmetric really talks about that my access to stuff for my list is equal in terms of points or whatever the rules are for the game to yours.
Yeah, I was actually thinking the points of the army, the terrain is equal on both sides, and the if there's anything so there's the same amount of rough terrain on both sides and so on and so forth.
Let's say no side has a clear advantage at the start. It seems like it's balanced at the beginning, right?
Yeah, but you have to be careful. I mean, even if you throw out two separate mission objectives, there's still going to be some times when it looks asymmetric.
Yeah, that's one of the challenges of scenario design is trying to if you're trying to build scenarios, in particular for competitive play, as we're going to talk about in a little bit, keeping it symmetric for all the different forces in a very large, robust game like Warhammer 40,000 or War Machine, where there's lots and lots of factions, that can be very challenging because they're all different and they have different types of movement and different kinds of advantages and disadvantages, and indirect fire and direct fire. All these things can really mess your scenario up if you don't try to consider everything.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
so,
like you could have it could look like the two objectives. My objective is, hold this position, and your objective is kill things in hand-to-hand.
Right.
But if you're like a hand-to-hand guy, and I'm a very small elite army, then it's not. Although it looks symmetrical, it's not going to. So you do have to be very careful.
Right. So the advantage of symmetrical, of course, is that it's an even fight. So everybody feels going into it, and I think this is a great venue for competitive. Obviously, most competitive scenarios are symmetrical, and for casual play too, because again, especially for newer players, it's something that everybody can understand. Most people don't dislike symmetric scenarios; they just like to stretch their wings sometimes and try asymmetric. But no one's really going to be like, "This scenario is too balanced, darn it!" They don't.
Well, I don't know. I think you do. You will get that a lot in historical groups.
I guess. Oh yeah, you're probably right. Yeah, the right venue.
Yep. Yep.
What are some of the disadvantages of symmetric scenarios?
Ooh, I could think of one.
Okay.
I think the disadvantage is making it symmetrical.
Harder,
so if you're making it up, you're setting an expectation on both players that it's going to be equal. Mm-hmm. So if all of a sudden, let's go back to the Dystopian Wars one, I was thinking, a way around that would be like Craig could say, all right, well, we're going to give you access to these special searchlights for your vessels to search the planes in the sky. Then you can hit them on 4, 5s, and 6s. And they're going to be in the middle of the board. And you think, well, that's equal. But then people may find a way to argue that and say, well, I don't know, because my ships are slower or, whatever. Or, there's a way that people can gripe more when they think it's going to be symmetrical and you're creating a scenario that they
that's
may
a good point. I didn't thought about that.
Is asymmetrical.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
I like that. It's a very good point. I think the challenge with symmetric scenarios is they're, as you said, they're not as realistic. And that gets you into trouble when you're trying to write scenarios for storytelling or campaigns.
Yes. Yeah.
Like I remember we used to do try really, really advanced campaigns where, you'd have these little flags moving around a metagame strategic map, right?
Yeah.
And then each flag would be assigned a point value. And as you fought, you'd lose points in that flag. So if you fought another army, now your flag is only 500 points and your opponent is 1,000 points, and it's not a fun game.
No.
So we went to, I think later we went to an abstracted rule where you're always balanced, but there's some abstractions in the thing. And so that works and makes it more fun, quote unquote, for people who don't like asymmetric scenarios, but it also breaks the story. You can tell that there's an abstraction going on here, and it's not as suddenly you're like, well, this doesn't really make sense, but we're just going to do it because it's more fun, kind of thing. So
or evil, even
right. So that's really the downside of symmetric, I think. But they're probably one of the most common scenarios you see that come packaged in the game, right?
Absolutely,
is the balance scenario.
Yeah, except for historical games. I mean, I think Flames of War probably has a bunch of asymmetric stuff.
Yeah, and actually, well, I think Malifaux might too, depending on how you look at it too. They have some weird stuff in there too. Now, in addition to the two major types of symmetric and asymmetric, you also have a couple other types that I want to touch on. One is table control. So the general theme of the scenario, these are sort of, I guess, scenario themes or general objectives that are sort of broad strokes. So the idea of table control is something like, and these are very broad, so you're trying to either grab the center of the table or hold a point on the table, or the classic 40K one, control your quadrants, right? Get everybody all over the board with your scoring units.
King of the Hill.
So anything where you're trying to control
as many Sturginium rigs as you can.
Exactly. So what do you guys like about table control missions, and what don't you like about table control missions? Or what are the things that could run that are good about them, and what could also cause trouble with them?
Well, I think a table control mission, when you're not talking about something that's just very concrete, like quadrants or hold the center, is that what seems to be a symmetric mission can very quickly spiral into an asymmetric mission depending on where all the things you're trying to defend are. Right. And again, what kind of force you have. So if you're in a league, for instance, and so you're stuck with one list and you took a bunch of fast stuff and all of a sudden you're in a defend this point, you're like, well, there goes all my points. It's not symmetrical because you've got a lot of point value in abilities you're not using. Likewise, if you've got the mission where you have to rush out and grab a bunch of points and control them, well, then your point value, the points that you paid for those abilities, are actually going to be worth more than you probably paid for them. So it's an interesting. It's probably one of the easiest, quote unquote, symmetrical type of missions to put together, but it's also, unless you stick with the very easy, like this point or quadrants or whatever, it can become asymmetrical relatively quickly.
Yeah. What do you think, Rafe?
Yeah, I was thinking what Craig said. So skipping beyond that, what I like about them is that they're easy on the brain. So you walk up and you're like, okay, I got it. I got to go take that hill. Okay, now how am I going to do that? So it's not a complicated, thought process of that. I guess there could be some with, because you always get into, well, what does taking control of the hill mean?
Yeah.
So I guess it's not always so simple, but pretty much you walk up, you're like, okay, I got it. Take control of that little house with my Flames of War. That's my mission. Got it.
Well, I was going to say that, Rafe. I think the biggest challenge to table control missions, I think they're one of the most common missions you see. They're a core mission to Flames of War, right? You deploy little objectives on the other side of the table and try to get them. That's a very common one. And there's a lot of scenarios in 40K and War Machine that are all about, controlling points. I think, though, one of the things that we learned over time playing is you have to be really, really clear about what can control a point and what can't.
Yeah.
This is the biggest thing. I mean, I think it literally took 40K 15 of its 25 years of existence to figure this out. I'm not picking on them. I'm just saying, literally, it was like there would be debates on the forums for hours about what they now call a scoring unit, right? It was, well, can the Rhino transporting the Marine hold one quadrant, and can the Marines hold another quadrant? And there's this whole min-maxing thing. And the same is true in dystopian wars. We've been very careful to try to say, models can control something, but tokens may not, because tokens are the tiny flyers.
Remember there was the whole argument of the Rhino was on the line?
Right.
Like, what did that mean? Could they take both quadrants?
Yes.
Or then it was the majority?
So make sure you're very clear, and this sounds so silly, but when you're writing scenarios, even for casual play, people will get in arguments over this because they won't think to define it at the beginning. So it'll say something like, if your model is within 6 inches of the hill at the end of the game and the enemy is not, you win. right? So you're thinking, well, you think within is as long as any portion of your models is measurable to this point within 6 inches. Someone else might think it's be completely within 6 inches, like entirely on the hill, for example, instead of just near it.
Right.
And so instead of having the players have to remember to quantify that before they start, it's best to include that clearly in your scenario.
Right.
So
that's true.
Those are the cautions I would think about these, is that they're very common scenarios, but they're also fall victim to very simple missed typos or missing instructions that can get them more complicated than they need to be.
But as a caveat emptor to the players, you guys should always be very clear, read the scenario up front, and then define your terms to the opponent before you start.
Make sure you agree before you start.
Yeah.
In writing, sign in blood.
Exactly.
What you're going to do. So that's probably the most common, but there's also a couple other ones. There's maximizing damage while minimizing loss, which is sort of a common military tactic. But so that basically means, I'll take this one, it just means that you're trying to kill a lot of the bad guys without taking in as many losses as you can.
Right.
And some common versions of this are like you get victory points for whatever's left on your side of the table, and you also get victory points whenever you killed on the other side of the table, right? What are some of the pros and cons about these missions?
Well, I think a con is that the game's gonna last longer.
Could be a turn limit or some kind of
generally
ending thing. Yep.
But I think a pro is that it makes it more realistic. You're not gonna throw your army forward and put yourself in an untenable situation,
right?
Just to get that one big unit,
right?
You've got to be more cagey with what you're doing,
right.
I think a con is it creates hiding type of, which I guess controls can too. Remember you take the scout, you go hide them behind the woods, and you can never get to them, kind of thing.
Yeah, I would say I'll go on record and agree with you, Rafe, and I would say that this mission I've seen this used to be a very common mission in a lot of the games, and I think it leads to what they call victory point sniping.
Yeah,
right? Where you get an early kill on something through luck or well played gaming, and then you hide the rest of your army and just play for time in a tournament or another kind of competitive event. And your opponent can never make up the loss, the deficit, and that's just not fun. It's just not a.
It's just not fun.
So
no, and what we're all about with scenarios is fun.
Right, scenarios should primarily be fun, even in a competitive environment. People should walk away saying that was a really interesting scenario. I really enjoyed it. It was really made me think differently. That's what you want to have in your scenario. So I'm not a big fan of that scenario, but it seems to be very common. People like it, so it's out there.
Yeah.
And my last one, although I think I forgot one, but I'll let you guys chime in afterwards, is something with a time limit and victory points. This is a very common style, right? This is almost the default scenario, if you will, that comes with most games, which is basically all games have a 6-turn time limit or 4-turn plus random game length, and whoever gets the most victory points at the end is the winner, right?
Yeah.
What do you guys think of those kinds of scenarios?
Again, I think those are the weakest, most vanilla, and usually the games last the longest.
Right.
Yeah, I don't like those as much.
Yeah, they're there, and people like them because they're simple and there's no really looking anything up. Most books have some variant on this. It's a good learning scenario, but I agree it's not fun once you know the game well. It becomes very repetitive.
Right.
This is your tournament power gamer's favorite scenario.
Now, did I forget any sort of global scenario objective type things before we move on?
I thought of one, but I don't know what name I would give it. What would you give we play these in Flames of War a lot, which is you have to exit some of your forces off one side of the board.
Oh, yeah. Breakthrough, I would say, or something like that.
Yeah, breakthrough. There we go. Yeah. Breakthrough.
That's a good
probably asymmetric.
Yeah.
Possibly, although I came up with a symmetric variant on that, where both sides have to get things off the other side of the table for dystopian wars. But you're right, Rafe. On a scenario we have to get off the table is sort of one. That's a good one. And the other one
from a storytelling point of view, though, that as a symmetrical one doesn't really make sense.
That goes back to my symmetrical thing where it's not really realistic sometimes. But it's actually a fun mission to play, but it makes no sense.
It's just like, let's get the hell out of here, but we have to get the hell out of here off the other guy's board. But they're trying to get the hell out of here off our board. So why can't we all just have a Christmas armistice?
Both trying to get messengers through the... Yeah, exactly. So the other one I was thinking of was... an assassinate type mission where your goal is to kill a particular model or capture a particular model of the opponent's side. And that's, of course, the classic one for that is every War Machine scenario. Pretty much, they don't have to, but most of them do have a deal where if you kill the Warcaster, you win, like chess. If you kill the king, you win.
Oh, I remembered another one too.
Yes.
What's the one in Halo that I always hated, Russ, where you grab the skull and you run around and then everybody...
Yeah, that's not really a board game one, though.
No, I know, but I'm getting there.
Yes.
It'd be the one where the dash and grab. You have to dash into the other side, grab the crate, and then run back to some
capture
point.
the flag.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yep.
So those are different kinds of scenarios that basic kind of scenarios you can try to build. I think what's interesting is to talk a little bit about the kind of considerations you might give to scenarios you're building for the different kinds of venues. Remember earlier we said you have to consider your venue or your players when you're designing a scenario. So I thought it would be kind of fun to go through sort of some of the common ones and kind of talk about the things we would look at if we were designing a scenario for that particular thing. So let's talk about storytelling, Craig. What kind of things would you look at in storytelling? What would you focus on for a scenario for more of a storytelling event than an actual competitive event?
Well, it's probably going to be asymmetrical, but you want to make it so that it's fun for both sides at the same time. So you don't want, like the blockade runner, for instance, is an old one from Babylon 5 days, and it told a story. Sure enough, there was one guy with way more points than the other guy, but he had to line them all up along his board edge. And the other guy just had to get one or two ships through that line. And it literally, those games took 20 minutes.
Yeah, right.
And it was about whether your list had fast enough ships that you could zip through and take enough and soak up some damage, but still get off the other side.
Right.
So in 20 minutes, you either blew up my 3 ships because I could never afford more than 3, or whoever played could only afford about 3, or 1 or 2 of mine got through and I won.
Right.
And so that really wasn't a lot of fun. It was more like, why don't we just roll a die, decide who won or lost, and then play another game for real.
And then go out to eat.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So storytelling, it still needs to be a fun mission, right?
It needs to be a fun mission where both types of where both people have an equal chance of victory. So if it's asymmetrical, then the guy who has fewer forces, his victory conditions need to be tailored to that difference.
Right.
I think
I'm going to agree with you, but I'm also going to disagree a little bit. So I think what's cool about storytelling is it's probably the most flexible format because you can do all kinds of crazy stuff as long as it feels fun. And I'm thinking here of our mega battles where at Daka Daka, where we would invite people to bring all kinds of crazy Warhammer 40,000 stuff from Forge World and Titans and everything. And we would just have these huge assault the fort scenarios or whatever. Yeah. But and we weren't really worried too much about.
I think I misunderstood your whole question.
That could be. But I was thinking more about so we're not trying to necessarily win, although that's important. But it's just supposed to be fun. But I think there is some important things you mentioned. It has to be whatever you bring has to work. So you have to design the scenarios that people bring things that are in their collection. They need to function in the scenario. You can't really restrict them for this because it's just not fun if you do that. And it's not important that they win because they know it's a story and it's going to have some wacky stuff. But they need to feel like they have a chance to win.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I totally misunderstood you.
Yeah. And then also,
I like
go ahead.
Storytelling missions are my favorite kind because this is where you can bring in, pools of chaos wind that suck your army and poop, they can teleport over here and
all kinds of crazy stuff that people would be like, yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah, crazy stuff. And by warning people ahead of time, like, hey, this is a story mission, they're not going to go, oh, that's ridiculous because, that would never happen.
Right.
And that's what I like the story ones the best.
And I think it's a great format for new players because people won't feel like it's competitive. They won't feel like people are there to min-maxing.
There's no pressure. There's no pressure because even if you lose, you had fun.
And they're the easiest to start cracking your teeth on when you're a scenario design maker because if somebody gripes, you go, chill out, man. I'm trying to make a fun story. Relax.
Right.
Like, even if it is grossly...
It depends on who's playing.
Right. Overpowered. And even to the point where it's not fun, you can always say, well, I was trying to tell a story. I'll tweak it a little bit for next time.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. So what about other venues? Like what about tournament considerations? What would you worry about when designing a scenario for... What would be the forefront of your mind, Craig, if you were designing scenarios for a tournament?
It's got to be even. Both sides have to have exactly the same chance to win, regardless of within the rules. Like if they brought an army that was legal by the rules, they should have an equal chance to win at that scenario as anybody else who brought an even or brought a legal army based on the rules.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think you have to really know the game system you're designing for well.
You do, yeah.
You have to, at a gut level, know all the different factions and know. So if you're designing, let's say you're a new guy to the game and you wanted to run a tournament because none of the other friends in your neighborhood really feel like doing it, and you've got to write some scenarios. What I would recommend doing is find someone who's like the best gamer in your group that always wins the games and run the scenarios by him or her,
right?
So that they have a chance to say, look, these are this is fine, except when race X plays this, when faction X tries this maneuver, they're going to own you because they fly and you don't have anything to do with flyers. I came up with the Dystopian War scenario, right? So things like that, You need someone with that knowledge, and that's the most. I think Craig nailed it. It has to be fair. First and foremost, fair and easy to understand. These have to be simple because there's usually time limits in tournaments, right?
Yeah.
So you can't have a 3-page. Never have a long. These are going to be short, easy to understand, extremely clear objectives, and extremely balanced scenarios.
Yep, I agree.
What about leagues? What makes a league different from a tournament for scenarios?
I would argue that there's very little. I mean, you might be able to get away with a little more creativity, but for the most part, at least locally, we always felt that a league was just like a big extended tournament for the most part.
I agree, but we did have some. We did insert some wackier missions.
Yeah, exactly. We put in. You can get away with some wacky missions because you're, as opposed to a tournament when you're only going to have 3 or 4 games. In a league, you're going to have 10 or 12 games.
Right.
So if one of them was that wacky, get your messenger across the other side mission or whatever, one or two of those wacky missions isn't going to throw you off. Whereas in a tournament where you're playing much fewer games, you've got a much smaller sample to decide who the quote unquote winner of the tournament is. So you've got to make them all even. Whereas in a league, you've got a little more variety.
For our leagues, we actually used to get the tournament missions from all the different tournaments around the country. And then, and then make a giant packet of all the missions. So you had a huge amount of variety because the nice with leagues is you get a lot more games than you do in a tournament usually.
Yeah, make a big
so that was kind of fun.
big binder.
Book. Yeah. But I think you're right, Craig. I think they still need to be simple and clear. You can have a little more fun with it. Sometimes people are a little less concerned in a league, depending on your players in your league, that kind of stuff. But similar to tournaments, but not quite as competitive.
Yeah, exactly.
What about now? We're working on the XCAM now for Dystopian Wars. So how does designing scenarios for a campaign like an XCAM or even a more more complex campaign, how does that differ from scenarios for tournaments or leagues?
Well, you're designing a whole bunch of scenarios all at once. So basically, in my head, what you want to do is you want to balance out asymmetric and symmetric so that people don't feel like, oh man, I've played 3 times in a row and all 3 times I've played this mission where I'm the underdog and I'm getting screwed.
Right.
So you want to have a variety of asymmetric and symmetric, but at the same time, all of them, especially for the XCAM system that Russ designed, they all want to tell a vague story so that you can fill in the blanks with your own guys.
Yeah.
Every mission starts with a little story, like, well, you were trying to do this, and now this has happened. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
And that the game unfolds as part of your force's story in the campaign.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the key is you can actually try to sneak story in there between the missions and make some kind of logical progression occur.
Right.
You see this sometimes too in like the Westeros game, right? Battle of Westeros.
Yes. Yeah.
The missions are independent. You could certainly pick one in the middle and play it, but there's also a definite story going on between the missions. And if you play it in order,
if you've read the books,
Castle Ravenloft, same thing. There's actually a story in those scenarios between them. And you actually feel like you've gone on this adventure if you play them all and remember what happened between them. But you don't have to. You can just pick one in the middle. But so you can play them as one-offs, but there's actually this little feeling. They're still fair and balanced, but there's this little feeling that there's some kind of story. So somewhere between, I think, the league tournament, but the pure storytelling mission. There's a little bit of a middle ground you can have with campaigns that I think is what appeals to people the most about that.
Yeah, I agree.
Any other wacky consideration venues before we get into
we do. I think a huge one that you forgot was what we talked about earlier, the convention scenario.
Oh yes.
Because I think if you had to pick one area where you see the most mistakes made, it's in groups and clubs and things that run scenarios at conventions that end up running for like 8 hours.
Right.
And there goes your entire day at the convention.
Oh,
yes.
I see what you're getting at.
I can't. We've done this now several times for the D6G. So listeners who have met us at TempleCon know that we've run 2 scenarios there now, or is it 3?
We've done 2 so far.
We did Uncharted Seas one year, and then we did Malifaux, right? And this year we're going to be doing Dystopian Wars.
Well, yeah, last year was Gutshot and
Gutshot and Malifaux, right? So technically it's 3 if you count them.
So we have done 3, yes.
So the thing with this is, and we've tried this stuff too with these giant demo games where everybody brings like a squad or something.
Because we've also worked Games Day,
right?
And at DACA we used to do things all the time. So
the way you get
we've
around
got a lot more under our belt,
right? And the way I think the biggest thing is downtime.
Yeah,
you failed if you look around the table and everybody sitting waiting for their turn is bored.
Yeah,
you have failed. No one's having fun. It could be the best models, the best terrain, and the best story and everything, but if it's slow, they failed. You got to figure out a way to keep the event moving
Right.
And
Let's limit emails right now by saying if you're one of those clubs that are like, I'm going to do an 8-hour, dystopian wars scenario that shows the 4 people playing everything about dystopian wars, from submerged models to obscured models to combat, and it's going to have everything and blah, blah, blah. So what you've done is you've designed a scenario where 4 people are going to be working for a very long time, getting a very in-depth experience.
Right.
And so, which is totally valid.
That's
If that's your goal, all of your time and effort is going to be focused on those 4 people.
Right.
So what we should say is when we do this, we're creating a ruckus environment.
Right.
Where the absolute maximum number of people can come and enjoy themselves and be engaged the entire time, and they're spending an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours with us.
Right. And the thing is, you want them to feel like they're playing a game and having and own their models, whatever models they're borrowing, or if they brought their own or whatever, and feel like they're engaged. But they have to be excited and having fun. And I think the trick is you want to make sure err on the side of it being too fast.
Yeah.
Right. When we design these things,
that's a good error.
We'll have things like the first player to destroy the fort in the middle or something, and we would be like, when we did Uncharted Seas or whatever it was, we were thinking,
the Uncharted Seas one went great.
Maybe we should make it this tough, and I think both Craig and I looked at each other and said, you know what, let's just make it half of that and see what happens.
Yeah.
Because you know what, if it ends in a half an hour and you had 3 hours, play again.
Right. It was literally that.
Right?
It was a battleship.
No big deal.
We put a battleship in the middle of the board, remember? And it was protected by islands.
Right.
So people had to deal with the battleship because it would shoot at them, but it was at half strength. And exactly.
And no one's going to complain if they got to play 3 times in 3 hours. But they are going to complain if they had to stand there and be bored for, because they're not doing anything. And that's not to say a good deep one can't be made that way. It's just that you want people constantly being active. Yeah. That's the key.
Right. And that's why if you come and see us, we will be yelling at you.
We will be yelling with you.
With big smiles on our faces.
We'll be yelling with you, not at you. Right.
No, we'll be yelling at you. If you sit there and go, we'll be going, go, go, go.
But that's a good point, Craig. I hadn't thought about that, but a demo / multiplayer madness wacky event is we should give credit where credit is due. I think the first time we saw anything like that was the Hunt for the Fallen event back at GW back in the day at Baltimore.
Games Day 99.
When we saw that, a light bulb went off, and ever since then we've always tried to try these wacky events like that.
Those of us that are running the event are just, we're there to gin up the crowd.
Yeah, imagine an event where everybody's playing one squad, but there's like 30 people. Yep. So everybody's running a 10-man squad. That's 300 Marines, but everybody's got one squad that's going. Yeah. And someone's yelling, go, go, move, move, move. Okay, movement's over. Shoot, shooting's over. You just keep going, and it's fun.
Or medic every time somebody dies.
Right, good times.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so to sum up, here are my, and at this part, I think you guys are going to disagree with some of my comments here. So this is the controversial part. I think so far we've been kind of all in happy little love fest. Here we go.
Yep.
Unicorns and rainbows.
So here are my guidelines, and you guys can jump in and add, subtract, or disagree, or whatever. Okay. So first, of course, keep it simple and short. We already talked about that.
Right. Yep.
Know your event style. Learn through all those.
Absolutely.
Now here's one: avoid nerfing a game mechanic.
Yeah.
Things like deep striking deviates extra, or no advanced deployment in this game, or no flying higher, etc. And the reason I don't like this is that it actually alters game balance.
I concur.
In theory, the game designers assign points to a model based on all its abilities. Yep. So if you disable its abilities in a particular scenario, now maybe you're trying to encourage people not to take that model. I get that. But what you're basically doing is the points are now wrong for that piece.
Right.
So I think you should avoid it. I'm not saying never. I'm just saying you should avoid it. What do you think of that, Craig?
I disagree for storytelling scenarios in particular, and to a lesser extent, campaign scenarios, because I think in campaign and storytelling scenarios, that's kind of how, like, deep striking deviates extra. That's going to be like, and there's wind, and you've got to deal with the wind so that your guys are going to be deviating more, and blah blah blah. And so if it affects everybody who's deep striking, and and deep striking maybe is not the best example because only some armies would have deep striking, or you're teleporting instead of jump packing or whatever. But let's say it's World War II and each side has some parachuters. Deep striking deviates extra would be kind of like, okay, so you're dealing with the wind, and you've got to deal with the wind, so you've got to take that into account with your placement as you're putting down your deep strikers or your parachuters. You've got to take into effect that they may go farther. To me, that's where some of the flavor comes in.
Yeah, I think what you'll end up having, though, is people who only own a deep striking army, for example, people deep striking, will say, well, I only could bring this, it's all I had, and now the points on my list are all off because all my guys,
Right. That's why I think in a campaign or a story, where they're going way ahead of time. They're going to know that that's a possibility to deal with.
Right.
That may be something that's like right now we're dealing with, like, oh, no flying high, but wait, I've got like,
right,
a whole bunch of my stuff, blah 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 blah. So that's why I think in a story or campaign scenario where that's going to be one game, you're not going to want to have a deep striking army. You're not going to be able to play every mission ideally with a deep striking army if that's all you've got in a campaign.
Right.
At first, I was going to agree with Russ because of the fun factor. Because certain people take, an only deep striking army, and that's their super secret thing that they stay up all night about, that they love and they're happy about. And then you come to the scenario, and the mission's like everybody gets to deep strike, and they're like, ruins my. I'm not even thinking the point values. They do gripe about that, but I was thinking for fun. But then after listening to Craig, I'm like, well, I don't know. I mean, that is true. To all of a sudden be like, oh, cool.
Yeah, I have to strongly disagree, though, because I think you really do alter the core point values of the game. I think if you want to do that, you can, but that's why I would.
But I'll agree with you, Russ. But I'll agree also that allowing, for instance, obscured movement in that mission that we're talking about actually elevates or inflates the point value of that model, because all of a sudden the goal of that model isn't to shoot anyway.
Right.
The goal of that model is simply to survive.
Right.
So the points that you're paying to make it not make people not able to shoot at you are infinitely better spent than they would have been if it's a normal scenario.
So what I'm saying is,
shoot.
so what I'm suggesting is that that's a problem with the scenario we need to fix. But I would recommend the fix is not to alter the point value of the model, but rather to do something like a comp restriction if you want to. Although I'm about to contradict myself on that too. But
that's what I was thinking.
But a comp restriction is better because you're not altering the point values of a model. That's all I'm saying. So that's my opinion. Now I'm just one guy.
Right.
So if you're
I'm only laughing because I was thinking that it sounds very much like a computer program. It's like, okay, rule number 1, don't mess with the rule, but if you have to, then mess with the comp rule.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
It's a bad thing.
I'm trying to say, because this is one of the challenges of designing a scenario, right? Because you want to get something really, really cool. You're invariably going to run into something some army has, or multiple armies have, that are going to mess up your clever plan.
Right.
And so the question is, how do you approach that? That's really.
And what messes it up is the fun factor, because the person came looking forward to doing whatever it is they can do differently than the other person.
Well, I'm just thinking, like, let's say someone decides that they're going to build, and in Firestorm Water, in Dystopian Wars, you could certainly do this, build an entire air force.
You can't, though.
Well,
with normal comp, you can't.
Right?
In fact, you can't with anything in the book, because there's no small flyers.
So there you go. So it's not a problem then. But I'm just saying,
you could take one unit of 2 frigates and everything else
aircraft
could
heavy. Yeah, you'd be restricted. So what'll end up happening is, just know this: people will complain that you're trying to make them buy new models. That's what'll happen. They know, seriously. Well, you got letters. I mean, I used to when I ran the store all the time. You're
but
trying
you
to make
ran
me buy
the
more.
store.
Well, I was trying to make them buy more models, so I'm not going to lie. So it's true.
Right.
So. Now, the other thing, my next point is going to contradict what I said earlier. Avoid restricting unit choices if you can, because, again, players with limited collections will feel like they don't own enough stuff to play with the big boys. Right?
Yeah.
So if,
but the key is that if you're going to have these missions that bring more color to this to the experience, you're going to have to do one or the other of those things, or just accept that there are going to be missions like the Blockade Runner mission. I mean, imagine the Blockade Runner mission with... Like, you're like, do my flyers that you can only hit on 6s zip by, and they're super fast, and so again, why don't we just roll a die to see who wins and go have dinner?
Well, that's what I'm saying. So you have to know your venue and your players, right? So if you think your players are going to accept that, then go for it. But be aware that some might not, and that may not be the best scenario concept then in that environment. That's all I'm saying.
All right. This is going to come across really snobby.
Yep.
I haven't been 18 and broke in a long time. But that I always hated hearing that when people are like, oh, don't do that because then I can't play with it because I only have 10 tactical Marines. To me, that always sounded like, I don't know what to tell you, buddy. I mean, it's like a whole bunch of us are going golfing, and then somebody says, well, I can't go because I only have a putter.
Well, but it's different between that's true. But let's say it's not that he doesn't have enough models to play at the size point you're saying. It's that he doesn't have the variety to play at the variety level you want.
Right.
There's a subtle difference there, right? Though
same thing. He doesn't have the variety of clubs. Like, this is a miniature hobby.
I gotta say, when I'm dealing with like campaigns, usually not the XCAM because it's sort of, but not really. I get very elitist, and I just go, you know what? I'm going to invite the people that I know are on the same page with me, who want the same things and have the same ideas, or I've got all the models, which is what I do with the low jog guys.
Right.
And we're just going to go from there, and everybody knows, oh, yeah, okay, so today we're playing this mission, so I'm going to have to take all my cavalry, or whatever. Because to me, that's the most fun, is when you've got these different missions that require these different ideas and these different ways of thinking things and fielding different things that you don't normally have, which is what we talked about earlier in this segment. And now we're saying you can't do that because it's not really fair, or it changes the point value. And to me, what you want is exactly what you said, Russ. You want to know your group. And to me, I want to know, I want to get my group together that knows, you know what, in this mission, that's not going to be a valid tactic. Or in this mission, you're not going to be able to use those 5 models, because that's what Craig, want out of that.
No, that's fine, and that's
what I mean?
and that's great. But I think that, and it comes back to what you're designing for, right? Because if you're designing for a tournament,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, you can't do that. But if you're designing for a club that you know all the players for, you certainly can. So that's, So I guess I'm saying is, if you follow all these guidelines, you won't piss anybody off. but
if you follow all these guidelines, you're going to be playing a symmetrical game where you set up on either side of the table.
Well, no, I didn't say it has to be symmetric.
And you'll piss yourself off because it'll be lame.
But it will be. Well, no, there are scenarios. There are scenarios that are a lot of fun that follow all these rules. Right. Most of the War Machine scenarios, for example, follow all these rules, and most of the 40K scenarios actually follow these rules. What I'm just suggesting is that that you can go. Just be aware if you're violating these rules. I think you just have to know what you're doing and know your audience. That's all.
Yeah.
So the other thing I think are avoid scenario rules that have an effect on some forces but not others, or more than others.
That's an excellent point and an excellent example.
So here's my example. So if you're playing a game like Uncharted Seas, a bad rule would be there are heavy winds in this scenario, and that it quarters all movement for people moving into the wind. Normally it's half. So you're saying, it's so heavy it's quarter. But the problem with that is that dwarves and dragon lords and other races don't use wind. So this only affects some races. A better rule would be we have a heavy seas special rule that halves all movement if you're heading into the wind due to the sea state, regardless of your movement type.
Yeah.
So that one affects everyone equally. So that, again, goes back to you have to kind of know the game pretty well to write scenarios so that you're not crippling one particular force and helping another one by doing so.
And what happens in your head is you get this really cool heavy winds idea.
Right.
And you get married to it in your head where you're like, oh, this is awesome. And then you're not even thinking about, because you own 2 fleets
that are wind-based. Like you own Empire and Orcs, and you're like, this is going to be awesome.
Yep. Right. Exactly. And then the next thing you know, you're playing against somebody who's got dwarves, and you're going half the speed of a dwarf, which is not a good thing.
Right.
Pretty much in any game, you don't want to go half the speed of a dwarf.
And that all ties into, you have to think through all the factions and how they might approach your scenario. So, is your scenario easy for fast factions? Is it harder for slow? Is it easier for tough? I know, Rafe, you used to play a lot of dwarves in Warhammer Fantasy. What did you think about scenarios that you had to get to the center of the table and things?
No, yeah, I hated them.
Right,
it was impossible.
So you definitely want to think about
impossible.
Right, how to approach armies that are slow or have a certain movement type, or if they have a really good movement type like they deep strike, are they going to break your scenario? Also?
Right. Yeah, well, I mean, and this is the same thing with, you don't want to have a special rule where you get bonus points for killing something in hand-to-hand, although that's awesome because, they're looting the bodies and they're getting the information. But what if you're playing an army, like an Imperial Guard army that has almost no hand-to-hand?
Right.
So what you want to do is try to mitigate that by maybe you get bonus points for killing anything, however you get it. I mean, it's going to vanilla-ize it a little bit, but there are armies in all games or forces in all games that are better at some things than other things.
Right. And my final suggestion for scenario design is you must have a time limit.
Yes.
Of some kind, some kind of trigger. And there's nothing worse than being trapped in a long game you are losing. Right. And I will even go far as to say this: it is much more fun to lose 2 games in 4 hours than 1 game in 4 hours.
Yeah, that's true. Okay?
Because the second game restarts and you have a chance of winning again, right?
Right.
So
risk.
Right. So what you want to make sure is when you're designing your scenario, have a trigger. So if someone's really dominating, hey, they win, the game ends, reset, try something else. So that way people can have fun playing again, as opposed to they get way ahead, you can't stop them, but you don't want to be a bad sport and quit. But you're stuck in this game for another 5 turns, and they're winning in turn 2. So,
like getting 50 points for using all your letters in Scrabble. What?
What?
Anyway.
So try to design those objectives such that if total dominance happens, the game ends, and always have a backup time limit in case the objective never occurs.
Right.
There should be some kind of thing that just triggers an end, causes a tie, or some other tiebreaker event so you can move on and try something else.
Yeah.
So
you play until you kill the other guy's admiral, or 4 turns is over.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right. Sounds like War Machine. All right. Any other comments about scenario design? Anybody?
Yes.
I think it's okay.
Rafe's got one.
Mine's just a tip. If you're like me, where you don't necessarily know the intricacies of all the ins and outs, you already gave one tip, which is link yourself up with somebody who does. But I think you just default to the storytelling scenario. So if you're a little bit nervous after what Russ said, like, oh God, that's just too much for me to know. No, don't worry about it. Just go ahead and pick a scenario. Say it's storytelling, and that'll give you the liberty to, have some things be unbalanced, and people will come up to it and not be upset.
Yeah. Oh, and that's a good point, Rafe. I think 2 things. Yes, storytelling is a great place to start, and also play test it with a close friend.
I was about to say that.
Don't forget to play test. I didn't even mention that, and that's a good point because you will find. I will guarantee, no matter how brilliantly you think you've written your scenario, you will find something the first time you play it that makes you change something.
Yes, or even something simple that you're like, oh, I can't believe I didn't put that in there.
Right.
And it also
what the deployment zone is.
Exactly. How far into play.
Yeah. And if you're playing with your friends, then it's obvious. First of all, you're playing with the same general metagame because you're all coming from the same area, and you basically know each other. So if you're halfway through and you're like, oh, that doesn't make any sense, you want to just make this 50% of the strength that it was supposed to be, and you're like, yep, absolutely. You just agree and you move on. Again, it's interesting. That's what we've been doing for the past 3 weeks. We've been practicing and play testing with these scenarios, and the escaped base one is an excellent example where we had this difficulty and there's this something that we have to address, and we discussed it, and literally in probably about 45 minutes of emails back and forth, the general consensus was do it through deployment or do it through force organization.
Right.
But when I threw it out there on a forum, it almost immediately devolved into, metagamers versus story gamers, and everything is story, and story doesn't justify anything. I mean, it was like, and thank you very much, because there's so many different metagames out there.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And so design and play for your own local group is what I would. Yeah. If you're starting out, that's what I would recommend.
I definitely recommend it. Good. Well, that's great. Good stuff. Yeah. Any other comments? Or are we done with our scenario mulling mechanics?
You have to play scenarios to get the most out of a miniature game, in my opinion.
Agreed. Rick, do you agree with that?
That is the end.
All right. We've been mulled.
This Did You Ever Notice is brought to you by Rick from Connolly, previously Joondalup, Australia. Rick of Connolly, Perth, Western Australia, is dedicating his shout-out to Luke of World's End Radio fame. Luke told him the other day, with tongue firmly planted in cheek, that he was sick of hearing from Rick from Connolly on the D6G. Well, bad luck, mate. Smiley face. That was actually how it was written. It was good to see you in Tactics, a game shop. I'm going to do all of the parenthetical notes in an Australian accent. Actually, that was the last one, so never mind. I should have thought of that sooner. Anyway, it was good to see you in Tactics, game shop, and have a chat with you and Dave about gaming. Best regards, Rick. Well, interestingly enough, I've been meaning to give a shout-out to Rick and JJ myself for a while now, but I kept forgetting with all the other stuff that's going on. It is honestly, between you and me my go-to podcast for all things GW. They continue doing an awesome job down there, despite JJ being out on a walkabout for some months. Anyway, thanks, guys, for all the great listening. I do enjoy the show, and I always feel like I'm just hanging out with friends when I listen. Did you ever notice that one host in particular of this show is always against predictions, and in fact is often hesitant to delve too much into navel-gazing of any kind? Have you ever wondered why? Well, I haven't. I've always just known that I don't like thinking in terms of predictions, and I never have. And although I'm very introverted at times, I don't often discuss these things with others. I'm quite conversant with what types of things I do and do not like, and how much I like them, and what things I'm likely to do, but why do I do them? I'm not so big in looking too deeply into that sort of thing. However, recently, the reason I don't enjoy predictions came to my attention. all this time, I didn't think about it, which is probably why I didn't figure it out. But you see, all my life, for as long as I can remember, I've been plagued with premonitions. I'll be pottering along in my totally happy life, and all of a sudden the certainty and the concrete knowledge that something very bad is about to happen descends upon me out of a clear blue sky, and I know, just know, that it's going to be really, really bad. This has happened all my life. I live knowing that sooner or later it will happen again, dreading the moment of certitude that will drown me in fear and dread, the possessor of dark knowledge of upcoming tragedy, cursed to know no one is going to give my fear due credence or my warnings. And the reason they won't give them credence is because I'm no good at premonitions. None of these things ever comes true. This realization only struck me a few months or so ago, believe it or not. You see, I get these impressions, not visions or anything, just feelings, and then I go through life for weeks just knowing that things are going to suddenly get really pear-shaped on me. And when they don't, rather than feel relief, I just get a feeling of, well, it's going to happen sooner or later, and then the feeling slowly drifts away without being resolved. Nothing bad happened. Life went on just like it always does, but I don't get any sense of relief out of it, mainly because I just kind of forgot the feeling of dread until it strikes again, and then I go through the whole thing again. Really, it's quite horrible, and like I said, only in the past few months have I realized that the paralyzing fear and certainty of impending doom is never accompanied by actual doom, impending or otherwise. Which, unfair as it may seem, doesn't mean I don't get these feelings anymore, just that I have to remind myself that I suck as a Sybil, and have to just bear with the anxiety until things settle down and I'm okay again. It does make things easier to deal with, honestly, when they strike, but it just seems odd to me, knowing now that this is what's going on, that I can't just say, damn, that silly false premonition thing again, time to have a lie down, but for some reason, that doesn't seem to be an option. And so there you have the reason for my dire prediction number 1 in this show. That's an example of the kind of thing I was a slave to most of my life. I really and truly believe something terrible is going to happen in 2011. And I likewise believe now that it won't happen because my track record for premonitions is like, for thousands, really. So I wouldn't let my first prediction upset anybody. Think of me as the opposite of Cassandra, who truly saw the future but was cursed by the gods so that nobody believed her. Well, I don't truly see the future, but I'm cursed by my own brain to believe my own predictions until I don't anymore, which is kind of where I am now. And another thing that I was wrong about, by the way, is my interim review of Warrior's Apprentice, the first Miles Vorkosigan book. I was wrong. I didn't hate the book. I didn't end up hating the book, or Ms. Bujold for what she was doing to Miles. It's actually the mark of a really good book when you think about it, when you feel genuine emotion for the characters. I'm still a little miffed that poor Miles hasn't been able to get a break, seemingly, but by the end of the book, I was loving it again and ran out to get the next book, which I'm currently listening to the point where I make up errands I have to run just so I can listen some more, and I find myself sitting in my car after I arrive wherever I'm going so I can listen a little bit extra. So, well done after all. Loving the books, and I'm sorry about my little tirade. And before I go, I was struck with some inspiration recently. A secret friend of the show lost a very lucrative, high-profile gig for a few minor, unkind things, he said, and I thought it would be nice to throw him a bone and let him jump in here with some observations every now and then. He's got his own podcast and another persona, but I thought he might like to jump in here, and he was very gracious indeed. So, without further ado, let me introduce you to, for the first time perhaps, and maybe the last time, Smirky Malaise. Well, thank you, Craig. Smirky Malaise, is it? Well, I guess you thought you were being clever. Good show. I've been called worse things, I guess. Anything for a paycheck, right? So, Craig asked me to come on and make some quick comments on his little computer radio program about gaming, is it? Gaming. It's a strange word. Sounds like it should have something to do with lamb or venison, which makes sense, seeing as how much you lot eat, right? Oh, I know. Too soon, right? Too near the mark? Well, too bad. So, gamers. Strange lot, really, with your black t-shirts and your weight of personality. I used to be heavy. I did. And there's no excuse for it, really. No excuse. All you need is a few $1 million and nowhere special you need to be for a few months, and there you go. The weight just melts off, really. So, the D6 generation. That's witty, that is. Like Generation X, but Oh, you love polyhedrons so much. You're the die-rolling generation. I get it. Works on so many levels. And the hosts. What a great bunch of guys. Have you met Russ? Have you? Words can't do his head justice, really. It's at least 4 sizes larger than his neck should be expected to hold up. It's a miracle he's not walking around all day bobbing his head up and down trying to get a glimpse of where he's going. But seriously, it's got to be that big to fit all his brains inside, doesn't it? I mean, have you ever listened to these guys talk about what they do? Sound quality? Ask Russ. Website? Ask Russ. Honestly, arse wiping? Ask Russ, I guess. And then there's Rafe. Fear spelled backwards? That's how you choose to introduce yourself, is it? Fear spelled backwards? But that's not good enough, is it? No, fear spelled backwards isn't good enough. It's Hollywood next. Or it's HD. Explain that transition for me. Or it's Jimmy Django, or not, but then it'd be hard to tag a name to someone who spent all that time earning a degree in law, secretly aspiring to being a farmer. A medieval farmer. Somewhere in there's a life lesson for the younger listeners, but I'm not being paid enough to figure it out. And then there's Craig. What a nice name, Craig. Welsh, isn't it? Are you Welsh, then? No? And your son's name's Reese. Welsh again. I don't suppose your wife is Welsh? No. So then a new family tradition, then, is it? Name the men after a nationality you don't share in any way, shape, or form? Why not name the boy Shadrach or Hakamura? And what's with all the doom and gloom? Something bad is going to happen in 2011. I feel bad things are going to happen all the time. Honestly, are you a character in an M. Night Shyamalan movie? One of the bad ones? And by that I mean not the good one. Shut up already. It's a gaming podcast. Radio show on the computer. It should be fun. Leave the doom and gloom in your head where they belong, making you a suffering artist. The show will be better for it. And the rest of us won't have to hear it. Win-win, right? All right, that's about all I've been paid for tonight. So, thanks for listening, I guess, and good night.
Achievement unlocked. You've made it to the end of another D6 Generation episode, the podcast whose humor has universally been acclaimed as not too horrible. Please let us know what you thought of the show by either emailing us at info@the d6generation.com or by posting in our official D6G episode thread at the top of the DACA discussions forum on DACA.com. If for some inexplicable reason you actually enjoyed this show, you can help others find out about it by leaving positive reviews on iTunes. See you in 2 weeks. Thanks for listening, and happy gaming.
The theme from Total Fangirl comes from the soundtrack of The Last Night on Earth, the zombie game, courtesy of Flying Frog Productions, and is a composition of Mary Beth Magalanes.
I need some sound levels from you boys there.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying some coffee, and I'm having some Hershey Kisses. And
nice.
By the time we're ready to record, I will be done eating them.
Okay. And Mr. Craig, I need some audio.
You want some audio from me?
Yeah.
You can't handle audio from me.
Yeah.
Deep down inside, where you don't talk about at parties, you're glad I have audio.
There it is. You thought I lost that sound effect, but it's still here, baby.